The year is 2021, and the bustling metropolis of Seoul stretches out beneath a clear sky. As the ordinary rhythm of school life continues, though a voice from off-panel questions, "What do?" before another, more urgent voice warns, "Hurry up, or we'll be late for class." Woojin. Soo-hyuk lets out a frustrated sigh, clearly annoyed by the impending tardiness. As the two students walk, Woojin remains engrossed in his phone, while Soo-hyuk walks beside him, still looking displeased. Their path is suddenly blocked by another student with light brown hair, who smirks and declares, "Kukuk." Soo-hyuk is not turned down cold. The student's smirk widens as he continues, "You fucker." Meanwhile, Woojin lets out a quiet sigh, his hands clutching a small red notebook, lost in thought. He barely registers the sudden impact, a fist connecting sharply with his face, sending a spray of blood into the air. Before he can even react, a swift kick lands hard against his chest, driving the air from his lungs. Dazed, he looks up, trying to comprehend the assault. The force of the blows sends him stumbling back, collapsing against the cold brick wall, clutching his stomach. A pained exhale escapes him as he closes his eyes, trying to regain his composure. Standing over him, Soo-hyuk's voice drips with contempt, declaring that he doesn't care about anyone's father, only money, and that his own life is hard enough without Woojin. Woojin struggles to form a word, looking up at his attacker. As another figure steps forward, raising a bat menacingly, Soo-hyuk continues his tirade, demanding to know if Woojin saw them by the accessories. The bat swings down with brutal force, striking Woojin as he cries out in pain, surrounded by the silent onlookers. His hand lies splayed on the rough pavement, blood staining the concrete around him. A cruel smirk spreads across Soo-hyuk's face as he stares down at the fallen student. "Jaemin, does it still hurt like hell, right?" he taunts, his voice dripping with malice. "That's why you should have just kept your mouth shut and just don't meddle with others' business." Woojin's eyes, though obscured by his glasses, burn with an unyielding defiance, causing his tormentor's smirk to twist into a snarl. "Cook this bastard until..." He trails off, a chilling smile returning. "Okay, let's see how long you can stay." The bully with the bat steps forward, raising his weapon high over the prone student. And the brutal assault continues, a flurry of blows raining down upon him. Soo-hyuk watches, a flicker of surprise crossing his features. What's this?" Woojin's voice, firm and resolute, cuts through the air, declaring, "That's enough. No more of it." Soo-hyuk, taken aback by the unexpected defiance, can only utter a bewildered, "What the hell?" Suddenly, a blinding purple light erupts, accompanied by a deafening crash. The energy pulsing from his hand in a vibrant, ethereal glow. Disoriented, Soo-hyuk and the other student exchange confused glances, wondering about the source of the sudden, brilliant flash. As the light fades, Woojin lies motionless on the ground, while Soo-hyuk and his accomplice stare down at him. Soo-hyuk's mind races, trying to comprehend the strange phenomenon, realizing the energy had narrowly missed him. Woojin remains still, his body slumped against the rough pavement. As Soo-hyuk, regaining his composure, orders him to stay down. Soo-hyuk stares at the figure before him, a look of utter disbelief on his face, muttering that he hasn't seen an upperclassman with such a striking appearance in over 30 years. His eyes wide with shock, he can only exclaim, "What the hell?" As the bully with the bat echoes his confusion, Soo-hyuk notes with surprise that even the uniform Woojin wears is identical to theirs. Woojin, however, is far from surprised, his expression hardening as he demands to know how these damn babies dare call their heavenly upperclassman a mere hobby. The other bullies exchange confused glances, wondering if he truly is an upperclassman, and what they should do about the situation. A smirk plays on Soo-hyuk's lips, while Woojin, with a confident air, suggests they simply pretend to be good friends, just like last time, though internally, he dismisses the idea of caring about an upperclassman. Soo-hyuk, however, has had enough, grabbing Woojin by the collar and ordering him to stop interfering, demanding to know why a fucking hobo is butting into their business. He continues to berate Woojin, telling him to stop acting like a big shot, and warns him that he's starting to get on his nerves. He finds himself grabbed by the collar, Soo-hyuk's face inches from his own, demanding to know what he's talking about, questioning if he thinks he can get away with this just because he's a bit stronger. A palpable tension fills the air as Woojin's expression darkens, his eyes narrowing. In a flash, he reverses the hold, grabbing Soo-hyuk by the collar and lifting him effortlessly, reminding the underclassman that he'll be late for his academy if he keeps lagging him on. With a decisive motion, Woojin forces Soo-hyuk's hand away from his own shirt. Soo-hyuk recoils, his face a mask of shock and indignation, accusing Woojin of asking for a beating. But Woojin merely stands tall, a powerful, distorting aura emanating from him, silencing the other boy with sheer presence. His grip on Soo-hyuk's collar tightens. As he holds him suspended, a stern lecture beginning about how he's doing it again, and how he told him to be friends with his upperclassmen. Woojin's eyes glow faintly as he questions why Soo-hyuk is so bad at it that he can't even be friends with someone. After his display of power, Woojin's hand clenches tightly, a sharp, internal sensation coursing through him. The sensation intensifies, his fingers curling even tighter. He looks up, a grimace of discomfort or effort twisting his features, the lingering effects of his power still unsettling him. A sharp, Almost involuntary sound escapes his lips, a quiet just of surprise or pain. His hand clenches once more, a distinct thwack echoing the internal struggle. Meanwhile, Soo-hyuk and the bully remain frozen in disbelief, their faces etched with shock at Woojin's continued strange behavior. Woojin's hand then points upwards, a gesture of confusion or perhaps an attempt to understand the lingering energy. He stares intently at his own hand, lost in thought, while the bully, finally finding his voice, demands to know what Woojin is doing. Ignoring the others, Woojin's mind races, questioning why his body isn't normalizing after such an intense surge of power. He questions the pervasive anxiety of their lunchtime, only to find himself on the ground, a victim of another's aggression, as a narration observes a lovely fucker trying to stand up. The situation escalates when the bully with the bat joins in, delivering a brutal blow to the downed figure while two others hold him in place, all under Soo-hyuk's watchful eye. Woojin observes the scene, his expression unreadable. Before a quiet sigh escapes him, a declaration that some are simply beyond saving. Then, with a sudden, explosive force, the aggressor is struck. The impact sending him hurtling backward in a blur of motion, leaving Soo-hyuk to look on in stunned disbelief. Woojin stands firm, his presence dominating the space, as Soo-hyuk and the now bald bully stare in shock. The bully lies defeated on the ground, his weapon discarded beside him. A moment of quiet hangs over the bustling school grounds, the distant chatter of students fading into an almost imperceptible hum. Then, with a swift, almost imperceptible motion, looking down at his defeated opponent, a nervous gulp escapes Kong Woojin, as he stands over three figures sprawled on the pavement, one letting out a pained groan. Soo-hyuk, witnessing the scene, can only exclaim his awe. Woojin looks down at the defeated, casually remarking that they were handled with just one punch. Then questions the entire situation, wondering who these people even are. Soo-hyuk approaches, offering a sincere thank you. He brushes it off, claiming it was nothing, but Soo-hyuk, still reeling from the display of power, tries to ask about what happened earlier, only for Woojin to assure him he's fine, though his head feels strange. Soo-hyuk stares, utterly perplexed, wondering what day it even is. Soo-hyuk, still reeling from the previous encounter, asks about the current date. Woojin responds with December 10th, 2021, but a flicker of confusion crosses his face as he questions the year. He murmurs to himself, calculating that if he was summoned in 2010 and 20 years have passed, it should logically be around 2030, not 2021. Soo-hyuk, witnessing the strange exchange, can only stare in bewildered confusion at his friend's odd behavior. Woojin, seemingly dismissing his own internal conflict, simply states he's leaving, while Soo-hyuk mutters a hopeful wish that he won't get beaten up again. As Woojin walks away, Soo-hyuk's mind races, wondering who this person truly is. Suddenly, Woojin raises a hand, and Soo-hyuk watches, utterly perplexed by his next move. With a flash of light and glowing particles, Woojin activates a teleportation ability, the word teleport, echoing around him. In a final burst of light, he vanishes completely. He stares in disbelief as the familiar figure of Woojin approaches, his mind reeling from the sudden reappearance, wondering why he has returned. A desperate plea escapes him, urging Woojin to stay away, but the other boy simply asks for his name, as if they've never met. Completely taken aback, he can only manage a stunned yes, in response to the absurd question. Woojin then grabs his face, demanding to know if he possesses more money. Woojin explains his predicament, lamenting that he returned too early and cannot use his magic. He thinks to himself that he's gotten caught up with a crazy person, while a narration box clarifies Woojin's situation. He was summoned from another world, and his current inability to use magic is tied to returning too early, with teleportation being the only remaining ability. Woojin continues, explaining that he would end up in front of his house no matter how he cast it, before repeating his question about how much money he needs. The scene abruptly shifts, the sky stretching wide above a new, unfamiliar location. A simple gate stands before them, with a sign indicating 2001. Having received a mere 5,001 from Woojin, Soo-hyuk muses aloud that he should definitely pay him back one day. Meanwhile, Woojin stares out a window, lost in thought. Realizing that 5 years have passed in Earth's time, and it's a relief that so much time has gone by. He calculates his current age, then my age is 24, right? His thoughts drift to his family, hoping his mother and father are both still alive. Stepping out onto a quiet street, Woojin suddenly stops, a look of surprise crossing his face as he utters, huh. Ahead, a military blockade seals off the street, prompting him to wonder, military here? Was there an accident? He scratches his head, a deep sense of confusion washing over him, wondering what could possibly be happening. As he walks past, two girls chat idly, their conversation a stark contrast to the military presence he observes guarding the subway entrance. He catches snippets of their talk, a growing unease settling in as he tries to make sense of the situation. One of them casually mentions the military guarding a dungeon entrance, a phrase that stops him cold, leaving him utterly bewildered by what he's just heard. Annoyed by the inexplicable changes, Kong Woojin mutters to himself that he should just take the bus. And soon enough, one arrives. But his journey only leads him to another mystery, a massive, imposing gate. Woojin found himself before a familiar subway entrance, now strangely barred. A wave of confusion washing over him as he wondered why the Guanshan station was locked. He remained at the barrier, his path forward obstructed. Taking a moment to collect his thoughts, he pondered the situation. It seemed the entire subway system was affected. As he realized they had closed the station entirely, a sigh of frustration escaping him as he felt he had come all this way for nothing. But then, a sudden, glowing notice materialized before his eyes, revealing he had just entered the dungeon at Guanshan Station's first entrance, leaving him utterly stunned. He's confronted by a stark, blue system notification, confirming his entry into the Guanshan Station dungeon, leaving him to wonder what exactly this means. A wry smile plays on his lips as he realizes the dungeon mentioned earlier was not a metaphor, but a literal, dangerous reality. The system then updates, revealing that this particular dungeon is already being conquered by someone else. Wu Jin clutches his head, the weight of the situation pressing down on him as he grapples with the idea of monsters in a subway station, wondering how much the world has changed in the 5 years he was gone. Deciding to retreat for now, he reaches out, intending to leave. But another system message flashes, informing him he lacks a return stone, effectively trapping him within the dungeon. He understands then that his only way out is to find one. Alone in the eerie silence of the station, he surveys his surroundings. A shiver runs down his spine, a premonition of danger, as if monsters are about to emerge from the shadows. As he stood alone in the dungeon's depths, a heavy thud echoed, signaling an unseen presence. His senses sharpened, Wu Jin realized something was definitely there. Before he could react, a monstrous red wolf-like creature lunged from the shadows, its fangs bared. With a burst of agility, he narrowly dodged the creature's initial, crushing attack. The monster's glowing red eyes fixed on him, its next lunge forcing him to instinctively raise a hand in defense. He continued to evade, the creature's relentless assaults pushing him to his limits. A chilling snarl escaped the monster, its raw power radiating through the air. Despite his efforts, the creature's claw finally connected, sending a jolt of pain through him. He crumpled to the ground, the red monster looming over him, victorious. He stares up, a sudden realization dawning on him. As the monstrous red wolf-like creature looms over him, its eyes glowing with predatory intent, a thought flashes through his mind. Drab it. Still on the ground, he questions how a monster that is supposed to be an Alphan could possibly be here. His face contorts with a mix of fear and confusion. But he quickly regains his composure, dodging a swift attack from the beast. He scrambles backward, putting distance between himself and the lunging creature. A determined glint in his eyes as he resolves to find a way to defeat it. The monster snarls, its fangs bared, ready to continue its relentless assault. He lunges forward, a powerful strike connecting squarely with the red monster, sending a spray of crimson particles into the air. Despite the impact, Wu Jin grins, acknowledging that even if his magic materialization isn't working, a mere D-rank creature is still nothing to him. A monstrous roar echoes through the desolate space as a massive, defeated creature lies prone, its form fading into the ground. Yet, the battle is far from over, as a pack of smaller, crimson-furred beasts snarls and shrieks, their glowing eyes fixed on the lone figure standing amidst the carnage. The young man, clad in dark combat gear, watches them approach, a grim determination settling on his face as he acknowledges, yeah, they're coming out one by one. After dispatching another one of the red beasts, the necromancer feels a surge of energy, a system message flashing level up across his vision, yet he can't help but wonder, how many of them are left? I'm running out of stamina. A new thought then crosses his mind, a faint voice suggesting it would be nice if there were more to absorb, prompting a surprised reaction from him. Huh? Really? As a detailed skill tree window materializes before him, revealing the absorbed soul skill, he realizes with relief, my power didn't disappear. A system message confirms his current status, displaying level 1 and a grade, undetermined. Standing over the defeated monsters, he watches as the system announces a level up, a clear sign of his growing power. Considering the monstrous creatures now infesting Soul Station, he muses that his current situation isn't entirely bad. His gaze falls upon his class information, a quiet satisfaction settling over him as he confirms, my class is still Necromancer. Perfect. The system screen reveals more details, confirming that his transferred skill, Absorb Soul, and the achievement shop are still active, along with a combination box for crafting, though his inventory is currently full. He navigates to the achievement shop, observing its unfamiliar interface, noting that this feature didn't exist in his previous life and wondering if it's similar to online shopping, anticipating future enjoyment. Kneeling, he considers his immediate needs, prioritizing skills like Search for finding a return gate and Detect and Summon for battling monsters. Realizing he lacks the achievement points for new skills, he decides to adjust his stats instead. As he finalizes his choices, the system confirms a significant increase across all his core stats, including Strength, Dexterity, Vitality, Intelligence, Wisdom, Recovery, Domination, and Luck, along with a boost to his magic power. With his stats adjusted, Wu Jin observes his unallocated points, a thoughtful hum escaping him. He tests his enhanced physical capabilities, a swift, powerful swing of his arm cutting through the air. As if in response to his burgeoning strength, a long, bone-like object shimmers into existence. A confident, almost predatory smile spreads across his face, his eyes gleaming with resolve. His goal is clear, to find the return gate and escape the dungeon. But first, he acknowledges his 5 current achievement points and prepares to move. A system notification appears, informing him he needs to kill 5 more monsters to acquire this search skill, just as a snarling, red wolf-like creature with glowing eyes emerges from the shadows. The beast lets out a guttural growl, its sharp teeth bared in a menacing display. It charges forward, a blur of red fur and glowing eyes, as the thought of finding the return gate and escaping the dungeon echoes in his mind. Standing firm in the dungeon's depths, Wu Jin faces the creature, which cackles, "Kikiki, you're coming to die on your own." A resounding impact echoes through the cavern. The sound of battle still lingering in the air as a monstrous claw flashes past. Then, a familiar system notification appears before Wu Jin, confirming his advancement to level 3. Surveying the numerous defeated red monsters scattered around him, he sighs, lamenting the seemingly endless hordes. His attention shifts to a holographic system window, where he initiates a search for a return stone. However, after a thorough scan of the area, the system confirms no such item is nearby. Spotting a sign for an exit, he realizes it's the only path left. He peers down a dark, foreboding staircase, questioning if he truly has to descend into its depths. At the bottom, a pack of red wolf-like monsters awaits, making it clear that fighting them all at once would be perilous. Holding a large sword, Wu Jin considers his options, deciding this particular weapon isn't quite his style. Instead, he accesses the achievement shop, where a skeleton soldier summoned skill book catches his eye, requiring a monster's corpse as sacrifice, along with mana and domination power. With a clear goal in mind, he allocates his 10 stat points, boosting his mana power by 9 and domination by 1. Reaching out towards the scattered corpses of red wolf-like monsters, he prepares the sacrifice. As purple energy swirls around the remains, Wu Jin commands a skeleton to rise, its bony hand clawing its way from the ground. Now accompanied by his newly summoned skeletal ally, sword in hand, he declares his intention to head for a specific hunting ground. Deep within the cavern, a horde of red wolf-like monsters, their eyes glowing with predatory intent, charges forward with a thunderous rumble. Wu Jin and his skeleton meet the onslaught head-on, their blades flashing as they carve through the charging beasts. One of the red wolves snarls, its glowing eyes fixed on its prey, lunging with savage intent. As the red wolf-like monsters charged, a skeleton soldier braced itself, its bony arm raised defensively against the onslaught. The first drabbit lunged, claws extended, striking the summoned ally, but the skeleton soldiers at their current level were no match for the sheer numbers. Observing the mana drain from the defensive action, Wu Jin commanded his summon to block with its body, realizing the inefficiency of this strategy. With a surge of resolve, he lunged forward, delivering a powerful kick that halted a drabbit's charge. Then, extending his hand, he began to summon more skeleton soldiers, utilizing the fallen drabbit's corpses to bolster his ranks. With a purple glow and shimmering particles, a new line of skeletal warriors materialized, swords at the ready. The drabbits continued their assault, but were met by an impenetrable wall of bone and steel. Watching his strategy unfold, Wu Jin's lips curled into a satisfied, almost maniacal grin. With a final, decisive command, he unleashed his expanded army, urging them to die as they overwhelmed the remaining monsters. He continues to issue commands, urging his summoned skeletons to attack and block. The battle's ferocity evident in a bloodied weapon lying discarded amidst the carnage. Standing over the defeated red drabbits, Wu Jin surveys the scene, ready to finally leave. Instructing his skeletal soldiers to search for the return stone, a crucial step before departure. With his task complete, the young man walks away from the glowing red portal, leaving the dungeon behind. The bright blue sky outside offering a stark contrast to the dark depths he just escaped. Emerging from the building, Wu Jin lets out a sigh of relief, admitting to himself how close he felt to losing control. Meanwhile, elsewhere, a man in a dark suit stares in disbelief at a heavily chained gate, his eyes widening in shock as he questions how such a thing could exist within. He clutches his phone, a wave of panic washing over him as he realizes the dire situation he's in, with no time left to call for rescue. His device now shattered, he stares wide-eyed at the broken screen, a sudden, disbelieving "huh" escaping his lips. A surge of blue energy erupts around him, as he lets out a desperate, drawn-out cry. Now standing in an unfamiliar underground passage, he looks around with a questioning "HM," unaware of the figure observing him from behind. The mysterious man steps forward, his voice cutting through the silence, asking if he isn't awakened. Meanwhile, the city outside continues its bustling existence, oblivious to the strange occurrences beneath its streets. In a different location, a man with glasses observes a pot of simmering meat, muttering about the impressive haul and the surprising mana from what were supposedly low-rank monsters. He then turns to a suited figure, questioning his sanity for rounding up chimeras, and musing that he'd be an awakened himself if he did such things for money, before adding that many people are looking for him, implying a lucrative opportunity. The suited man's voice cuts in sharply, demanding to know how much the blonde man earned from his actions. A sudden, unsettling presence makes Wu Jin's blood run cold, his eyes widening in alarm. He instinctively turns to flee, a desperate question forming on his lips, as if trying to outrun the very air around him. But a knowing smile, full of chilling confidence, greets his panic. It belongs to Li Yonhee, the ranking guild vice-captain, who calmly declares that she has come specifically for him. He challenges her, demanding to know if she intends to kill him, while she, in turn, questions if he isn't awakened, her gaze unwavering. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Wu Jin curses his luck for being caught by her, attempting to make another break for it, but Yonhee's voice follows him, insisting he come quietly if he knows her. With a flash of blue energy, Yonhee makes her intentions clear, stating that now that she has found him, she cannot allow him to escape. The vibrant blue aura surges forward, a wave of raw power. Wu Jin cries out in frustration as the attack connects, sending him tumbling through the air, his escape abruptly halted. Still held captive, his eyes glowed with a desperate energy as Li Yonhee coldly declared his end. Blue energy constructs then erupted, piercing him from all sides, the residual magic shimmering around her. He gasped, collapsing under the assault, a silent thought echoing that he should have simply obeyed. A soft chime broke the tense silence as she reached for his backpack. Her attention drawn to an urgent message on her phone, summoning her to the ranking guild HQ for a dungeon break. Left alone and disoriented, Kang Wu Jin could only wonder, what in the world is the ranking guild? The familiar urban landscape of Seoul now feels alien. A bus stop, standing as a silent witness to a world irrevocably changed. A lone foot, clad in a worn boot, pauses on the pavement, as if hesitant to step further into this new reality. Kang Wu Jin stands there, a stranger in his own home, the weight of an unknown past pressing down on him. His mind races, grappling with the impossible truth. This world, now plagued by dungeons and monsters, is no longer the one he knew. He recalls tales of a place called Planet Alphen, wondering if this transformation is similar, and a desperate question echoes in his thoughts. Just what happened over the last 5 years? Amidst the chaos of his returning memories, a singular, agonizing fear surfaces. Nothing happened to his family, right? His foot shifts, a small, almost imperceptible movement, a silent testament to the turmoil within. Looking up at the sky, his expression is a mix of confusion and dawning resolve, the weight of a new, dangerous world settling upon his shoulders. He stares at the unfamiliar building, a growing sense of dread washing over him. This isn't right. This isn't his home. His old house, the one he remembered so clearly, is simply gone. He circles the block, searching for any sign of familiarity, but finds nothing. Instead of his home, a massive structure now stands, emblazoned with the name Hammer Guild, a stark reminder of how much the world has changed. A wave of anxiety washes over him as he wonders if his family had been forced to move away from this place. With a heavy sigh, he accepts the reality that it's too late to search for them today, and turns to leave. As he walks, a more immediate, primal need surfaces, the realization that he hasn't eaten anything all day. The sky stretches above him, a silent witness to his return to a changed world. He finds himself outside a convenience store, its familiar logo a small comfort in a world turned upside down. Inside, he quickly prepares a simple meal, the steam rising from the instant noodles a welcome sight. He slurps them down, savoring every bite, before washing it all down with a refreshing drink. A deep sigh of satisfaction escapes him, finally feeling a semblance of normalcy as he declares this moment a true return to earth. With his hunger sated, he finds a quiet spot to rest, lying back and gazing upwards. His body aches from the day's events, a dull thumping echoing through his arm as he tries to relax. Later, still pondering his predicament, he laments that he cannot even visit a PC cafe, let alone afford a simple rice ball, and wonders if he'll be forced to sleep in a subway station, knowing full well they are now havens for monsters. He leans against the counter in the convenience store, a weary sigh escaping him, the weight of his new reality pressing down. A sigh of relief escapes him. As he walks past a convenience store, the thought of his empty wallet weighing heavily on his mind. He laments his lack of funds, realizing a cheap dinner will have to suffice. Suddenly, a voice startles him, causing him to turn with a bewildered expression, wondering who this person could be. A soft chime echoes. As he answers his phone, a look of surprise crossing his face while the other young man watches him. Moments later, in a cafe, he stands abruptly, demanding to know what the other man is doing there. He grabs the young man by the collar, accusing him of being the person he was trying to call, lamenting his misfortune, while the other tries to explain the misunderstanding. Still holding him, he then asks about his parents, prompting a confused response from the young man, who wonders why such a personal question is being asked. The young man quietly reveals that his parents have passed away, leaving him to awkwardly offer his condolences, realizing the gravity of his mistake. His thoughts lingered on the young man's situation, wondering if he truly lived alone. The young man, however, simply offered a wide grin. He then clarified that there was indeed a list of things to do at Wu Jin's house, but quickly added that it wouldn't be for free. Wu Jin stared at the coins in his palm, a sudden realization hitting him as he recalled the money he had just received from the young man, the sound of impact echoing in his mind. The young man chuckled, holding up a fly, claiming it was merely a distraction. Wu Jin, utterly flustered, awkwardly promised to pay him back for what he owed. The next day arrived, finding Wu Jin back at Muzhou High School. Back at Muzhou High, a familiar face greets Wu Jin with surprise. As he calmly acknowledges his teacher, the two settle down for a conversation, steam rising gently from their cups. His teacher, Yeonhee, presses him on his long absence, everyone having presumed him dead, to which he responds with a lighthearted, if unsettling, admission. He then makes an unusual request, asking for access to student records, citing his own reasons. Later, Wu Jin finds himself outside classroom 3-2. Inside, he stands silently before Yeonhee, who is seated at a desk, the air thick with unspoken tension between them, observed by other students. Suddenly, a stern-faced student approaches, his expression unyielding. He rudely demands Wu Jin get out of his way, his arm raised in an aggressive gesture. A soft thud echoes as he rests his head on the desk, seemingly lost in thought, or perhaps just catching a moment of peace. That peace is abruptly shattered, however, as a student with spiky, light brown hair roughly grabs his collar, sneering. "Hey, you arrogant jerk, you were really cocky yesterday, huh? Some random dude who came out of nowhere." Leaning in closer, the aggressor continues his taunts. "We should continue where we left off yesterday, right, Jaemin?" Unfazed, Kang Wu Jin meets his gaze, a calm warning in his voice. "I hear you. Let's not cause a commotion in the classroom." The aggressor, however, only grows more incensed by his composure. "You arrogant bastard." He continues to shout, his face contorted in rage. "Do you not understand your place right now?" Before he can escalate further, a sudden, bright flash erupts, and the aggressive student is violently thrown backward, a voice cutting through the chaos. "Stop right there." The aggressor lands hard on the floor, while Kang Wu Jin observes the scene, noting to himself, "Man, what great timing." Standing in the doorway, a stern-faced student with dark hair and a baseball tee surveys the commotion, his presence a clear interruption. The aggressive student, still seething from their previous encounter, points a finger directly at Wu Jin, demanding, "All of you delinquents, follow me." Meanwhile, from outside the building, the new student who had just arrived wonders, who is that person? The aggressive student's companions whisper amongst themselves, noting that Wu Jin seems to be alone, and that he's rumored to be going against the notorious Sujian and his gang. Unfazed, Wu Jin swiftly counters the aggressive student's attack, executing a powerful throw that sends him sprawling. The student cries out, "UF asterisk her, don't dodge like that. Bring it on." Wu Jin simply stares down at his defeated opponent, his expression unreadable. Such individuals, who believe solely in their own strength and cause trouble, exist on both Alphen and Earth. Even from the ground, the aggressive student continues to struggle, yelling, "Die." The world of Alphen, where there are no laws, is a place where the strong prey on the weak, and the weak are simply prey. As the confrontation intensifies, Wu Jin's thoughts drift to a past identity, one known as the Disaster of Chaos, a defeated evil monster. He recalls the individual who attempted to frame him with a drug incident, instigating a fight within his own territory. Back in the present, the aggressive student, still reeling from his previous defeat, lets out a furious, expletive-laden shout. Wu Jin simply offers a dismissive smirk, unfazed by the outburst. His companions, witnessing the escalating tension, urge each other to join the fray, unwilling to stand by. But before they can even move, the aggressive student is suddenly struck, sent flying with a pained cry. Wu Jin's internal monologue continues, a cold philosophy taking hold. One must treat others exactly as they treat you, but with overwhelming strength. This principle is vividly illustrated in a flashback, where a figure in red stands victorious over a fallen foe amidst a desolate landscape. Back in the present, the aggressive student's face snaps back, his eyes wide with shock as a sharp impact lands. Kang Wu Jin's fist connects with the aggressive student's face, a sharp impact echoing through the air, sending him reeling back as another powerful blow follows instantly, his body twisting from the force. One of the companions watches in wide-eyed horror, sweat beading on his brow as the brutal display unfolds. The other companion, though visibly intimidated, tries to stand his ground, asking, "Why are you so brazen? Bring it on." Before he can even finish his defiant words, Wu Jin's fist lashes out, connecting with a sickening crunch that sends the companion screaming. The force of the impact sends him flying backward, tumbling through the open air before crashing down onto the ground below. Wu Jin stands over the defeated companion, his gaze cold as he remarks, "It's always the ones who make the most noise." He then looks down at the two incapacitated students, a quiet hum, escaping him. A sudden, sharp gasp escapes her, and without a moment's hesitation, she begins to run, her feet pounding against the pavement. Her face contorts with worry as she continues her frantic pace, a desperate cry of "MUM" tearing from her lips. A young man holds a woman close, his embrace tight with a mixture of comfort and sorrow. His expression, etched with a profound sadness, reflects the words his mother often spoke, of how 5 years ago, he simply vanished. Across the world, the sudden appearance of monstrous creatures, now known as the Drabbits, plunged humanity into a daily torment. His mother, left to raise Sura alone, bore the brunt of this new, harsh reality. Their family, never wealthy to begin with, found themselves under the scrutinizing gaze of others after Woojin's disappearance, his mother and Sura growing weary of the constant judgment. In a quiet moment, his mother reassures Sura, promising to quickly pick her up from preschool and instructing her to stay put. As he steps back into the familiar, yet changed, surroundings of his home, a quiet voice bids him to return safely. He surveys the cramped space, a room too small for comfort. Standing in the doorway, he takes in the details, his gaze falling upon a stack of old boxes filled with his parents' belongings, items he couldn't bring himself to discard. A profound sadness washes over him, his heart feeling incredibly heavy with the burden of the past. A small hand gently grips his sleeve, as his mother's voice reminds his sister, "This is your older brother. You should treat him okay? He is greeted by a small voice, his younger sister looking up at him, asking if he is truly her older brother. A gentle smile spreads across his face, a silent acknowledgement of her innocent question. Their mother joins them, remarking on how much Sura has grown, while the little girl proudly declares she no longer wears diapers. He gently pats her head, a tender gesture acknowledging her newfound independence. Their mother then instructs Sura to play with her brother without making a fuss, though the young girl's thoughts are already drifting to the PC room. Woojin confirms it's his day off, while Sura eagerly expresses her desire to play with her older brother. As evening falls, the city lights begin to glow, signaling the end of the day. Inside the quiet home, the ceiling fan remains still, a peaceful calm settling over the household. Later, in the quiet of their shared room, Woojin and his mother lie in their beds, lost in their own thoughts as the day concludes. He lies awake, staring at the ceiling, lost in contemplation. A profound realization washes over him. This is not it. As memories of his past life resurface, that world, he recalls, was his alone to conquer. The past is yours. For a reason no one else in the world was summoned. A brutal game where he fought against cruel monsters, desperately striving for survival on the battlefield. He spent years immersed in myths, fighting with a ferocity unmatched by anyone else. I spent all sorts of MYTHS. I fought so desperately that I couldn't even compare to anyone else. And as a result, I became a max-level necromancer, eventually ascending to become a max-level necromancer. After that endless journey, he met with the dimensional god without regret. After the endless journey, I met with the dimensional god without any regrets. All for the singular purpose of returning to Earth and reuniting with his family once more. He had hoped to find the original happiness he once knew upon his return, but the Earth he came back to had changed drastically. And because of those changes, his father had died, leaving their family on the verge of bankruptcy. This couldn't continue. He needed to earn money. Having survived on Alphen, a new life now awaited him, all for the sake of his family. He was thinking of something even more challenging than Alphen itself. The next day, he found himself with a new acquisition, a phone. He stared at the device, a tool for the challenges ahead. The mundane rhythm of school life continues, with students rushing to their next commitments. Meanwhile, in a more serious setting, an official's voice cuts through the air, asking directly, "Are you an awakened?" He pauses, then presses further, His tone shifts, a hint of surprise in his words. I thought you'd be able to make it because I saw you at the guild in Jeju." He then probes, "Why did you go to Jeju?" With a final, resigned sigh, he pushes a form across the desk. Please fill out this entry." A moment of silence hangs in the air. Later, Kong Woojin sits alone on a park bench, lost in thought. His hand clenching as he acknowledges the stark reality. He needs to earn money. And with a renewed sense of purpose, he realizes that the only thing he can do right now is embrace his destiny. His resolve hardens, a silent vow forming in his mind, to become an awakened. Walking through the city streets, his phone in hand, he considers his next move, thinking, "I know someone who lives alone in our area. I'll ask them to help me and think about preparing for the school qualification exam. This would make my mother worry less while I'm gone, but I can always repay the debt later." He listens intently to the voice on the other end of the line, a formal greeting identifying the caller as Donghoon from Donghoon Realty. A wave of confusion washes over him, his brow furrowing as he tries to make sense of the conversation. He asks for clarification, but the call quickly devolves into a misunderstanding, ending abruptly with a frustrated hang-up. Staring at his phone, he can only utter a bewildered question. The name Jaemin echoes in his mind, a bitter thought about being deceived. Later that evening, the apartment building stands quietly under the night sky. Walking down the hallway, he reflects on the day's events, the lingering frustration from the call still present, making him feel like he couldn't even go home properly. He reaches his door and presses the doorbell, the familiar chime echoing softly. As he steps inside, his mother's voice warmly greets him, using his alias, Jaemin. Still preoccupied with the day's events, he hurries along, thinking he will be late for his academy. Arriving home, he finds an unexpected visitor already inside, prompting a bewildered cry. "How did you get in?" The intruder, Donghoon, casually explains he simply entered the protagonist's house, as if it were a common occurrence, then dismisses Woojin's protest that this is trespassing, joking that he might have mistakenly called the wrong house. Woojin flinches, still trying to comprehend the situation. Donghoon tells him not to worry, then asks him a question, a subtle click accompanying his words. Wu Jin looks on, confused, as Dong-hoon crushes something with a loud, decisive sound. The realization hits Wu Jin, and he exclaims, "You're an awakened?" Dong-hoon, observing Wu Jin's shock, thinks to himself that he knew it. The young man was unbelievably strong. He continues to ponder why he hadn't considered Wu Jin's power before, musing that it might be tied to his wealth. Wu Jin confirms, acknowledging the varying difficulty of dungeons depending on the region. He then explains that anyone who awakens must register with the Awakened Bureau, and that joining a guild is an option, though not mandatory. Dong-hoon then asks if Wu Jin intends to conquer dungeons, to which he readily agrees. However, Wu Jin expresses his hesitation, believing it's best to join a guild, but also acknowledging the inherent dangers. Dong-hoon dismisses the idea of an entrance test for guilds, implying Wu Jin needs to earn money quickly. He then asks Wu Jin if he has a phone, and suggests downloading an app. Dong-hoon offers to do it for him, reaching out for the device. Upon seeing Wu Jin's outdated phone, Dong-hoon expresses surprise, and Wu Jin admits he hasn't gotten a new one. Wu Jin then reacts to Dong-hoon's comment, a slight blush coloring his cheeks. He takes the outdated device from Wu Jin's hand, a silent thought of frustration passing through his mind as he prepares to install the necessary application. Wu Jin, now holding his phone, observes its sluggish performance, noting that despite its slowness, he's found the dungeon forum. Scrolling through the interface, he realizes this is where information about dungeons can be found and reserved. A crucial step for any awakened individual, promising strength and greatness to those who dare to enter. But then, Dong-hoon points out an unexpected detail. The forum indicates an entrance fee, a significant 100,000 won even for a low-ranking dungeon, leaving Wu Jin visibly surprised. He ponders the implications of this cost, while Dong-hoon remains silent, observing his reaction. As he considers the unexpected costs of being an awakened, Wu Jin finds himself needing to borrow money. A moment of quiet contemplation passes before he makes his way to the next step in his journey. His path leads him to the imposing structure of the Awakened General Affairs Bureau. Inside, a clear sign directs him to the Awakened Examination Room. But as the examination begins, a dark, swirling aura unexpectedly erupts from his back, pulsating with raw power. Onlookers recoil in terror, their voices filled with disbelief, questioning the nature of the black energy and what is truly happening. The aura fully engulfs him, radiating an overwhelming presence that cracks the very ground beneath his feet, a testament to his uncontrolled, immense power. Nearby, a small, rabbit-like creature lies motionless, overwhelmed by the sheer force of the sudden energy surge. With a focused gaze, Wu Jin extends his hand, a dark energy swirling around his palm as he utters a single command, "Arise." From the very ground beneath him, a skeletal figure begins to tear its way free, purple energy crackling around its emerging form. The raw power of the summoning causes the earth to fracture, glowing purple fissures spreading across the surface. As the summoning completes, a distinct, glowing symbol emerges from the fractured earth, marking the ritual's success. The newly formed skeleton lets out a silent, gaping roar, its jaw unhinging in a display of its undead might. Observing his creation, Wu Jin's lips curl into a confident smirk, a stark contrast to the uncontrolled power he displayed earlier. Standing tall and resolute, the skeleton soldier now stands faithfully beside its master, a silent testament to Wu Jin's growing command over his formidable abilities. From the swirling shadows, a skeletal warrior emerges, its empty eye sockets burning with a faint purple glow, a testament to the necromancer's power. Standing beside his summoned minion in the vast, empty arena, Wu Jin confirms the nature of his abilities, a rare and potent form of magic. An observer, adjusting his glasses, remarks on the unusual sight, having witnessed countless abilities but never a necromancer before. He muses on the immense mana cost typically associated with summoning-type abilities, implying that Wu Jin's current display is already a significant feat. Wu Jin glances upward, a hint of curiosity in his expression, wondering if what he sees is merely a projection. With his skeletal companion at his side, he prepares for the next phase of his demonstration. Addressing his summoned creature, Wu Jin commands it to reveal its true power. In response, the skeleton transforms, its form twisting into a more menacing, demonic entity, its eyes now glowing a fierce red as dark energy crackles around it. Inside an awakened waiting room, a stark assessment flashes across a screen, declaring a new recruit's rank. The words, "Your F grade," hang in the air as Wu Jin holds his card, a hint of confusion in his voice as he questions the grade. Facing an official, he asks if an F grade is a high rank, only to be told it's actually the lowest. The official, handing him an Awakener's identity card, explains that despite his summoning power being unexpectedly high, the guild master has agreed to let him join as an F ranker for starter dungeons. Meanwhile, outside the building, a digital billboard displays news from the dungeon forum, detailing an E-grade dungeon at Donghun Station, Exit 7, and ominously mentioning the appearance of dragons. As Wu Jin and the official walk out, the official comments that the arrangement should be good enough. Turning to Wu Jin, the official then asks if he intends to join his party. He finds himself approached by a small group of hunters, one of whom, a man with vibrant green hair, gestures towards his companions, explaining that with 7 of them already, only 1 slot remains in their party. Wu Jin, however, declines the offer, stating his intention to enter the dungeon alone. The green-haired man questions his decision, wondering why he would waste money on a low-grade dungeon's entrance fee, especially since it's meant for newcomers, and he could simply leave. A slight smirk plays on the hunter's lips as he mockingly asks if Wu Jin is a new miner. He then directly inquires about Wu Jin's grade, to which the young man calmly replies, F grade. Undeterred, the hunter extends an offer of guaranteed safety, addressing him as a good F-grade hunter. Meanwhile, other awakened individuals continue to stream into the dungeon entrance. The green-haired man continues, explaining that the entrance fee is determined by the number of people entering together, and for a solo entry, the 800,001 fee is quite expensive. Wu Jin gazes out a window, listening intently as the hunter's words trail off, implying further conditions. A murmur ripples through the crowd gathered outside the dungeon entrance, while elsewhere, a young man with glasses hurries a companion along, worried about being late for his academy. Wu Jin considers the implications of his choice, knowing that to enter the dungeon alone would mean paying the share of 8 people, even though excavating bloodstones efficiently usually required the maximum number of people allowed. Still, he muses, since he's only taking this chance to learn more, going in a party might not be so bad after all. His thoughts drift to a memory of Hong Sung-hu, an F-grade fireball ability user, a guy who was also asked to join Bei Duju's party. The memory shifts, revealing that 2 months ago, Wu Jin himself awakened his ability, quit school, and officially started to work as an awakened. He recalls a past incident, observing a chaotic scene and remarking, looks like there was an accident. But the situation quickly escalates as a hobgoblin suddenly appears, and he realizes it doesn't. He finishes his thought, declaring, make any sense. TSK, there's nothing they can do. I'll have to do it with my own hands. All of your efforts. He concludes, reflecting on the unpredictable nature of their world. There are times when other monsters appear in a public dungeon, and information about them appears as well. He observes a group of figures, a voice explaining that while a hobgoblin is a 2-star monster, it's not impossible to defeat if one plays their cards right. Later, in an academy setting, he urges someone to hurry, declaring he'll be late for his own academy, before deciding it's time to prepare for entry. Deep within a dungeon, the heavy footsteps of 3 hobgoblins echo, their green forms emerging from the shadows. Without hesitation, Wu Jin unleashes a powerful fireball, a blazing orb forming in his hands. He charges forward with incredible speed, a blur of motion closing the distance. Then, with a glowing hand, he casts Ignite, sending a wave of fiery energy towards his foes. The hobgoblins shriek in agony as flames engulf them, their forms beginning to crumble under the intense heat. As one hobgoblin reels, Wu Jin delivers a sharp punch, while behind him, Li Yonhee stands ready, weapon drawn, joining the fray. He continues his relentless assault, striking a hobgoblin with a powerful blow. Meanwhile, his summoned skeleton impales another hobgoblin, its arm glowing with a faint purple energy. The creature's head crushes under the force, ending its threat. Elsewhere, in the bustling subway station, a voice remarks to Sungu, your fireball is pretty powerful, huh? Back in the dungeon, the skeleton soldier observes the defeated hobgoblins, noting their surprising strength. It's strong though. Definitely better than a goblin. It then explains to Wu Jin how its own power has grown. Here, it's because I used all my remaining points to level up this skill up quite a bit. It's paying off. A hand carefully extracts a glowing purple monster core, a valuable prize from the defeated creatures. Wu Jin, holding the core, agrees with the assessment of the hobgoblin's strength. As expected, as a 2-star monster, the hobgoblins are awesome. He adds, with this size, we could get some good notes. Considering the rewards, he muses, no wonder so many people want to become an awakened and enter dungeons. 200,001 is not that much. Still assessing their progress, Wu Jin notes that this is only the dungeon's entrance, yet they've already acquired a substantial amount of loot. He reflects on the quality of their findings, the rewards from 1-star dungeons paling in comparison to what they're now collecting. Holding up a vibrant red core, he concludes that 2-star dungeons truly offer the best returns. As they navigate through a subterranean passage resembling a subway station, Wu Jin confidently states they will soon reach the final level. Their path leads them to a chamber where a menacing group of hobgoblins, led by a larger, more formidable one, stands ready to confront them. The imposing hobgoblin chieftain, staff in hand, looms over its smaller kin, a clear threat to the adventurers. Wu Jin, undeterred, reassures his companion, telling her it's all right, and they will proceed as they always have, maintaining their basic formation. As Wu Jin pauses, perhaps sensing something, Yonhee, ever vigilant, urges them to proceed with caution. Having already familiarized himself with the enemy's tactics, Wu Jin quickly identifies the primary magical threat among the approaching hobgoblins. One of the accompanying hunters confirms the plan, assuring their success if Wu Jin can create a momentary delay for them to charge in. The hunter then reflects on the shift in command, acknowledging that with the ranking guild's leader gone, it's no longer his place to question the strategy. As the hobgoblins draw closer, Wu Jin's voice cuts through the tension, demanding immediate barriers. Responding instantly, Yonhee's hands surge with crackling blue energy, initiating the defensive spell. The raw magical power intensifies, expanding outwards in a brilliant, protective wave. As the incantation completes, a shimmering blue barrier fully forms around the group, holding back the encroaching horde. With their defenses secured, Wu Jin gives the decisive order to engage. The skeleton soldier immediately lunges, its skeletal fist enveloped in a fiery aura, delivering a devastating, igniting punch to a hobgoblin. As the battle begins, the skeleton soldier unleashes a fiery punch, striking a hobgoblin directly in the face. Meanwhile, Wu Jin prepares his own offensive, a glowing fireball forming in his hand. He considers the danger, knowing that such raw power could be risky. His mind races back to his past experiences, recalling the countless monsters he had fought on planet Alphen. He had faced their kind before, having fought hobgoblins as well. These creatures were far more cunning than their goblin cousins, highly intelligent, and capable of wielding magic. Yet, he knew their true threat wasn't their magic, but something else entirely. He watches as a group of them moves through the dungeon, one pushing a cart laden with supplies. Considering their resourcefulness, he realizes he'll need to find a different kind of weapon to deal with them effectively. A hobgoblin lunges from the shadows, its dagger flashing as it strikes with brutal efficiency. The impact leaves a raw, discolored wound on the neck of a red-haired man, who cries out in shock and pain. His armored companion looks on, stunned, as the red-haired man clutches his injury, barely able to speak. Before he can recover, another hobgoblin closes the distance, delivering a brutal punch that sends glowing particles scattering. The force of the blow sends the red-haired man reeling, his face contorted in disbelief and pain. Nearby, one hobgoblin lies defeated, while another, enraged, draws its bow, preparing a retaliatory shot. From a hidden vantage point, Wu Jin observes the brutal efficiency of the ambush, his expression grim as he takes in every detail. He understands that what makes these creatures truly dangerous isn't their physical capabilities, but their high intelligence. A goblin squad with a commander-level monster is far more formidable than a normal one-star monster. A horde of green-skinned hobgoblins swarms through a narrow passage, some armed with crude clubs and shields, others pushing small, wheeled carts, their numbers suggesting a coordinated advance. A low growl echoes through the industrial space, revealing a horde of green-skinned goblins emerging from the shadows. Their cackles fill the air as they advance, some riding crude, makeshift vehicles. "Run!" Hong Sung-ho shouts, his voice strained with urgency. "Get out of there!" He and Kong Wu Jin sprint away from the encroaching threat, their footsteps pounding against the metal floor. But Wu Jin suddenly pivots, a surge of orange energy flaring around his fist as he delivers a powerful blow to the nearest goblin, sending it flying backward in a burst of light and sound. The remaining goblins recoil, their growls turning to startled cackles as they witness the unexpected display of power. With his hands still glowing, Wu Jin declares that this won't do, deciding to buy them some time, while Sung-ho anxiously asks about Junior. Kneeling over the fallen figure, Hong Sung-ho's voice cracks with desperation, realizing the grim truth. "He's already dead. Can't you tell?" he cries out, as Wu Jin steps forward, a grim resolve settling over his features. The approaching goblins only mock them with their guttural chuckles. But Wu Jin doesn't hesitate, his fist crackling with blue lightning as he slams it into the first creature. The force sends it reeling, and he follows up with a devastating energy blast that sweeps through the surrounding horde. A ring of crackling blue energy expands outwards. As Wu Jin stands at its epicenter, a beacon of raw power. Sung-ho, witnessing the display, turns to flee, his voice strained as he urges his companion to escape. In the aftermath of a brutal attack, a lone figure lies motionless on the cold ground, surrounded by a menacing group of goblins. Their numbers swell as a larger, more formidable hobgoblin joins the fray, looming over the helpless victim. From the shadows of a nearby corridor, a familiar presence emerges, his gaze fixed on the unfolding horror. A quiet thought crosses his mind, acknowledging the long time since he last faced such creatures. With a determined stride, Wu Jin steps forward, blue energy crackling around him, ready to confront the horde. He doesn't fight alone. With a surge of power, 3 skeletal warriors materialize behind him, their purple eyes glowing with fierce loyalty. One of the goblins lets out a guttural shriek, its crude weapon raised in defiance. Wu Jin considers the challenge, knowing that a group commanded by a hobgoblin presents a tougher fight. Then, without a moment's hesitation, he launches himself into the fray, delivering a powerful kick that sends a goblin flying. The goblin horde swarms, their crude weapons glinting as they close in on one of the summoned skeletons, tearing into the skeletal warrior and overwhelming its defenses. But a sudden, powerful impact from the side sends one of the creatures reeling as Wu Jin enters the fray with a decisive kick. His hand begins to glow with an ominous blue energy, and he declares, "I'll kill the leader." A burst of raw power erupts from him, tearing through another goblin. As he scoffs, "You think I'd wait for your skills cooldown time?" In the sudden silence, a system notification flashes, confirming his ascent to level 6. Wu Jin stood over the defeated monster, a sense of awe washing over him. His hand tingled with the surge of power, as his experience points continued to rise at an incredible rate. But a faint tremor on the ground caught his attention, a hand twitching amidst the debris. He paused, a soft query escaping his lips, as he looked down at the unexpected survivor. The injured figure, barely conscious, muttered in disbelief, wondering how Wu Jin could still be alive. Wu Jin simply stared down, his expression unreadable. As he crouched closer, the witness, desperate, pleaded, promising to keep silent about what they had seen. They stammered out the secret, revealing that Wu Jin was a D-rank awakened. Wu Jin, however, dismissed the information with a wave of his hand, his true intentions still hidden as he pressed the witness for their real purpose. A soft HM escapes him, his expression unreadable as he considers the situation. Then, with a casual gesture, he declares the matter settled, a peace sign punctuating his words. As if to punctuate his statement, a small, glowing blue orb drops from his hand, shattering into brilliant particles upon the ground. Nearby, Hong Sung-hoo stares in disbelief, his mind reeling as he questions if the display of power is truly over. Wu Jin confirms the complete eradication of the monsters, to which Sung-hoo can only respond with a stunned affirmation. A silent gasp escapes Sung-hoo as he struggles to comprehend the scene, his thoughts racing to reconcile the immense power he just witnessed with the F-rank status of the man before him. As Wu Jin turns and walks away, Sung-hoo's internal monologue continues, grappling with the contradiction of a D-rank summoner who single-handedly cleared a monster horde, yet is officially classified as F-rank. Still reeling from the recent events, he urges his companion to hurry, concerned about being late for his academy. It remains unbelievable to him that only 3 hours have passed since Wu Jin registered as an awakened. As he considers the value of the bloodstones they've collected, he estimates they should be worth around 8 million won. Wu Jin, holding the bag, remarks that earning such a sum after investing only 100,000 won is quite a good return. He then makes it unequivocally clear that all of it belongs to him. His companion finds Wu Jin's greed for money unbearable, thinking to himself that he should turn his look of misery into a smile, because his own life is far more miserable. Wu Jin, meanwhile, checks a screen for the exit, quickly locating it and declaring that it's time for them to leave. With that, the two begin to walk away, their footsteps echoing softly. As Wu Jin prepared to leave, a sudden, unsettling sensation caused him to pause, placing a hand on Sung-hoo's shoulder, who looked back with a questioning gaze. A cold certainty settled over him. This felt like an ambush. As they continued down the corridor, Sung-hoo voiced his confusion, reminding Wu Jin that they had already cleared all the monsters. Ignoring the question, Wu Jin's voice cut through the silence, challenging whoever was hiding to reveal themselves. Suddenly, 3 figures emerged from the shadows ahead, blocking their path with hostile intent. In the blink of an eye, the 3 ambushers lay defeated on the ground, their bodies sprawled lifelessly as Sung-hoo stared in disbelief, wondering what had just transpired and if Wu Jin and his skeleton had taken them all down. Wu Jin explained that they would have attacked if they had gotten closer, prompting Sung-hoo to ask what their next move should be. Looking down at the fallen figures, Wu Jin scoffed, mocking their delayed appearance and suggesting they had been too cowardly to face him directly. Sung-hoo, still processing the rapid events, complained that Wu Jin should have remained at the entrance, questioning why he had ventured so far into the dungeon. A smirk plays on Sung-hoo's lips as he questions, "How are you so good at killing your fellow humanoids?" Wu Jin glances down at the defeated figures, noting that they had returned to the dungeon after a strategic retreat, and it appears they've come back to clear it again. The dungeon is now empty, all monsters gone, leaving Sung-hoo utterly bewildered, demanding to know how he managed it. Wu Jin simply scoffs, finding Sung-hoo's naivete amusing, as he wonders if they returned solely for the remaining loot. The defeated figures lie motionless on the ground, their forms crumpled, as Wu Jin casually walks past them. He gestures towards the fallen, offering them a chance to retrieve their belongings, if they truly desire them. A subtle, knowing smile plays on Wu Jin's face, his eyes gleaming with quiet confidence. Suddenly, one of the green-skinned creatures stirs, its glowing eyes narrowing, protesting that Wu Jin must be misunderstanding something. Sung-hoo, with a knowing look, clarifies that they are not foolish enough to engage in player killing, and that they were powerless to stop whoever killed the goblins and orcs. Even as the situation unfolded, he couldn't shake the feeling of regret, wishing he hadn't left his companions behind. But what choice did he have when his very life was on the line? They had only come for the bloodstones, after all. Meanwhile, Hong Sung-hoo addresses the group of humanoids, expressing gratitude that they can now safely retrieve Jeoncheol's body. The greenskin leader, still trying to clarify the misunderstanding, questions if he's being overly sensitive about the ambush being solely for the bloodstones. But Wu Jin, his eyes beginning to glow with an ominous red light, reflects on the 20 years he spent in Alphen, sharpening his instincts to a razor's edge. A fiery aura erupts around him as he realizes this isn't Earth anymore. With a sudden, explosive burst of speed, he lunges forward, striking the green monster and another figure with overwhelming force. Another monster cries out in pain, recoiling from his relentless assault. As the green monster stumbles back, bewildered by the sudden violence, he pleads for them not to be resented. As his grip tightened on the sword hilt, a rhetorical question echoed in his mind. Aren't all awakened the same? Without hesitation, he brought the blade down, striking the green monster leader with a forceful impact. A team of hunters stands ready, having secured the area around a large white truck, their work seemingly complete. Meanwhile, Kim Min-ah, a striking woman with long red hair, speaks into her phone, acknowledging the successful operation. Her conversation continues, as she identifies herself as being from the Hunter Guild, inquiring about someone who has been causing trouble. Kim Min-ah had struggled to locate a registered hunter who had seemingly vanished, initially suspecting he was unregistered, but now, a new development causes her to ask, what could possibly be wrong? The green monster leader, his red eyes narrowed, reacts with a tense expression, as if the very question of someone's whereabouts has put him on edge. Suddenly, a powerful impact sends blood splattering, as Kong Woojin's hand moves with incredible force. His eyes now glow with an intense purple light, as he stands directly before the green monster leader. The green monster leader recoils, utterly shocked by the sudden display of power, as Woojin's glowing gaze fixes upon him. His dagger flashes, striking with such force that blood immediately splatters. The impact sending the green monster leader reeling, a guttural cry escaping him. He screams in agony, blood trickling from his mouth. A smirk plays on Woojin's lips, his eyes glowing with an eerie purple light, as he muses that the attack wasn't quite what he'd expected. Around him, the small green monsters, mere goblins, surround him and his companions. As Hong Sung-hoo scoffs at their weakness, declaring them mere goblins, while Min-ah questions if they truly are. With a surge of purple energy, Woojin summons an army of skeletal warriors, their forms glowing ominously. His companions cry out in terror, overwhelmed by the sudden appearance of the undead horde. Woojin stands firm, his dagger held ready, prepared for the ensuing battle. As the green-haired attacker lunges with a desperate roar, Kong Woojin finds himself in a sudden, violent confrontation. Yet, even mid-attack, the man's face contorts in a plea, suggesting they talk things over. But Woojin only offers a chilling smile, a bloodied knife already in hand, wondering why his opponent would wait for his invite skills to cool down. A scream of agony rips through the air as the attack finds its mark. The green-haired man collapses, his body falling lifelessly to the ground. He lies still, a pool of blood spreading beneath him. Later, in a different setting, Woojin stands before Hong Sung-hoo, who stares back in utter disbelief, muttering about the sheer madness of it all. The realization dawns on Sung-hoo's face, as he comprehends that Woojin has just taken a life. Woojin then turns to him, his voice devoid of emotion, declaring that there is no hope for those who betray others, and asks if Sung-hoo agrees. He stands over the fallen, a chilling calm in his voice, observing the carnage. 5 people at that. His gaze sharpens, demanding a response from the terrified boy on the ground. Why aren't you responding? Hong Sung-hoo, still reeling from the brutal display, can only stammer out a fearful agreement. Why, you're right. Woojin presses his advantage, asserting that Sung-hoo's life was forfeit without his intervention. You died because of me then. Sung-hoo quickly denies it. Not at all, before the protagonist makes a cold demand. Send me your invite skills once then. A slight tilt of his head, a feigned confusion. Pardon? He asks, before reminding Sung-hoo of his supposed debt. I saved you twice. You should be grateful for that, right? Sung-hoo can only manage a choked sound of acquiescence, completely overwhelmed. Woojin's attention shifts to the lifeless body of the green-haired attacker, his words taking an unexpected turn. Show me your shoulder, he commands, adding, I have to heal you. Unseen by them, 3 figures observe the aftermath from a high vantage point, one of them reviewing data on a tablet. Later, the 2 students walk away from the scene, Sung-hoo casting a nervous glance back at his companion. He looks at his companion, questioning why only 2 of them remain, to which the other student replies that the rest were consumed by monsters. A moment of silence passes, as the brown-haired student simply sighs in exasperation. Then, the black-haired student asks how they managed to acquire all the bloodstones. He turns, a slight smirk playing on his lips, remarking that even if they were to die, they still needed to earn their money. Meanwhile, the brown-haired student, holding a small notebook, urges someone to hurry, as he'll be late for his academy, while a notice reminds them to sign out before leaving, as the bureau might come later for those who need them. Later, a figure enters the Bookstein store, which also serves as a hunter guild. A wide, satisfied grin spreads across his face, as he muses about earning over 7 million won from a single dungeon. Walking alongside his companion, he checks his phone, announcing that he's at the top of the ranking with a total of 7 million won. A chilling, confident smirk plays on his lips, his eyes glowing with a faint purple light. 40 million won. Even all of his savings weren't enough to reach such a sum. Sung muses, wondering if he should simply ask Woojin to let him go. A deep sigh escapes him, as Woojin reminds him that he avoids backstabbers, a warning Sung-hoo vows to keep in mind. Woojin promises to wait for him, leaving Sung-hoo to sigh once more, deciding he should at least take a look for himself. But the sheer scale of the number hits him with a jolt, making him question if Woojin truly meant 400 million won. Meanwhile, Woojin yawns, strolling away, seemingly unconcerned that there aren't any monsters around today. The realization of the immense sum crashes over Sung-hoo again, leaving him utterly bewildered and demanding to know just who Woojin truly is. Kong Woojin's hand shoots out, seizing the blonde man by his collar with brutal force. sending him sprawling to the floor as a choked gasp escapes his lips. The blonde man struggles, questioning the sheer power behind the attack. His face contorts in a grimace of pain and shock. As he looks up at Wu Jin, fear creeping into his voice. What are you doing? Ignoring the plea, Wu Jin lifts him effortlessly by the collar once more. His gaze cold and unwavering as he declares his intent. If I want a reward, I'll take it myself. Then, turning to walk away, he dismisses the situation with a chilling rhetorical question. Is this what I call an intervention? No, this is violence. Leaving the blonde man to ponder his shattered existence, while Wu Jin's expression remains utterly resolute. The blonde man collapses backward onto a chair, sending it crashing to the floor, a final cry of distress escaping him. He stares down at the kneeling figure, a sharp hey, cutting through the silence. His expression hardening as he declares his absolute intolerance for those who would lie to him. The blonde man, trembling, protests that he has never encountered anyone who would back him into such a corner. Wu Jin then presents a smartphone, demanding confirmation that this is indeed the item the blonde man sold him. The blonde man's hand instinctively reaching for it, as he stammers out a choked acknowledgement of the device. Wu Jin's gaze sharpens, recalling the moment he was deceived by that sucker. The phone screen reveals a picture of another man, prompting the blonde man to exclaim in disbelief. As Wu Jin holds the device, a chilling smile playing on his lips, asking if he intends to continue lying. Above them, the clouds drift lazily across a serene sky. Wu Jin stares at the screen of the phone he recently acquired, a device he now realizes is far from what he expected. Meanwhile, the blonde man, already walking away with his associate, curses under his breath, declaring that if they were an Alphan, he would have torn Wu Jin limb from limb. Wu Jin, still holding the phone, registers a name, a flicker of recognition crossing his features. The blonde man continues, revealing Wu Jin's true power level as an F-grade necromancer, yet acknowledging that his solo clearance of Guachin Station suggests he should be an E-grade. Facing Wu Jin, the blonde man suggests that with such a discrepancy, it wouldn't be impossible for Wu Jin's group to plan a team kill. Another voice from the blonde man's group, a red-haired woman, remarks on Wu Jin's audacity for a newcomer. Wu Jin, his gaze sharp, demands to know their identities. The red-haired woman lets out a soft sigh, her expression unreadable. Kong Wu Jin finds himself confronted by a mysterious figure, his gaze sharp as he demands to know her identity. A sly smile plays on the woman's lips, as she apologizes for the late introduction. Wu Jin, sensing something unusual about her, remarks on her detection skill. The red-haired woman's smile widens, confirming his assessment with a confident declaration of his strength. Unsettled by her directness, he asks what she wants from him. His expression shifts to one of surprise, as he awaits her answer. Cornered by a group of men in dark suits, he hears one of them question, "So you gathered all these people just to catch a rat?" As the situation unfolds, another voice remarks, "It looks like the situation is worse than we thought." Suddenly, a red-haired man in a suit, his eyes glowing crimson, grabs one of the men by his hair, a sarcastic tone in his voice as he declares, "Well, the situation was lovely." A golden aura flares around him, the sheer force of his grip causing the man to recoil in pain. He warns his victim, "Don't run your mouth as you please." Tightening his grip on the man's face, he continues, "Our guild isn't so weak as to be cheated by a bastard like you so easily. This bastard." His hand begins to glow with a menacing red energy, before he violently throws the man backward, sending him sprawling. Elsewhere, Kim Min-ah, blindfolded, cries out in pain, feeling the reverberations of the red-haired man's raw power. The red-haired woman continues her relentless assault, delivering a powerful, arcing kick that sends one of the men in suits flying. Without missing a beat, she strikes another with a forceful, downward blow. A third man reels from her impact, stumbling backward. She then grabs a man by the neck, effortlessly lifting him into the air. With a sickening crunch, she slams him into the ground, the impact creating a small crater as he cries out in pain. An unseen voice calls out, demanding Kong Wu Jin's attention. The red-haired woman stands triumphantly over her fallen opponent, her expression sharp. She warns the unseen individual, telling them to know their place and get out, advising against associating with such a petty gang. Her voice carries a final, ominous note, especially if it involves the Warang Guild. The red-haired woman stands over the fallen, her back to the viewer, as the echoes of her previous warning linger. "If you want to live for a long time, you should listen to my advice." Her dark attire is a stark contrast to the bright sky, as she remains a silent, imposing figure among the incapacitated men. A cigarette dangles from her lips, a wisp of smoke curling upwards, as a thought crosses her mind. "Wow, it's been a while since I've been stepped on like this." One of the defeated men lies sprawled on the pavement, a dark stain spreading beneath him. Elsewhere, a young man with glasses stares intently at a screen, a name forming on his lips, the Leonhi. Sitting beside him on a couch, another man listens as the first continues, "That Warang Guilds. Is it that woman from the Warang Guild? You told me to be careful about her, didn't you?" The Warang Guild, alongside the KH Guild, stands as one of the top 3 guilds representing the entire country. These powerful organizations maintain a monopoly on all gates and dungeons appearing in Korea, while a student asks his companion, "What do you do for a living?" The other replies, "I'm a hunter." I've gone solo on 4 gates. This prompts a follow-up. Then how do you have so much money? His friend scoffs. Hyung, your self-confidence is incredible. Hyung, you're an F rank, hee. Woojin retorts, bastard. I'm a shadow match. I'm good at fighting, but I'm not good at the money. And there's a limit to how much I can earn as a weak mage guild. Don't forget, I'm a weak mage. Interrupting his complaints, Sung-hoo offers, Before that, here's a gift. A click sounds as Sung-hoo questions, a student who is a hunter? Bastard, getting me to do your chores for money. Woojin protests, this is too much. I don't need to give me money. You already helped me out a lot today, Hyung. But Sung-hoo insists, bastard, it's fine. Take it. Woojin's expression shifts to one of flustered surprise. As Sung-hoo proposes a compromise, let's settle it with this. I'll pay you for your information. Woojin, now more agreeable, responds, oh then, let's go with that. Still contemplating his financial situation, Woojin stares intently at the stack of bills in his hand. A moment later, he wonders aloud if this means he's about to face real hardship, fearing he won't even be able to afford his meals. As he sits with Sung-hoo, his friend asks why he doesn't meet his mother, to which Woojin replies that it's because his house is too small, adding that he'll stay at Sung-hoo's until he's an adult, but his own house. Sung-hoo, misunderstanding, asks if the money isn't enough and if he needs more, but Woojin clarifies that it's not about the money itself. Noticing Woojin's phone, Sung-hoo exclaims in surprise, asking if he's using a smartphone now. Intrigued by the device, Sung-hoo asks if he can touch it just once, wondering if it's a good model. As he examines the screen, Sung-hoo points out its crazy red color. Woojin explains that he's already used to it, having received it from a friend, but Sung-hoo retorts that it still looks like he doesn't have money, before Woojin interjects, in any event. Meanwhile, in a different location, an older man in a suit frets about being late for his academy. A once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, a hunt where one puts their life on the line, now seemed to Kong Woojin like a crazy venture, as he realized the sheer wealth he now possessed. Staring at his phone, he couldn't help but exclaim, what? Just how many zeros are there? The screen displayed a deposit of 40 million won, bringing his total balance to over 5 million, all received from Hong Sung-hoo. A wave of annoyance washed over him, muttering, this bastard. I told him to only send me for big ones. The sheer excess left him utterly bewildered. Later, outside the Angel coffee shop, Woojin approached Sung-hoo, who greeted him with a polite inquiry. Hyungnim, have you eaten well? Woojin, still slightly exasperated, retorted, it's only been a couple of days. What do you mean have you eaten well? He then handed something to Sung-hoo, adding, flush this. His irritation evident, Woojin continued, do you think I'm a hobo? I told him to only send me 4 big ones. A sudden realization dawns, as if connecting past events, that the 4 big ones mentioned earlier were indeed a significant sum, as a shadowy figure looms over a cowering victim, demanding payment. The aggressor's voice cuts through the air, warning that there's no mercy for those who betray, questioning if his companion, Sung-hoo, agrees. The victim, reaching out a desperate hand, feels just like those people, trapped and helpless. Elsewhere, Kong Woojin swallows hard, his expression tight with concern as he observes the unfolding drama. Suddenly, with a desperate thud, a young man named Kim Jae-min collapses to his knees before Woojin, pleading for his Hyungnim to save him. Woojin looks down, questioning what has gotten into him, as Jae-min frantically promises to pay back every penny of the money he owes. Still on his knees, Jae-min desperately pleads for more time. A flashback reveals Woojin, Hong Sung-hoo, and another student in a cafe, discussing the situation. Sung-hoo asks what's happening, and the other student explains that it seems Jae-min took out a private loan, wondering if he's involved with gangsters. Back in the present, Woojin stands over the still pleading Jae-min, who, terrified, confirms his involvement, as Woojin sternly warns him to get down if he doesn't want to die. The student bows deeply, his voice filled with desperation as he apologizes, admitting he has no way to pay back the staggering 4 billion won he owes, but pleads for more time, promising to repay it all. Woojin's eyes widen in disbelief, the sheer number echoing in his mind. 4 billion won? The student, however, confirms it with a desperate affirmation. A deep frown settles on Woojin's face as he realizes there's a profound misunderstanding at play. He recalls the initial amount, a mere 4 million, now inflated to 1 billion. His gaze sharpens, a silent thought passing through his mind. These kids are truly loaded. The student, meanwhile, ponders the situation, acknowledging the misunderstanding but considering how he might still leverage it. Woojin's expression shifts to one of sudden realization, a quiet weight, escaping him as a new thought strikes. The city hums with the quiet energy of a new day. As Kong Woojin makes his way along a tree-lined path, he pauses by a white car, where Hong Sung-hoo is just stepping out. Inside, the two exchange words, with Hong Sung-hoo asking, why are you in such a good mood on your first day as a slave? A scoff escapes Woojin, a smirk playing on his lips. Hong Sung-hoo, clearly frustrated, reminds him of their agreement. Since you can't give me 400 million won right now, you'll form a party with me and work as my slave. Woojin considers this for a moment, then dismisses the idea that he's being mocked, firmly stating, no. Stepping out of the car, Woojin is met by Lee Yeonhee, who informs him that his manager is on a conference call. She then asserts that his expensive clothing is blood money and offers to be his driver. Kong Woo-jin explains that Hong Sung-hoo is his slave from the lowest division, prompting Sung-hoo to acknowledge his new status. Woo-jin reacts with surprise to Sung-hoo's acceptance, while Sung-hoo internally grapples with the unsettling feeling of being a slave, despite the logical correctness of the situation. Woo-jin confirms the terms, and Sung-hoo reluctantly agrees to the arrangement. The contract is set for 1 year, and Woo-jin, feeling a pang of guilt for the lack of rewards, decides to offer a salary. Overwhelmed by the unexpected generosity, Sung-hoo expresses his profound gratitude to his Hyungnim. He reflects that he should be the one offering thanks. Later, a white car speeds down the highway. With Woo-jin riding in the passenger seat, his gaze fixed on the passing scenery. Lee Yeon-hee, behind the wheel, informs him that she will take the 10% of his winnings she had intended for Sung-hoo, expecting him to perform his duties well as she declares that 10% of their earnings will now be his. A faint hum of irritation escapes him, his expression tightening slightly. Then, her voice cuts through the silence, asking if he had found the dungeon she had told him about. Meanwhile, deep within a foreboding cavern, a chilling growl echoes as countless insectoid monsters swarm through the darkness. Back in the car, he confirms, referring to the Tier 3 dungeon known for its high number of summoned monsters. Now inside the dungeon, Woo-jin reassures his companion, telling him there aren't many of the creatures. As the insectoid horde closes in, Woo-jin steps forward, commanding Sung-hoo to stay hidden behind him, who nervously agrees. With a surge of dark energy, all his accumulated stat points align to domination, a powerful aura flaring around him as the system confirms his new strength. From the shadows, a skeletal army rises, their eyes glowing with an eerie red light, ready to obey their master's will. From the shadowy depths of the dungeon, a massive insectoid creature with a segmented body and sharp claws begins to emerge. Its glowing red eyes pierce the gloom, as another, equally menacing creature clicks and scuttles into view. Then a third appears, the dungeon floor now swarming with the chitinous horde. But before they can advance, Woo-jin's skeletal warriors surge forward, a tide of bone and steel, tearing through the insectoids with ruthless efficiency. Turning back to his companion, Woo-jin announces, "Hyungnim, I've gotten all the points from the floor already." Hong Sung-hoo, surrounded by the dissipating forms of the defeated monsters, can only stare in disbelief. "Yeah, good work. Wrap it up," he manages, before the full realization hits him. "Daddy, you killed them all already." His mind races, processing the impossible speed of the battle. The ranking dungeon was supposed to take an hour or more, yet Woo-jin had cleared it entirely on his own. With the battle concluded, Woo-jin slumps onto a nearby bench, the last of his skeletal warriors dissolving into motes of light around him. A soft blue aura envelopes him as he checks his status, confirming his rapid growth. "I'm level 11 now," he notes. "I've gotten quite a lot of additional stat points." He scrolls through the holographic interface, reviewing the skills available at his new level, noting the requirements for Fire Fist and Aqua Ball. A new option catches his eye, a skeleton magician summon that promises balanced stats for his new skeletal ally. Considering the bonuses and the low cost for practice, he muses on acquiring it, just as Sung-hoo announces the dungeon clear is complete. Checking the elapsed time, a mere 27 minutes, he realizes they have the dungeon for an entire week. With a decisive tone, he instructs Sung-hoo to prepare for 7 more runs, leaving the younger man gasping in surprise as they hurry away. Later, they arrive at a bloodstone purchasing facility, a place where the fruits of their labor are converted into tangible wealth. A hand holding a tablet confirms the transaction, announcing that a staggering 53.2 million won has been deposited. Woo-jin's eyes widen in disbelief, the sheer magnitude of the number, 53.2 million won, echoing in his mind. The shock of such immense wealth courses through him, leaving him utterly stunned. 50 million won in just 30 minutes. The sheer speed of the earnings leaves Hong Sung-hoo breathless. His heart pounding as he realizes he could easily earn 400 million at this rate. Staring at the screen, he can only stammer, "This is crazy, Hyungnim." The sheer scale of the fortune overwhelms him, leaving him in a state of ecstatic disbelief. But his senior, ever composed, simply smirks, reminding him that they still have 7 more runs to complete. As they walk away, the junior marvels at the immense wealth, while a quiet thought confirms that becoming his escort was an excellent decision. Meanwhile, at the imposing Hammer Guild headquarters, an office worker sits at his desk, overseeing the flow of transactions. A satisfied smile plays on his lips, content with the recent influx of funds. A phone rings insistently, demanding attention. Answering the call, Young Min-chan, the 4th team leader, identifies himself. On the other end, Heyman introduces himself, prompting Min-chan to ask what the matter is. Heyman urgently reports that 2 people died in a dungeon after 4 hours, but clarifies that the situation is far more serious than a simple death. Min-chan, seemingly unfazed, dismisses the news, stating that people die in dungeons all the time. Heyman quickly corrects him, explaining that it's not just a death, but a record-breaking clear time. Their first attempt took over an hour, yet they just cleared it in a mere 12 seconds. Min-chan, momentarily distracted, declares victory in an unseen wager, then asks Heyman what he's doing. Nearby, Jung-wook, a subordinate, asks Minchan if they should investigate the strange dungeon clear. Minchan, now surprised, reveals that the clear was by E-rank hunters, but their performance suggests they are far more powerful, making him question their actual rank. Still reeling from the unexpected news, Minchan instructs his subordinate, Jungwook, to wait as he promises to call back after looking into the matter further, while team leader Hong stands by. A sharp click of his mouse echoes in the quiet office, as he uncovers something truly astonishing. The screen reveals a hunter profile, Kong Sung-hoo, an E-rank flame mage, who only registered yesterday, while the other, a necromancer, registered 3 months ago. He processes the data, realizing these two fledglings are clearing a C-rank dungeon, and in a mere 12 minutes, no less. A smirk plays on his lips, as he dismisses their E-rank status, knowing the evaluation was far from accurate. The implications hit him with a jolt. Awakened individuals manifesting C-rank abilities are rare, and there's a high chance they could grow into high-ranking awakeners. Turning from his desk, he walks away, a profound sense of excitement washing over him at the prospect of a promising new awakener appearing after so long. Meanwhile, on the street, 2 students discuss the news. That guy just got into the ranking guild and transferred into the academy. Back in the office, Jungwook confirms it's the same Kong Sung-hoo he heard about from Heyman, the one who scored highest on the exam, prompting Minchan to question the relevance of his exam score to his E-rank status as a flame mage. Kong Woojin, an E-rank necromancer, stands out as the clear leader among his group, possessing an unbelievable attack speed that defies his official ranking. Back at the ranking guild, Minchan turns to his colleague, inquiring about her assessment of the young man. Team leader Yeonhee, however, expresses her disbelief, questioning how he could possibly be an E-rank when she'd assumed he was at least a C. Considering the stark discrepancy, she concludes that there must be only 2 possible explanations for his misranking. Minchan then asks if there's ever been a similar case of an awakener with such a mismatched rank, as even for an E-rank, clearing a C-rank dungeon is practically unheard of. Yeonhee pauses, a memory stirring, and admits there was indeed a similar case in the past. A powerful image flashes through her mind, a man who, despite growing up in an environment where he couldn't awaken, became South Korea's first legendary figure. Her thoughts race, it can't be. Kim Kangchul. The realization hits her with a jolt, and she exclaims in disbelief that Woojin simply cannot be compared to the legendary Kim Kangchul. Despite her initial skepticism, a determined glint enters her eyes as she decides it wouldn't hurt to check, resolving to track him down and personally assess what kind of person he truly is. A man with long, auburn hair, neatly tied back, sits casually in a modern chair, his gaze thoughtful behind rectangular glasses. He is Master Lee Sang-go, the esteemed leader of the Hwarang Guild, one of South Korea's 3 most powerful guilds. A crackling sound echoes through the desolate space as dark, shadowy energy begins to manifest. With a series of clicks and thuds, the shadowy mass coalesces, forming a sharp, piercing object. Then, with another distinct click, the dark energy effortlessly pierces through a pile of rubble. As clicks, thuds, and crackles fill the air, Kong Woojin's power extracts a glowing red core from deep within the wreckage. Gasping in disbelief, Kim Kangchul stares, sweat beading on his brow, as he mutters that while money is important, this display of power is something else entirely. With a soft intake of breath, Woojin draws the extracted core, a viscous, blood-like substance, into his hand, a sight that confirms the rumors of awakeners who manipulate blood. Later, in a different setting, Hong Sung-hoo approaches him, asking if he can wait for a bit. Woojin turns to him, a hint of challenge in his voice, asking if he's already tired. As the conversation continues, a gulp escapes one of them, a moment of tension building. Hong Sung-hoo, sitting on the ground, feels a surge of energy, declaring himself refreshed and feeling better, before asking Kong Woojin how much time they have left, to which Woojin replies, around 12 minutes. Woojin's thoughts drift to his progress, reflecting on the 100 million won's worth he's already excavated, and the hope of securing a decent home for his mother and sister. As Woojin continues to speak, Sung-hoo looks up, acknowledging him with a respectful, "Yes, Hyungnim." Woojin then makes a stark declaration, stating that from now on, all monster cores Sung-hoo excavates will belong to him, though he assures his junior he'll still help with the excavation. Sung-hoo can only manage a bewildered, "Sorry." Before Sung-hoo can react further, a sudden, unseen force sends him flying backward, a pained ugh, escaping his lips as red energy flares around him. He lands hard on the ground, looking up in disbelief and pain, questioning, "H. Youngnim." The attack continues, a swift kick connecting with its target. Suddenly, the scene shifts to a chaotic dungeon, where skeletal warriors clash, their bony forms illuminated by the frantic energy of battle. Kong Woojin moved with decisive speed, his leg arcing powerfully to strike the segmented limb of a massive insectoid monster. The impact sent a visible shockwave through its chitinous armor, causing the creature to recoil. Before it could recover, his hand clamped down on its leg, twisting with brutal force. He continued his relentless assault, sending the creature tumbling backward. Finally, the massive beast crashed to the ground, defeated. Standing over his fallen foe, with skeletal warriors inert in the distance, he calmly declared, "This should be enough." Suddenly, a system notification materialized before him, announcing, You've reached the required level for a class. It's time to choose a class. The message hung in the air, prompting a puzzled reaction from the young man as he questioned, class. A moment of contemplation followed, his thoughts drifting to his existing abilities. Don't I already have the Necromancer class? What's first? Still reeling from the unexpected system prompt, Wu Jin finds himself questioning the very foundations of his power, wondering why he's being asked to choose a class when he already possesses the Necromancer class. The system, however, offers no explanation, simply declaring that he has chosen the warrior class, granting him a warrior privilege and a warrior's weapon. This unexpected turn of events leaves him deeply troubled as he grapples with the implications of this new, seemingly conflicting class. His primary concern isn't the dual class itself, but the potential overlap in stats with his existing necromancer abilities, a thought that conjures a vivid, imposing image of a skeletal warrior, radiating a fierce red aura. As he processes the new information, he wonders if the warrior's weapon is the reward for this unexpected class. A faint glow emanates from his hand, hinting at the weapon's presence, though he dismisses the thought as mere speculation. Suddenly, a staff-like object materializes in his grasp, glowing with an ethereal light. A system notification confirms it as a steel staff, a warrior's weapon that grows with its user, offering bonuses to strength, durability recovery, and the ability to summon or dispel skills. Holding the glowing staff, he acknowledges its potential, eagerly anticipating the kind of weapon it will eventually become. A crimson orb, pulsating with raw energy, hovers in the ethereal space, a silent herald of ancient power. The system reveals a new facet of his abilities, the Necromancer's Privilege, Sealed Demon Stone, a potent artifact. These magic stones, obtainable upon reaching certain levels, are said to be 7 in total, each holding power beyond even the Demon King, capable of summoning the strongest entities. Images of terrifying, shadowy figures, a legion of monstrous summons, flash through his mind. He recalls a time on Alphen, where he fought his enemies with these very beings, dominating the territory alone. A smirk plays on Wu Jin's lips as he considers the implications, wondering what new summon awaits him this time. Suddenly, a blinding light erupts, drawing his gaze towards a shimmering portal. He stands before it, arms crossed, a silent observer of the unfolding mystery. From the glowing rift, a massive, leathery wing begins to unfurl, hinting at the colossal entity about to emerge. A pair of sharp, red eyes, framed by blonde hair, darted open. As Wu Jin looked on, a flicker of concern crossing his features. The small figure, now fully materialized, cried out, "What? That's why are you?" Before launching herself into his arms, a desperate plea escaping her lips. "I missed you, master." Surprised by the sudden embrace, he gently asked, "You remain at Alphen? What happened?" The girl, still clinging to him, explained through her tears. After Master disappeared, all of the summons were trapped inside the Room of Seal. Wu Jin's brow furrowed in thought. "Room of Seal?" he murmured. "Did they move across dimensions with me? That's not it. Seals." Her grip tightened, a small, fearful voice whispering, "Huh? You're not going to leave me again, are you?" As fresh tears streamed down her face. Still clinging to him, she confirms the presence of evil mana emanating from the monstrous bugs. A dark fury crosses Wu Jin's face as he processes her words. The source of this malevolence is known as Tronet, a demon from an unknown dimension who once devastated the very soul of Korea. And Wu Jin had grown weary of battling his countless underlings who constantly crossed over. He wonders if someone is orchestrating these events, questioning if this is the reason for the dimensional gap's appearance. A grim thought crosses his mind. He believed he was sent to hell, but it seems he's merely been sent to a different one. Suddenly, a familiar voice breaks his contemplation, greeting him by name. After a long day of waiting, young Minshan stands patiently outside the dungeon entrance. He wonders where his team could be, noting that 6 minutes have passed since they entered, expecting them to emerge soon. But then, a thought crosses his mind. These guys are no joke, having already earned 400 million won by themselves. Just as he considers their prowess, his team finally emerges. Minshan thanks them for their help in clearing the dungeon, while a young student nearby attempts to ask for something. The student, Kong Wu Jin, insists he only needs a few moments, but Minshan's team members, Jung Wook and Heyman, look on with curiosity. Wu Jin tries to brush him off, claiming he's unavailable, but Minshan persists, asking him to wait for a moment. Wu Jin, clearly frustrated, retorts, asking why he's even bothering if he's just going to take his share. Minshan watches him leave, wondering about the crazy bastard, and sighs, realizing he might have said too many obvious things. Having spotted the young man he sought, Minshan wastes no time, getting straight to the point. He wishes to recruit him and his companion to the Hammer Guild. However, the student simply turns away, his curt, not interested, leaving Minshan momentarily stunned. Recovering quickly, Minshan calls out, surprised that anyone wouldn't recognize the prestigious Hammer Guild. The young man pauses, acknowledging the guild's reputation, but his lack of enthusiasm remains palpable. Undeterred, Minshan presses on, holding out his card and emphasizing the financial benefits, promising all the money a hunter could desire. Finally, the student turns his head slightly, his voice tinged with weariness, asking to be left alone as he's feeling pretty low. A familiar face appears, prompting a surprised gasp from an unseen individual, who utters his name in disbelief. His mother, a woman with short brown hair, stares in wide-eyed shock, wondering what exactly is happening. She urges him to hurry, concerned he'll be late for his academy, while also questioning how they're supposed to get the money they need, lamenting the size of their front yard. Wu Jin, however, dismisses her worries, proudly declaring that he received his money today, displaying a screen with impressive account details. He then reveals his true status, admitting he is an awakener, prompting his mother to ask if he earned it from the dungeons. Her face contorts with alarm, exclaiming that such a path is dangerous and demanding to know when he started. Meanwhile, a young boy, her son, stands nearby, declaring that something is over and that his brother isn't weak, comparing him to a prodigy. Despite her continued concern, the child tugs at her clothes, innocently asking if he can finally raise a dog, reminding her of a past promise. Still reeling from the revelation of his new path, his mother expresses her deep concern, wishing they had a house with a basement to hide him away from the dangers of being an awakener. Looking into her worried eyes, Wu Jin offers a calm reassurance, telling her not to worry. He then turns to his younger brother, gently patting his head and promising to make up for all the hard work she's been through. The younger boy, seemingly oblivious to the gravity of the conversation, simply asks for a dog. Later, the family stands together outside their modest home, a quiet moment of unity before the world outside calls to Wu Jin. As dusk settles over the city, Wu Jin finds himself alone, the weight of his new reality pressing down. His footsteps echo on the pavement as he walks with purpose, ready to face whatever comes next. With a command, a swirling vortex of purple energy erupts from the ground, manifesting the demon Alphen. As the summoning completed, he found himself staring at a small, black creature, wondering, what's wrong? But come on out. The magical energy swirled and dissipated, leaving him to question the strange manifestation. HNNH? What was that? As the small creature took its first steps into the world, prompting him to ask the obvious question, why have you become a cat? The creature merely responded with a soft purr. Holding the small feline, he learned that in her original body, she had no choice but to look for small living organisms to inhabit. He pondered the implications. Can she only manifest in her original body within dungeons? Why though? Still holding her, he inquired about her abilities. What about trainer's energy? Do you feel anything? The cat replied, I don't feel anything at all. Walking away, he mused, I'm not sure if it's because she's not an awakener yet, or do you look better as a black cat? He finds himself approached by a figure who asks if he possesses a kind soul. This is Li Sango, the leader of the Huanrang Guild, who introduces himself formally. He then extends an invitation, inquiring if they could speak for a moment. Later, Wu Jin approaches a car, where someone awaits him. Inside, he expresses his frustration, muttering about not serving anyone. His companion addresses him respectfully, using an honorific. The companion questions his decision to join a guild, to which Wu Jin replies that he has his reasons, simply believing he can do it. He apologizes for his bluntness, explaining his aversion to taking orders, a sentiment his companion seems to understand. His companion praises his independence, noting that even the Mighty Hammer Guild had offered him a contract. He couldn't shake the thought, the sheer audacity of rejecting the Mighty Hammer Guild's offer for such a reason. His expression remained unreadable. Still, he mused, that wasn't what was important now, a faint smile playing on his lips as he anticipated a meeting. Later, Kong Wu Jin sat, lost in thought. A figure approached, apologizing for the wait. Wu Jin acknowledged him with a simple yes. At the Angel coffee shop, the man began, offering an apology for what had happened yesterday. He then inquired about a conflict involving Yoni. A sharp-eyed, red-haired woman came to mind. Acknowledging the apology, Wu Jin hears Heyman explain that his younger sister truly treasures him and wishes to compensate him for a past incident. She felt she had been a little too rough, and he had been meaning to discuss compensation. Wu Jin dismisses the need for such compensation, wondering if this is the true reason Heyman sought him out. Heyman, impressed, remarks on his quick understanding. He explains that movements of awakened individuals are rare these days, and Wu Jin's status as a ranker cannot be kept a secret. Based on what he witnessed, Heyman is certain Wu Jin is at least a ranker and will soon become a high-ranked awakened. Crossing his arms, Wu Jin prompts him to get to the point. Heyman finally reveals his true intention. He wants Wu Jin to join the Huanrang Guild, promising the best possible treatment. Wu Jin internally questions the offer, suspecting that if he refuses, Heyman might try to force him into the guild or even attempt to take his leadership. Still processing the unexpected offer, Wu Jin listens as Heyman acknowledges his strength, remarking that he is indeed stronger than the rumors suggested. However, Heyman clarifies that his leadership of the Huanrang Guild isn't based on his awakened abilities, as he is actually weaker than an A-grade awakened. With a serious gaze, he explains that even if Wu Jin were to defeat him, he couldn't simply hand over his position. Shifting the conversation, Heyman then poses a profound question to Wu Jin, asking why he believes dungeons have appeared in the first place. He continues, explaining that 5 years have passed since the initial shock event, and in that time, they've reached a grim conclusion about the dungeons. Their grade is determined by mana output. Stronger monsters are appearing, humanity is desperately trying to profit, and instead of fighting, people can only run. This understanding has shaped their entire approach. Woojin's expression darkens as Heyman emphasizes the gravity of the situation, stating that if things continue this way, not only Korea, but the entire world faces annihilation. With a resolute look, Heyman declares his personal mission to gather awakened individuals to prevent this catastrophe, believing it to be his destiny. Finally, extending his hand across the table, Heyman makes a direct appeal, asking Woojin to help them in this monumental task. At the imposing Hammer Guild headquarters, Young Minchin's fingers clicked across his mouse, a sudden flinch betraying his focus as he absorbed the information on his screen. "Whoa, what is this?" he muttered, the atmosphere already heavy from the day's start. His eyes widened, scanning the current dungeon usage situation report, particularly the entry for Guachin Station number 6 exit. "Oh." Spotting Heyman walking past, Minchan called out, "Leader, they made an appointment for Guachin Station number 6 exit yesterday." Annoyed by the early morning news, he grumbled, "Ah, the rude universe? Why are you bringing him up this early in the morning?" Heyman, holding a notebook, calmly reminded his team leader, "That's a 4-star dungeon." Minchan's frustration grew. "What, are they playing with just a few people again?" he questioned, to which Heyman simply confirmed, "That's right. These guys, are they crazy?" Young Minchan wonders, a bead of sweat forming on his brow. A 4-grade gate dungeon is an attack degree starting from a 4-star dungeon, he knows, thinking it might be possible for them to enter as long as the guild supports it. But if they don't even know something so basic and recklessly made an appointment, then they're really just newbies, he concludes, looking at the current dungeon usage situation on his screen. Still, what kind of abilities do they have, such that they would dare to think of challenging a 4-star dungeon? Turning to Heyman, he asks if they also have a 4-star dungeon in Guanshan County, to which Heyman confirms, specifying Chongdi Station number 6 exit. Minchan then questions why they would give up on that, prompting Heyman to ask who said they were giving up, before Minchan declares that this time, they're going to make a big shift if they want to clear this. The engine hums to life as Heyman grips the steering wheel, a sleek black car, now his to command. As they speed down the road, he exclaims that the car feels incredibly nice. Turning to Woojin, Heyman explains that he acquired this vehicle because he felt bad about driving him around in such a small car, prompting Woojin to question what exactly he meant by disaster. Heyman clarifies, referring to Woojin as the called disaster, then muses that if this is what a disaster from another world looks like, he can't imagine what a real one would be. He then reaffirms his loyalty, promising to serve Woojin to the best of his ability, calling him my kingdom, to which Woojin simply replies, acknowledging his words. With a cheerful yes, Heyman accelerates the car, leaving a blur of motion behind them. Arriving at a modern complex, Woojin steps out, observing the imposing structure and wondering aloud what kind of place it is, especially with such a high concentration of mana. Standing before a grand building, Heyman confidently assures Woojin that their entry is secured, certain of their ability to clear whatever challenges lie within. However, the gatekeeper remains firm, refusing to take responsibility for their actions, and questions why they insist on entering a place where others might commit suicide, urging them to just let them in. Woojin simply stares ahead, a silent acknowledgement of the unexpected hurdle. Heyman, realizing his miscalculation, taps his fingers in frustration, while Woojin silently echoes his annoyance. He offers a quick apology, admitting he should have researched the situation more thoroughly before their arrival. Woojin, accepting the oversight, decides to head to the admission office himself, instructing Heyman to look for a ticket seller in the vicinity. As they turn to leave the entrance, the two walk away from the imposing structure. Suddenly, Young Minchan appears, greeting them with a surprised smile, remarking on the coincidence of their meeting and offering his assistance. Woojin, however, remains unconvinced, muttering under his breath about the supposed coincidence. As they walk, Young Minchan turns to Woojin and Heyman, inquiring how he might be of assistance. His expression remains serious, awaiting their response. The conversation revolves around the Chunjin complex, a location near Chunjin Station, where strict rules dictate that C-rank dungeons cannot be entered without C-rank attack force members. Minchan then offers his solution, stating he possesses a permit for C-rank dungeons and will accompany them, prompting Woojin to remark on his unnecessarily kind gesture. Minchan simply replies that he is trying to save face. With a confident smile, Minchan clarifies that his offer is merely an indication of his goodwill, assuring them he will handle everything else, and they should simply focus on the cleanup. As they continue walking, Minchan compliments Woojin on his coolness, then abruptly asks him to wait, revealing he has prepared a gift. His demeanor shifts as he senses another presence, noting Woojin's terrified expression. He holds up a hand, insisting they pause for a moment. Nearby, a sleek white car sits parked, its presence hinting at the impending reveal. Minchan stands before it, looking up, as if expecting someone or something. Young Minchan's gaze lingers on Woojin, his mind racing with the conviction that nothing is impossible in this world. Even if the young man isn't awakened with monstrous latent potential, he's still just a 24-year-old fledgling, and Minchan's heart beats faster with the thought of getting him to sign a contract next time. He then voices his assessment, stating that even with monstrous latent potential, Woojin is merely a 24-year-old fledgling. A sinister smile spreads across Minchan's face as he internally declares, "Kong Woojin, you're in the palm of my hand now." Addressing Woojin, Minshan observes that he seems completely different from yesterday. Wu Jin, recalling his previous bad mood due to his financial worries, simply replies that he was in a pretty bad mood yesterday. Minshan chuckles, remarking playfully that Wu Jin seems to go by how he feels. He gestures subtly, a knowing glint in his eyes. With a predatory grin, Minshan thinks to himself, "Cuckoo, you little cub." He then reveals a contract, stating his intention to make Wu Jin sign it to become an exclusive guild member for 5 years. Having just presented a binding contract, Minshan now suggests, with a confident gesture, that he knows a perfect place for them to check out, prompting Wu Jin to inquire about its location. He muses internally, convinced that by showing them the wrong way, his way, they would never consider joining another guild if he could just win them over. With a determined stride, their footsteps echo as they make their way. A moment later, Minshan pauses, looking around with a slight frown, a soft escaping his lips as he seems to search for something. Standing before a dungeon entrance, Wu Jin questions where the others have gone, and Minshan confirms they've already ventured inside. Clutching a bag, Minshan's thoughts drift to his original intention, recalling his plan to bring them a gift. Suddenly, Heyman appears, questioning why Minshan isn't waiting for them to emerge, while Minshan internally debates whether to give the gift now or later. The bag he holds, presumably containing the gift, is shown in a close-up. Minshan's face contorts in surprise and disappointment, uttering a stunned, "This, is it?" As the conversation unfolds, a deeper understanding of the challenges ahead begins to form, particularly concerning the true nature of a high-tier dungeon and the tools required for survival, like a specialized survival kit. Young Minshan, still processing the unexpected turn of events, questions the very idea of such a place, wondering how much anyone truly knows about Kong Wu Jin, once dubbed the disaster of chaos for creating a Tier S dungeon. A high-tier dungeon. Heyman listens intently, his expression unreadable, as the narrative shifts to illustrate Kong Wu Jin's true prowess. Though officially in F rank, his clearing speeds reveal an S rank capability, allowing him to solo A rank dungeons against multiple monsters. However, the very constitution of high-tier dungeons differs fundamentally from optional low-tier ones. Entering without proper preparation or survival equipment is a death sentence, even for a high-ranking awakened. Not even the most powerful can guarantee a safe return from such a perilous place, as many have learned the hard way. Minshan's face darkens with the weight of this realization, a profound sense of miscalculation washing over him. What a blunder. He stands silently, observing the desolate street. The entrance to the Inseaguan Guanshan subway station looms before them, and as they venture inside, Minshan questions if this truly is a Tier 4 dungeon, given the underwhelming nature of the monsters they've encountered, to which Heyman admits his uncertainty. Heyman then speculates if the dungeon's difficulty might be lower than average. They continue deeper into the station, passing more defeated creatures. The eerie silence broken only by their footsteps. Suddenly, Minshan exclaims in surprise, realizing there's no return stone to be found. He ponders if his search skill level might be too low to detect it. Deciding to retrace their steps, he suggests they go back and search the area again, spotting a way out sign in the distance. With a soft, measured step, he continues his search, only to realize the return stone is nowhere to be found, leaving him to wonder what exactly is happening. As he and Heyman stand in a vast, empty chamber, Minshan points towards a distant opening, confirming that the entrance is indeed far above them. Heyman, startled, begins to speak, his voice trailing off in disbelief. Minshan's gaze sharpens, his eyes glowing with an intense, crimson light. Suddenly, a swirling black void rips open before them, a portal manifesting with crackling red energy. Both men stand transfixed, staring at the ominous gateway. Minshan considers the implications, realizing this must be why the return stone never appeared, and declares that they must pass through. A slight smirk plays on his lips as he acknowledges that the dungeon's initial ease was merely a prelude, and the true challenge is only just beginning. The ominous portal pulsed, drawing them in. And young Minshan found himself disoriented, his mind struggling to process the sudden shift. Have we been transported to a different dimension? He wondered aloud. As the unfamiliar forest floor stretched before them, a deep blush spread across Heyman's chest, as Minshan's gaze fell upon his companion, who stood completely exposed. What are you doing? Why did you undress? Minshan demanded, only for Heyman to exclaim, "You're naked too." Minshan looked down, a wave of realization washing over him. Transported? He murmured, now fully aware of his own vulnerability. A low, guttural growl echoes through the dense, unfamiliar forest, as a flock of birds suddenly erupts from the canopy, scattering into the sky. Amidst the strange, purplish glow of the alien flora, Heyman lets out a disoriented cry, clutching himself as Minshan looks around, his expression grim. Minshan reaches out, his fingers brushing against glowing particles that drift from the forest floor, as faint, unsettling sounds emanate from the depths of the woods. Turning to his companion, Minshan states with a chilling certainty that this must be the true beginning of a Tier 4 dungeon. Wu Jin stands in a sun-dappled forest clearing, observing a newly summoned entity. The glowing, white-haired figure stands before him, prompting him to exclaim, "Exactly how many skills do you happen to have?" The summon, displaying a holographic blue screen, replies, It continues, but instead keep going, even doing death magic. Wu Jin hums thoughtfully, a realization dawning on him that the summon itself cannot perceive his deeper thoughts. Reviewing the summon's property card, he notes, I'm currently level 10. Thanks to my past life bonus, I have stats that are abnormally high for level 10. But, he muses, it'd still be dangerous if it's a 1-star summon. Although I got past the level 10 limit using just my necromancy. The glowing screen displays the summon's details, unnamed, rank, 1-star, type, undead, along with its skills, dimensional manipulation, death magic, necromancy. He concludes, if that's the luck. As they walk along a worn path, a voice suggests, why don't we try these out? The dense foliage of the forest surrounds them. When suddenly, one of them exclaims, hey, look, as they both spot something moving below. A massive reptilian creature, a lizard knight, lunges from the shadows with a guttural roar. But their companion, wielding a glowing blue sword, swiftly moves to intercept it. Wu Jin follows up, delivering a powerful kick that connects with a sharp impact, sending the creature reeling backward with a pained cry. Standing over the defeated foe, Wu Jin muses, oh, so this is a lizard knight. It's quite formidable. Then, I should be strong a level higher than it. He looks down, a weapon clutched in his hand, wondering why they shouldn't just see for themselves. A determined expression settles on his face, as the scene shifts to a bustling city street. Meanwhile, Young Minchan observes a shimmering barrier, noting that it still hasn't disappeared. He reflects that since time goes faster inside the dungeon than outside, even a low-ranked dungeon should have already passed its expiration. He reaches out, his bare hands touching the ethereal surface, and the barrier remains stubbornly in place. The rules of this world dictate that portals do not allow objects of Earth to enter, with the only exception being objects made of material that exist on the other side of the portal. Minchan runs a hand through his hair, contemplating that even if they were to defeat a monster, the issue of food and water would remain. It's difficult for people to survive even in an Amazon jungle, let alone in a dungeon, and he sighs, realizing there's just problem after problem. Minchan and Heyman stand before the persistent barrier, the glowing blue energy a stark reminder of the challenges ahead. The crackling of a campfire filled the air, as skewers of meat slowly roasted over the open flames. Carefully blowing on a hot piece, a hand reached out to savor the meal. And Kong Wu Jin couldn't help but exclaim how incredibly delicious it was. His companion, a man with dark hair, reminded him that crocodile meat was a rare delicacy, urging him to eat his fill, while Wu Jin insisted he try some of his own, noting that beer paired perfectly with the crocodile skewers. The dark-haired man agreed, finding the meal truly exceptional. Meanwhile, back at the Sejong building, a voice expressed surprise that the situation was lasting longer than anticipated. As Heyman questioned Young Minchan if he had forgotten about the time dilation within the dungeon's mana barrier, Minchan acknowledged the faster time flow and the dungeon's purpose as bait for monsters, but still found the barrier's persistent presence unusually concerning. Back in the jungle, the black-haired man and Wu Jin surveyed a swampy area, where all monsters had been completely wiped out, prompting the man to silently wonder if the most powerful attackers were now lurking in the swamp itself. Wu Jin, his expression etched with concern, realized that anyone trapped within would have to contend with horned monkeys and swamp anacondas, their movements severely hampered by the treacherous terrain. A voice cries out a warning to AB, as the only ranged attacker, Hong Sungu, prepares for battle against the encroaching monsters. Meanwhile, Wu Jin and his companion look up into the dense forest canopy, a strange sound echoing through the trees. The situation is dire, as Hong Sungu's fireballs alone are insufficient to fend off an entire pack of Hoko monkeys. Wu Jin and his companion acknowledge the grim reality, agreeing that the challenge ahead will be exceptionally tough. With a sudden burst of energy, Hong Sungu ignites his magic. Streaks of fire erupt from his hands, blazing through the air. A torrent of fireballs descends from above, raining down destruction. Hong Sungu laughs maniacally, commanding the flames to burn all his enemies. AB lets out a pained grunt, struggling against the overwhelming force. Kong Wu Jin stands by the water, observing his newly summoned skeleton magician, a skill requiring bodies or bones as sacrifice, a level 10 restriction, and 20 magic power. A question hangs in the air, wondering if he always possessed such an ability. As if on cue, 3 skeletal figures, their empty eye sockets glowing faintly, wade through the shallow water. They then climb out, their bony frames now hanging from the branches of a nearby tree, a faint rustling sound accompanying their movement. Later, Wu Jin sits alone, quietly eating a bowl of noodles. He then joins Hong Sung-hu on some outdoor steps, who notes that 4 hours have already passed, questioning if the monsters will emerge from the dungeon. Wu Jin calmly replies that higher-ranked dungeon monsters aren't the real problem. He explains that he feels something from the plant life and the monsters, an unknown sensation, and wonders how much herbicide would be needed. Sung-hu's eyes widen, realizing the implication. If the monsters consume anything with poison, then... A hand holds a bowl of dark, unappetizing liquid, chopsticks resting within, as a voice declares, that's game over. Wu Jin's face contorts in disgust, and escaping him, as he vehemently states, I really do hate unripe persimmons. Sung-hu, walking beside him, asks, how is it? His expression remains one of strong distaste, warning, if you eat that without cooking it, you'll die, before spitting out the offending morsel. Sung-hoo complains, oh, come on. Why didn't you tell me before? While Woo-jin lets out a small, knowing chuckle. As they continue walking through a vast, open field, Sung-hoo presses him. But seriously, how do you happen to know everything like that? Woo-jin simply replies, I just know, so don't ask. He elaborates, of course I would. Everything here looks exactly the same as where I've been living for 20 years. Later, under the city's night lights, a thought crosses someone's mind. Now that I think about it. Young Min-chan, sitting on steps with Heyman, questions, is there a reason why we're putting in this much effort to Kong Woo-jin? Heyman looks down, surprised, admitting, I didn't even know he was the one who defeated the Lizard Knight. Min-chan clears his throat, then adds, I know the stories of gods and demons, but I've never heard of him before. Still pondering the enigma of Kong Woo-jin, Min-chan recalls Heyman's earlier question, wasn't it you who said he was a disaster? He responds, I'm not sure, but I think he's a pretty good guy. Heyman then clarifies, what? You're talking about Park Jin-woo. Min-chan continues, yeah, that's why I'm fine with him not joining the Hammer Guild. As Heyman looks on, losing someone like him will be a huge detriment to humanity. Min-chan then reflects, to think that he was thinking of something deep like that. Meanwhile, in a different location, a worried Hong Sung-hoo suggests, let's try praying together. I'm sure we'll be fine. His face etched with concern, he adds, it'll be hard though. As a group of hunters walks away from a gate, Woo-jin casually remarks, come on, you guys didn't know that. Sung-hoo, looking utterly defeated, laments, who suggested that we pretend to return? Huh, he'll probably just die. But Woo-jin's eyes hold a sharp, unwavering resolve. He walks through the desolate landscape, a thought crossing his mind about his companion's persistent pessimism, as they continue their journey past the skeletal remains of some colossal creature. Suddenly, his companion spots a shimmering, ethereal object floating above a rickety wooden bridge. It's the returned stone, a beacon of escape from this dreadful place, and the companion exclaims with relief that they can finally leave. But as he rushes forward, his foot catches on the uneven ground, sending him stumbling with a gasp. He barely recovers his balance at the edge of a cliff, clutching his chest, and declaring he almost died right there. Turning to his calmer companion, he begins to express his gratitude. The other simply looks ahead, his expression unreadable. Confused by the lack of response, his companion asks what he's looking at. He urges his companion forward, a hint of impatience in his tone, declaring he will be late for his academy, while Hong Sung-hoo's eyes widen in a mixture of surprise and distress. Suddenly, a menacing group of orcs appears, their crude armor and weapons glinting in the dim light, blocking their path. A guttural chittering echoes through the air as a group of monstrous orcs emerge, their forms hulking and menacing. Observing the unexpected appearance, Kong Woo-jin finds the situation quite surprising, while Hong Sung-hoo stands beside him, equally taken aback. These aren't mere fodder. A formidable assembly of orc sorcerers and warriors, each radiating significant power, stands ready. In the world of Alpheus, where various races like humans, elves, dwarves, and beastmen coexist, orcs are a recognized, albeit dangerous, species. Woo-jin's gaze sharpens, a silent contemplation passing over his features as he processes their presence. Then, with a direct challenge, he demands to know their purpose. The orcs, startled by his sudden address, react with visible surprise. A low, rumbling growl ripples through their ranks as they shift uneasily. He stands before the imposing orcs, one of them demanding to know his identity and how he emerged from their Earth's rift. Unfazed, he simply states his name, Kong Woo-jin. Dismissing the orc's initial query as unimportant, he presses for clarification on the Earth's rift comment, asserting his absolute ownership over everything. The orc falls silent, taken aback by his audacity. After a moment, the creature explains they lost their home, prompting Woo-jin to confirm if they conquered it, which the orc readily affirms. A larger, more formidable orc steps forward, declaring their presence is due to a contract with someone unseen. His hand tightens around the hilt of a massive axe, emphasizing the weight of their agreement. With a roar, the orc proclaims Earth will become their new home. But before the threat can fully materialize, a brilliant, light blue blade flashes upward, cutting through the air with impossible speed. A faint crackle echoes as Woo-jin smirks, his thoughts dismissing their claims. Earth never truly belonged to them, rendering any contract utterly useless. He stands firm, a blade of pure blue energy flaring to life in his hand, as he challenges the encroaching horde, demanding to know how they dare invade this place, questioning if they possess a death wish. His stance unwavering, the ethereal glow of his weapon illuminates the ground around him. In response, the orc leader bellows, commanding his warriors to charge towards their enemies. The horde surges forward, a wave of green-skinned muscle and fury. His gaze sharpens, a silent resolve hardening his features as the first of the attackers close in. Then, he moves, a blur of motion as he carves through the charging orcs, striking one down with swift precision. Another orc recoils, its face contorted in agony from the impact. As the battle rages, Sung-hoo observes the chaos, his voice laced with concern as he admits to his companion that the situation looks pretty bad. 6 hours and 20 minutes had passed without a single word, a day already gone within the dungeon. As young Minchan stood waiting, his expression etched with deep concern. The thought of two figures, barely visible as they entered the A-rank dungeon, made Heyman question aloud. They cleared it? An A-rank dungeon, just the two of them. Below them, the entrance to the dungeon yawned open, a dark abyss into which Hong Sung stared, his voice filled with dread as he murmured. Down disappeared. Minchan could only offer a silent plea. Please. His voice then rose, a desperate command echoing into the void. Come out. He continued to implore, his hope dwindling. Please come out alive. The dark, empty stairwell of the dungeon offered no reply. And Minchan, standing beside Heyman, finally conceded, they're not out yet. I guess it was too much for them. With a heavy sigh, he resigned himself to the grim reality. Sigh. Let's pack up then. Then, a distinct click echoes, followed by another, signaling a shift in the oppressive silence. Sungho, startled by the sound, quickly turns, a flicker of surprise crossing his face as he realizes they still need to carry the spoils. Still peering into the dark abyss of the dungeon entrance, Minchan and Heyman remain, a silent question hanging heavy in the air between them. A wide grin spreads across his face, as he enthusiastically congratulates Wu Jin on making it out in one piece. Wu Jin, looking utterly exhausted, can only muster a tired question, wondering why his friend is so happy. The survival kit, glowing faintly on the ground, serves as a reminder of what was left behind, though its contents were still useful. Later, in the quiet of a car, Wu Jin reviews information on a tablet, noting the high cost of crocodile leather, while Heyman drives. Sungho, still beaming, insists that Wu Jin remember to bring it back next time. He ponders the value of his recent haul, confirming the Bloodstone excavation and Monster Corpse are secured, all part of his grand dream to become a one-man guild master. As Heyman drove, Kong Wu Jin, still processing the dungeon's aftermath, heard a voice from the back seat, asking what was the matter. Heyman spotted two familiar figures ahead, recognizing one as Miho, and instructed Wu Jin to drive up to them. As the car approached, a hand reached out, calling out Jaemin. The young man with glasses, Hong Sung-Hu, looked up in surprise, a question mark hanging in the air. The car pulled to a stop beside them, and Sung-Hu exclaimed, Hyung. Beside him, his older sister watched the interaction, a hint of concern on her face. Sung-Hu leaned into the car, playfully asking if Wu Jin was on a date with his girlfriend, only to quickly correct himself. Bleg. No, she's my older sister. Turning to his sister, Sung-Hu explained, Nuna, this is the Hyung that helped me. I told you about him before. Her eyes widened in recognition, as she began to speak, Are you? He turns, a familiar voice calling his name. Meanwhile, at the Heyman Guild, a different kind of tension brews. A document detailing a vice president position lies open, hinting at significant changes. Inside, Heyman and Young Minchan are deep in discussion, the former questioning the extent of their current efforts. Suddenly, a notification sounds, announcing the arrival of Vice President Park Jinwoo. Young Minchan enters the room, surprised to find Heyman already there. He quickly announces his departure, urging Heyman to continue their discussions. Watching him leave, Heyman wonders aloud what could be troubling the team leader. Young Minchan ponders the latest rumors, wondering if the talk of a micro-guild and a vice president position holds any truth. He expresses his concern to Heyman, feeling they are already overwhelmed, but Heyman insists on the importance of recruiting talented individuals. Heyman, however, dismisses Minchan's earlier misfortune, urging him not to be so harsh on himself. Minchan, still preoccupied, shifts the conversation, his thoughts turning to how the individual in question managed to reach America. He reveals that rumors are already circulating about their arrival, while Heyman reiterates the need to secure talented individuals. Minchan can only lament the truth behind the whispers. Meanwhile, a mysterious figure with long white hair stands before a city skyline, a narration box identifying them as someone who emerged from a dungeon. A voice asks about her condition. Revealing that nothing has changed, she remains unable to comprehend their language, repeating only unknown words. A mysterious white-haired woman stands silhouetted against a city nightscape, her thoughts a jumble of fragmented words, suggesting a disability caused by deep physical trauma. Meanwhile, in a different location, the Titan Guild leader, A-grade awakened Dinkun, discusses her case with a green-haired subordinate, emphasizing her crucial role in uncovering a secret and instructing his subordinate to ensure she can communicate. Dinkun reflects on the 5 years they've spent in a metaphorical prison, eagerly anticipating the moment they will finally understand the true nature of these mysterious beings. Back with the white-haired woman, a single name escapes her lips, a soft, almost inaudible whisper of Jean. Her eyes begin to glow with an ethereal purple light as the name becomes clearer, a desperate, echoing call. Woo, Jean. As night falls over the city, lights begin to flicker on in the apartment buildings. And within one of them, the soft glow of a desk lamp illuminates a workspace, accompanied by the faint sound of rustling paper. A calendar on the desk highlights several circled dates in October. As a hand diligently writes in a notebook, the pen moving with a clear, focused rhythm. Heyman, glasses perched on his nose, looks up from his work, a worried expression clouding his features, wondering if everything will truly be all right. Meanwhile, In a different setting, Woojin's eyes glow with a faint red light as he asks, "We're going to take a trip. You want to come with?" Later, holding a cup, he muses aloud, "Wow, since I'm going to think you guys are going to be together, it's been a while." It has been a while since she last saw him, and Hong Sung-h's sister can't help but comment on how popular Woojin was back in high school. As the memory takes hold, Woojin recalls a time when half the boys were probably secretly into her, a sentiment echoed by the sister, who remembers him being quite the catch in his younger days. She was truly awesome in those younger days, and Woojin internally admits that he was one of those boys. She was bright, always getting along with everyone, a stark contrast to his own reserved nature. The memory of her vibrant personality was Woojin's, a cherished fragment of his past. Snapping back to the present, he lets out a small gasp, then quickly deflects, claiming he just likes wearing hats. Taking a sip from his drink, Woojin thinks to himself that he knew she had a blunt personality, but there was always something more to her. He assures an unseen questioner that he is fine, before they ask if they can pose a question to him. He can't help but wonder, could he be right? Has Woojin ever dated anyone in his life? As his friend sketches intently, he observes, it looks like he's really into this extremely pretty sister. A small sound escapes as a hand adjusts a hat, and the friend declares, "Then this atmosphere won't do. Now, Hyungnim, let's play a game." Woojin looks surprised, asking, "Huh? A game?" As his friend insists, "It's boring to drink alcohol without playing games." Woojin, still confused, asks, "What game are you talking about?" Bottles of alcohol line the table as the friend's voice echoes, "Drink, drink, drink the alcohol." He begins to dance wildly, shouting, "Pour, pour, pour, pour. Let's do the shoulder dance. Oh, look at my shoulders." Woojin watches his friend's antics, a single thought running through his mind. Oh, dislocation, 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 dislocation. As the night wore on, Woojin's friend, still energetic despite the alcohol, called out to Sungho's sister, urging her to sit down before she broke her shoulders. He then let out a sudden, drunken gasp, his eyes wide with surprise. The table was littered with empty bottles, a testament to their evening's indulgence, as Woojin and his friend continued their drinking. Sungho's sister, however, had clearly reached her limit, slumped over the table in a deep, drunken sleep. A soft thud echoed as her head shifted, her unconscious form barely stirring. Another gentle bump followed, her body slowly sliding further down. Woojin, still somewhat lucid, looked on with a bewildered expression, a soft huh escaping his lips. His friend, however, was far beyond bewilderment, muttering to himself, convinced he was hallucinating as Sungho's sister lay sprawled on the floor. Woojin's friend then wondered if she had already gotten a burn, before Woojin, clutching his head, groaned that his own head was dead. The world swam around him, a dull ache throbbing behind his eyes. He drifted in and out of consciousness, the effects of the night's indulgence still heavy upon him. Meanwhile, his friend sighed, muttering about the situation being overdramatic as he reached for the passed-out girl's hat. The sister of Hong Sung-hoo lay motionless, her face hidden beneath the brim of her yellow hat. Outside the establishment, his friend suggested they find a cab for her before heading home themselves. Time passed, and the city's buildings stood silent under the clear sky. Slowly, her eyes fluttered open, a wave of confusion washing over her as the hat was gently removed. She sat up in bed, disoriented, her gaze sweeping the unfamiliar room as she mumbled, "Where is?" Stepping into the kitchen, she found her brother, Hong Sung-hoo, who greeted her with a simple, "Awake?" Realization dawned as she looked around. "Ah, it's my house," she said, still confused. "How did I get here?" A young student, already dressed for the day, urges someone to hurry, concerned about being late for his academy, while a quiet instruction to get cleaned up hangs in the air. Meanwhile, a door clicks open, and she finds herself staring into a mirror, a yellow hat in her hand. A wave of confusion washes over her as she tries to place her surroundings, a soft huh escaping her lips. Her mind races, a sudden, mortifying realization hitting her. She had slept naked with him, a memory that makes her gasp in disbelief. A fragmented memory surfaces, showing Woojin carrying her through the night, passed out, and in the end, he had seen her in that vulnerable state. Her gaze falls upon a faint scar near her temple, triggering another, older memory, one from 5 years ago. It was a time when monsters from a dungeon break had attacked her, leaving her with this terrible scar. She looks at her reflection, a deep insecurity surfacing, wishing he hadn't seen her past, wanting him to remember her differently. With a sigh, she pulls the yellow hat over her head, covering the mark, a quiet thought echoing that it's not a big deal, and she's still pretty. Her heart pounds, a frantic rhythm echoing the turmoil within, as a tremor runs through her, leaving her clutching a yellow hat, her eyes wide with a silent, desperate plea. Meanwhile, the school day begins, students filing into classrooms, though one young man seems lost in thought. Until the teacher's voice cuts through, calling out, "Yes, Woojin." He raises his hand slowly, a hesitant ah escaping him, as the teacher looks on, then offers a gentle smile, saying, "Okay," before writing a note, instructing him to come to the faculty office after school. As he walks through the school halls, a female classmate asks if they have everything they need. Before remarking on Woojin's speed, and then revealing she has something important to tell him. A thought crosses her mind that he doesn't listen to her much anymore, a common trait during puberty, and he simply acknowledges her words. She reflects on how they finally started talking after the first semester, suggesting they get along for the rest of the year, a sentiment he readily agrees with. Then, she asks him to lend her a hand for a second, and he inquires about her request. As she begins to explain, the scene abruptly shifts to a small black cat, who cheerfully calls out to its master, urging him to wake up. The cat then asks if its master slept well. As a man with dark, spiky hair slowly opens his eyes, waking from his slumber. Confused, he questions the cat, wondering if it used something on him while he was sleeping, to which the cat simply replies with a soft Naya. A quiet morning settles over a spacious, well-appointed home. Inside, a younger man greets Kong Woo-jin, who sits on his bed, asking if he slept well. Woo-jin simply affirms, acknowledging the younger man's respectful address. Later, holding his phone, he muses on the scarcity of Tier 4 dungeons, lamenting how major guilds have monopolized them all. A thoughtful expression crosses his face as he considers his next move, a silent wish for a past connection etched onto his shirt. Then, a clear path forward emerges, revealed through a contact list on his phone. A subtle smile plays on his lips, as he reflects on his past self, perhaps contemplating how far he has come. Kong Woo-jin, holding his phone to his ear, assures the person on the other end that he'll be right there, asking them to just wait a little longer, though his expression betrays his own impatience, muttering, 15 minutes. I can't wait any longer. Later, sitting at a desk with a friend, Woo-jin continues his call, while his companion asks, who do you think? Woo-jin, still on the phone, confidently replies, he's the man. He'll be back. Suddenly, the distinct sound of a door bursting open echoes through the room, causing Woo-jin's friend to exclaim in surprise, oh. Woo-jin, still holding his phone, offers a quick apology, sorry for the wait. As Heyman steps into the room, a smile gracing his lips, he begins to speak, what do? He finds himself in an interview, as the recruiter, a man in a sharp suit, begins by asking about his search for a hotel room, noting the difficulty of finding one in Sunwoo today. Taking a moment to type on his laptop, the recruiter confirms the discussion is about the guild's welfare program. He proudly states that his department specializes in such arrangements, eliciting a quiet acknowledgement. The recruiter then inquires if he had stayed in a hotel the previous night, promising that if he joins them, he'll enjoy all the hotels he desires. Of course, they would also provide a nice home if preferred, a proposition Heyman internally notes as a familiar tactic from the older man. Elsewhere, Woo-jin, listening in, finds the offer quite appealing. The recruiter continues, highlighting the guild's efficiency by showing how quickly they clear high-level dungeons, with 4-star dungeons being cleared in just 10 minutes today. Woo-jin reacts with an impressed, oh you got it, internally acknowledging the guild's superior capabilities. The recruiter, pleased, thanks him for the compliments. The modern facade of Young University gleams under the bright sun. Inside, an assistant confirms the arrangements, as the recruiter acknowledges the appointment has been set. With a moment to spare before their next engagement, Heyman suggests to Woo-jin that they find a nearby spot for tea to review some information. He hopes to go over the details before Woo-jin enters the next phase, who readily agrees, acknowledging the help it would provide. A dark, intense aura begins to emanate from Woo-jin, his eyes glowing crimson, as he confidently asserts the value of the rare information they extract from the guilds. His glowing gaze remains fixed, finding the prospect truly exciting. Heyman, taken aback by the sudden intensity, can only utter a surprised sound. Suddenly, the city street reveals a building marked with a significant event. A dungeon reset is underway. Observing the phenomenon alongside a companion, Heyman admits it's his first time witnessing such a sight. As the city around him began to shift, a voice urgently called out, oh no, Heyman, hurry up and call the guys. He quickly responded, oh, okay. A piercing, high-pitched wail echoed through the air, as a building in the distance began to glow with an unnatural light, drawing the attention of both Heyman and Woo-jin. His gaze fixed on the spectacle, Woo-jin's expression hardened with a mix of awe and grim understanding. A murmuring crowd had already gathered, with reporters and camera crews swarming the perimeter, capturing the unfolding event, while Heyman and Hong Sung-ha's sister watched from a slight distance. Barricades quickly went up, bearing stark no entry signs to keep the curious public at bay. The building continued to shimmer, its ethereal glow pulsating against the clear blue sky, a beacon of the extraordinary. Woo-jin's intense gaze remained fixed on the phenomenon, his mind undoubtedly processing the implications of such a powerful event. Among a small group of officials, Heyman, Woo-jin, and Hong Sung-ha's sister observed the building, as a voice declared, has been completed. A question mark hung in the air, reflecting the uncertainty of the situation. Woo-jin continued to stare at the now fully transformed structure, as the fundamental categories of dungeon status began to be explained. First, new. As he observes the digital display, Woo-jin watches the building undergo a reset, then finally break. He continues to process the information, recalling how minds are created, a concept he's likely seen in the news. These are the dungeons that have been cleared before, where monsters spawn and awakened are sent to hunt and collect bloodstones. Heyman explains that these mines are maintained for months, but if they reach a time limit without being cleared, a new dungeon is created, prompting Woojin to acknowledge the process. At that very moment, the dungeon is marked as new, the most dangerous status for Awakened, causing him to pause. Turning to him, Heyman asks if this implies a first cleared dungeon for sure. To put it simply, Heyman clarifies, whoever clears it first, gets it, a statement that ignites a fierce determination in Woojin's eyes. Heyman then asks if he intends to try it, to which Woojin responds with unwavering conviction, stating there's nothing stopping him. Heyman vehemently disagrees, explaining that a first cleared dungeon is extremely dangerous compared to mines that only spawn basic mobs. He listens as Heyman explains that the guild will cover the costs, but that also means he won't receive the rewards for clearing the dungeon himself. Heyman continues, clarifying that while the rules state ownership goes to the first person to clear it, it's only after they've been reset that a chance opens up. He elaborates on how the dungeon's rank is measured, and how the dungeon reset event, which happens frequently, offers a new opportunity. Pointing to a holographic display, Heyman explains the ranking system further. A 4-star dungeon is C rank, a 5-star would be B rank, and 6-star dungeons would only allow for even higher ranks. He then reiterates, confirming the crucial detail, asking if Woojin understood that they were discussing a 5-star rank. A subtle smirk plays on Woojin's lips, his eyes glowing with a faint red light as he processes the information. A sharp, electronic beep sounds. The holographic screen updates, displaying a clear message. This is a 5-star dungeon. Woojin's gaze intensifies, his red eyes burning with an unyielding resolve, the challenge of a 5-star dungeon now squarely in his sights. He listens as Heyman dismisses the idea of pursuing the reset dungeon, suggesting it's already out of their reach. Suddenly, a collective gasp ripples through the room, as if something unexpected has just appeared. The Red Jay Guild, known for their swift movements, bursts onto the scene, their presence immediately felt. Heyman observes the situation, remarking that it seems the Warang Guild will be claiming this particular dungeon. A prominent member of the Red Jay Guild, a woman in striking red armor, looks on with a hint of surprise, as if recognizing something amiss. Meanwhile, in a dimly lit chamber, a woman wielding a staff questions a past decision, wondering why someone would cease involvement with such guilds. A man with a chilling smile responds, his voice laced with defiance, asserting that he won't simply accept the situation as it stands. The armored figures of the Red Jay Guild continue their determined advance. As he walks, Heyman remarks that the 5-star dungeon is already here, predicting it will be a breeze to clear for the A-rank hunters. Suddenly, a striking woman with long, vibrant red hair and sharp, crimson eyes appears, her gaze fixed on him. Unaware of the new presence, Heyman continues, musing that if this is a 5-star dungeon, then the gear must be incredibly cool. The red-haired woman steps forward, warning him that this is a 5-star dungeon, and it's not a place for him. But he quickly retorts, telling her to stop with the nonsense and get lost. He reiterates his command, telling her to stop trying to act like a hero. A smirk plays on her lips as she responds, acknowledging his words with a knowing tone. Turning his back on the red-haired woman, he continues walking with Heyman, leaving her behind. Heyman, confused by the exchange, asks why he was talking to her like that. He glances back, a slight "oh" escaping his lips as he sees the red-haired woman still standing there, watching them go. Woojin continues his stride, his footsteps echoing softly. Suddenly, a voice cries out a frantic warning, wait. Behind you. A moment later, a sharp realization dawns, oh. He feels a sudden shove from behind, sending him tumbling down a flight of stairs, the impact jarring him as he thinks, I guess I got pushed in. A sudden shove sends a red-haired man reeling, his eyes wide with alarm as he cries out, wait a minute. Behind you. The force of the push sends him tumbling down the escalator, a desperate realization escaping his lips. I got pushed. At the top of the moving stairs, Kong Woojin stands, observing the chaos unfold below him. The red-haired man tumbles further, his body a blur against the bright station lights. He finally crashes at the bottom, landing near a glowing, ominous portal that has opened at the escalator's end. From a distance, another young man, clad in a blue hoodie, watches the scene with wide eyes, murmuring in disbelief. As someone dropped into the dungeon, is Hyungnim. He finds himself in a vast desert, a stark contrast to the subway station, observing a strange, glowing anomaly. As his foot presses into the soft sand, the ground before him violently erupts. A massive sandworm, level 40, bursts forth with a piercing shriek, its segmented body churning the desert floor. Kong Woojin, unfazed by the aggressive welcome, leaps effortlessly over the creature's initial lunge. The sandworm's cavernous maw, lined with razor-sharp teeth and glowing with an eerie light, snaps shut just beneath him. He prepares his counterattack, a vibrant blue aura flaring around his hand, recognizing that monsters, regardless of their environment, are all fundamentally the same. After the brief skirmish, he kneels, digging into the sand with a small blade. Curious about something he's found, he stares at the mysterious object, a faint glow emanating from his hand as it begins to stir, a surprised exclamation escaping him. The rope-like mass in the sand twitches, its form subtly shifting. With a sudden burst of energy, it rapidly shapeshifts, glowing intensely as it transforms into something far more menacing. From the sand, several segmented, worm-like creatures burst forth, their forms solidifying with heavy thuds. But the battle is swift, and Kong Wujin stands victorious over the defeated monsters, confident in his unique skill. He muses that identifying them quickly allowed him to gain more experience. Surveying the vast desert, he spots something in the distance, his gaze sharpening. A determined glint in his eyes, he wonders if there are even more challenges awaiting him. His hand tightens around his staff, a silent promise of impending action. Then, with explosive speed, he charges across the sand, a blur of motion towards his next encounter. He finds himself amidst a sudden, violent explosion, the force of it rocking the very air around him. Yet, the noxious gas that follows cannot penetrate his defenses, leaving him utterly unharmed. Around him, the remnants of the attack reveal solid, bone-like fragments, a testament to his resilience. Reaching down, he effortlessly collects one of these solid bones, adding it to his inventory. Another powerful blast erupts nearby, signaling further dangers within the dungeon. Undeterred, he calmly reaches into his pouch, preparing for what lies ahead. This place, he muses, these 5-star dungeons are truly on a different level, he thinks, as he takes a restorative gulp from a potion. They are indeed a challenge worthy of his attention. On the bustling streets of the city, a quiet tension hums beneath the surface. As a young man walks by, a voice remarks, "Ah, he's showing up. I guess he's doing it already." Another voice, filled with disbelief, questions, "He's not just hanging in there, he's raiding it. How can a C-grade bastard raid it?" From a higher vantage point, Kong Wujin observes the commotion, while a voice urges, "Let it go, Sung-gu. He should trust in him and wait for him." Sung-hu, however, remains unconvinced. "But do you really think he could conquer the dungeon?" His face set with determination, Sung-hu declares, "Hyung-nim will definitely come back alive." As others press him, "Please talk to us," he firmly replies, "I can't tell you anything about it." Sung-hu looks down, lost in thought, as an observer notes, "This teenager is really weird." As Sung-hu walks away, the observer continues, "Since he's been here, we've heard about him in the news. In any case, if he doesn't come back then." He considers the implications, his heart pounding with a quiet anticipation. It would mean that Korea had finally produced its first awakened, a momentous occasion that sent tremors through the nation. A sudden, sharp sound cuts through the air. Deep within a dungeon, the protagonist continues his relentless grind, his body surging with power as he reaches level 20, then 21. The notifications flash again, confirming his ascent to level 25. Clad in a dark, hooded cloak and wielding a formidable spear, he stands victorious over a pile of defeated skeletal foes, a silent testament to his growing strength. A blinding flash of light engulfs him. He finds himself in a desolate, sandy expanse, surrounded by more skeletal figures, a weary thought echoing in his mind. It's going to be endless, no matter how much I walk. His expression shifts to one of surprise and concern, as if confronted by an unexpected challenge. He finds himself standing in a vast, desolate desert, ancient ruins crumbling under the harsh sun. Looking around, he can't find any other people, wondering if this place is truly abandoned. Before he can process the thought, a sudden, unseen force slams into him, his eyes widening in shock. He cries out, recoiling violently from the impact, landing hard on the ground as he demands to know which bastard was it. His gaze falls upon a group of green-skinned, armored figures in the distance, realizing with a jolt that it was a Naga. The largest among them, a towering warrior with glowing eyes, steps forward, challenging him directly. "Who are you? For what reason do you invade our holy lands?" Kong Wujin's mind races, recognizing the Temple of Arya from his visions, and he wonders if Haman knew about this place. Dismissing the thought, he realizes there's no way his companion could know about Arya, the goddess of foresight. A more pressing question forms in his mind. What if a follower of Arya had died on Earth? Meanwhile, the Naga leader, his face contorted in a furious snarl, declares their cooperation with Tronet is solely for the purpose of punishment. Wujin, surrounded by the leader and 2 other Naga guards, questions if they are a cult, to which the leader confirms with a simple, direct answer. His thoughts then drift to the blue-eyed priestess who abandoned Alphen and escaped to Earth, a glowing red sword appearing in his mind's eye as he processes the information. The full weight of the realization settles upon him. The blue-eyed priestess is indeed on Earth. He tells the Naga leader that since they've captured her, it's no longer his problem. But then his resolve hardens, a surge of power emanating from him as he declares he can't let them return to Earth. Just as they protect their god, he intends to protect Earth as well. He had just declared his intent to protect Earth, when a blade suddenly pierced through the very fabric of their surroundings. As the Naga leader's voice echoed, confirming his wishes to crush them before heading to Earth. Caught off guard, Wujin and his companions found themselves plummeting through a shimmering portal, a sudden, forced teleportation that left him exclaiming in disbelief, "Stealth." A diverse group of enemies, some human-like, others monstrous, prepares to strike, their leader declaring they will go all out to finish him before heading to Earth. Suddenly, a sharp impact jolts him, a stealth attack he hadn't anticipated, leaving him stunned and questioning the enemy's hidden abilities. From a rooftop vantage, he surveys the overwhelming numbers below, a frustrated sigh escaping him as he acknowledges the unfairness of being ganged up on. His gaze sharpens, assessing the chaotic scene, his mind racing to formulate a counter-strategy. The inability to sense his attackers weighs heavily on him, a dangerous thought forming about the implications for ordinary people if such threats were to reach Earth. Another unseen blow lands, forcing a pained grunt from him, as he realizes their stealth capabilities far exceed his current skill level. His skeleton soldiers stand ready, but he knows their current form won't be enough, acknowledging that this fight won't be fast with them as they are. With a determined expression, he accesses his skill point distribution, deciding to change his skeleton soldier's class to elite to turn the tide. He stands before the monstrous Naga leader and its skeletal forces, who let out a low, guttural growl. With a swift, decisive motion, he draws his sword, the blade humming with a faint purple energy as around him. The very bones of his summoned skeletons begin to crack and shift, their forms undergoing a rapid transformation, a system notification flashing to confirm that his skeleton soldier summon skill has reached level 5, triggering a significant change in their appearance. As if in response, a skull glows with an intense, flaring purple light, signifying the surge of power, and moments later, two formidable, armored skeleton soldiers stand ready, their shields and spears gleaming. He takes a firm, resolute stance, his newly upgraded summons now positioned behind him, facing the stunned enemy. "You miss every shot you don't take," he mutters, his gaze fixed on the opposition, leaving the Naga leader to stare back in bewildered surprise. The battle erupts as a horde of Naga grunts, their guttural cries echoing through the ruins, charges forward with spears raised. But they are met by an unyielding wall of bone and steel, as Wujin's elite skeleton summons clash head-on, their own battle cries a chilling counterpoint. Amidst the chaos, Kong Wujin himself moves like a phantom, delivering a powerful, mid-air kick that sends a Naga grunt sprawling. His blade glows with a fierce energy, slashing through another foe with blinding speed. Another swift kick, and a third Naga is sent flying. As projectiles whistle past him, he deftly weaves through the barrage, untouched. With a final, resounding impact, he strikes down another grunt, silencing its pained cry. Despite his relentless assault, Wujin lets out a frustrated curse, realizing the sheer number of enemies still pressing in. Without hesitation, he extends a hand, a glowing sigil forming as he calls forth a bone spear. The spectral weapon streaks forward, piercing cleanly through one of the reptilian grunts. Another grunt recoils in annoyance, a low TSK, escaping its throat as it witnesses its comrade fall. Wujin closes the distance, his blade flashing as he shouts, "Die!" at another approaching Naga. As more enemies converge, he slams a hand to the ground, a formidable bone wall, erupting to shield him from the onslaught. The jagged barrier rises instantly, its bony structure absorbing the force of the charging grunts. He observes the relentless enemies, noting that they're not giving me an inch, their persistence unwavering. The hunter acknowledges the significant difference in levels between them, but more importantly, the sheer disadvantage of so many close-quarters combat specialists. Still facing the relentless Naga grunts, he finds himself in a truly terrible and troublesome situation. In this dire moment, even his summoned allies, BB and the skeleton mage, are unable to help him. The only things he can truly rely on are his skeleton soldiers, but even they are being demolished faster than he can summon them. He observes them killing their opponents with ease, realizing he cannot win this fight under these circumstances. With a sharp, decisive sound, he grips a bone firmly in his hand. Far from the battle, a news report details a major incident, announcing that the victim, Kong Wujin, has awakened. This awakening, a significant event, has been considered nothing short of a miracle until now. Hammer Guild Master Bei, observing the news, remarks that they really have to go all the way to sell these guys. His associate agrees, noting that even though they're just playing around with a 2-star guild over this, they're sure to throw it off. Still contemplating the situation, Bei considers the absent parties, thinking he will have to address them upon their return. He then urges his associate to eat, who in turn expresses concern for Bei's own well-being, suggesting he should eat to avoid getting sick. The conversation shifts to the duration of high-level raids, with the average initial time for a 5-star raid being 12 hours, and the uncertainty of how much longer the current one might take. Meanwhile, far from the guild's concerns, Kong Wujin prepares a simple meal, frying an egg. He decides to eat for now, taking a moment to refuel amidst his own challenges. The aftermath of his efforts is clear, as a skeleton lies broken on the ground, its bones cracking and glowing with residual energy from a devastating blow. The scene reveals multiple shattered skeletons scattered across the desolate landscape, with the Naga leader standing tall amidst the destruction, observing the results of the battle. He stands before the Naga leader, who questions his audacity, asking if he truly intended to invade the shrine with such meager preparations. The Naga, seated on the ground, observes him intently, as the young man smirks, admitting that a 5-star dungeon was indeed tougher than he had anticipated. The Naga leader, however, remains unconvinced, questioning if he truly possessed the freedom to make such a bluff. With a dismissive gesture of his hand, the Naga leader asserts that it is no bluff at all. He rises to his full height, towering over the young man, who now sits on the ground, a question mark hanging in the air. Suddenly, a golden aura erupts around him, and he declares, with a confident smile, that he has just leveled up. The Naga leader, recognizing the power, mutters about the level 30 special Harmon skill, while the young man, still glowing, questions the Naga's sudden panic. Overwhelmed by the unexpected display of power, the Naga leader turns and flees the scene in a desperate dash, leaving the shrine behind. He brings his glowing fist down with immense force, causing a massive sand golem, summoned by the very environment, to roar in pain as cracks spiderweb across its form. The Naga leader watches, speechless and terrified, as the display of power unfolds before him. A confident smirk plays on the hunter's lips. As the massive golem groans its last, its form disintegrating into glowing dust around him. He grins, a subtle glow emanating from his form, then extends a hand, declaring the battle over. The last remnants of the golem's hand shatter into countless fragments. As the confrontation escalates, a swift, snake-like creature, its eyes glowing with an eerie light, strikes a Naga's hand with brutal force. In response, the Naga leader, spear in hand, barks orders to his soldiers, demanding they get into formation. Meanwhile, Kong Wujin, a confident smirk playing on his lips, issues his own command, sending his servant forth. Another of his summons, a massive hand of glowing sand, crushes a Naga's hand with overwhelming force. Despite the onslaught, the Naga soldiers continue their advance, charging forward through the desert landscape. The battlefield becomes a maelstrom of sand and dust, obscuring the ancient ruins that the desolate landscape. Amidst the chaos, a weathered statue of an angelic figure stands partially buried, a silent witness to the destruction. The wind howls across the ravaged terrain, carrying the dust and the echoes of battle over the remaining structures. Finally, Kong Wujin steps through the aftermath, his boot crunching on the sand, declaring the battle's end with a chilling finality. The Naga leader looks up, a flicker of surprise crossing his face, as he questions Wujin's methods, demanding if he has nothing else but numbers. His expression twists into a snarl, calling Wujin an impudent brat. But before he can act, a sudden, unseen force slams into him, radiating with intense orange energy. Wujin, a confident smirk playing on his lips, activates a new ability, declaring it Shapeshift, Hammer. Instantly, two ethereal, glowing purple hammers materialize, ready for his command. With a powerful motion, he kicks up a cloud of sand, preparing to unleash a skill known as Whirlwind. His foot spins rapidly, generating a powerful vortex of sand around him. The Naga leader snarls, teeth bared in a furious grimace. As his body begins to glow with a menacing red-orange aura, a primal roar escaping his throat. But before the creature can fully unleash its power, Kong Wujin moves, activating his Shapeshift, Hammer skill. A massive, glowing hammer materializing in his grasp as he initiates the Whirlwind skill, swinging it with devastating force. The impact is immediate and brutal, a fierce cry of die, echoing through the air. He continues his assault, the hammer glowing with raw power. A confident smirk spreading across his face as he prepares to activate another ability. A torrent of swirling yellow and purple energy erupts, engulfing his foe. The powerful impact of his previous attack reverberates, leaving the ground scorched and the air thick with residual energy. He stands victorious over the fallen Naga leader, who lies defeated on the desolate ground. Blood drips from the creature's hand, a testament to the overwhelming force it just endured. Bastard, the Naga snarls, struggling to rise. Are you trying to prove that you're a higher class than others? Its eyes narrow in disbelief. I never thought that there was someone this strong among the Earthlings. The very scales on its body begin to crack and splinter under the lingering pressure of the blow. With a desperate roar, the creature lunges. I won't die before I fulfill my calling. But before it can connect, a blinding flash of light erupts from him, engulfing the charging Naga in a torrent of swirling energy. A confident smirk plays on his lips as he watches the creature recoil, so talkative for someone who's half dead. He stood amidst the aftermath, several figures lying motionless around him, a silent testament to the chaos that had just unfolded. Yet, despite the recent turmoil, he found a moment of peace, savoring a bowl of ramen. Despite everything that's happened, he mused, I still believe this ramen is delicious, but... His eyes widened in surprise as he realized. Did you order mine too? Before he could ponder it further, a familiar voice called out. Hyungnim. Hong Sunggu, his red hair a vibrant streak, burst onto the scene, brandishing a camera and shouting, Camera! He continued to demand, Give me the camera, while Wu Jin, ever the concerned elder, asked, Hong Sunggu, are you injured anywhere? Sunggu, seemingly oblivious to the question, looked at him with surprise. Oh, you're still here. He then muttered to himself, I couldn't have said things like that. The thought of Kong Wu Jin, the disaster, who was so bad, lingered in the air. The news spread like wildfire, a red-haired reporter's face a mask of urgency as she delivered the breaking story. Her voice echoed through the city streets, urging her crew to publish the article quickly, announcing that Korea's 11th A-rank hunter had officially appeared. Meanwhile, the subject of all this sudden attention, Wu Jin, wore a confident, almost mischievous smirk. The news quickly reached the formidable Hammer Guild, a powerful organization in the hunter world. Inside, Guildmaster Bei received the urgent updates, detailing the event that occurred on Friday morning at 11 a.m. at the Seoul National University Station exit 8th entrance. His eyes widened in disbelief, uttering a stunned, "What? What is this?" Meanwhile, the newly recognized A-rank hunter found himself surrounded by reporters, one pleading for an interview, asking him to share how he managed to survive and return. Woo Jin, however, was not interested, a hand firmly pushing away the microphone as he walked past the clamoring crowd, declaring, "We're not doing any interviews." Back at the Hammer Guild, Bei's shock deepened into a grim realization, muttering, "Shit. He cleared a 5-star by himself." An assistant confirms to Bei that the individual in question possesses exceptional talent, a fact Bei acknowledges with a thoughtful hum. The assistant then presses further, asking if the recent surge of A-rank hunters, all recruited by Bei's guild, implies Young Minshin's influence is at play, a question that hangs heavy in the air. Meanwhile, the news spreads that the Hammer Guild is poised to become the first in Korea to boast 3 awakened A-rank hunters, a monumental achievement that solidifies their dominance. A slow, satisfied grin spreads across Bei's face, his expression shifting from contemplation to triumphant certainty, as he declares with conviction that he always knew team leader Young would succeed. A tranquil view of bamboo swaying gently outside a window offers a moment of calm, a brief respite from the intense discussions of power and influence. The scene shifts to a table laden with food, where an unseen figure inquires about the progress of a plan, asking if everything is proceeding as intended. Perched on the shoulder of a partially visible individual, a small, cat-like creature responds, confirming good progress to the minister, but warns that with so many people involved, not a single mistake can be afforded. The minister listens as team leader Lee Gamong assures him that there is no need for concern. Their preparations are perfect, just as expected of him. Acknowledging his subordinate's efforts, the minister promises to reward him handsomely for his work. Just then, a sudden notification flashes across his phone screen, catching his attention. As he glances at the device, Lee Gamong asks if something has happened. The minister, however, dismisses it with a wave of his hand, assuring Lee Gamong that it is nothing of consequence. Meanwhile, the world continues its course, oblivious to the machinations of powerful figures. Kong Woojin's abilities are exceptional, yet his luck is not, and the world, for all its exceptional individuals, will never be truly manipulated. The minister, undeterred, continues to explain his grand vision, stating his intention to gather awakened individuals to prevent impending disaster, hoping for assistance in his endeavor. While the minister articulates his ambitious goals, Kong Woojin remains unimpressed by the efforts of others. He scoffs at the notion of their strength, declaring them all to be merely low-rank hunters. The minister muses that his counterparts still don't fully trust him, but he remains confident he will be able to meet with them again. He suspects that someone is hiding a secret from him. Regardless, he declares that he must recruit them no matter what, just as a notification catches his eye. He affirms his willingness to do anything for his plan, even involving Lee Gamong, and demands to know the details of the message, his expression unwavering. A sly smile spreads across his face as he thanks the unseen sender, revealing that there's someone specific he'd like to involve in the plan this time. A shocked voice questions how such a thing could be. The unseen speaker's disbelief turns to anguish, crying out in betrayal. Meanwhile, Kong Woojin, engrossed in his computer, mutters an apology, insisting that falling in love isn't a crime. He then curses, declaring that if others would just admit their feelings and ask for forgiveness, he might overlook their transgressions. He apologizes again, but clarifies that his love for her outweighs any other affection, before erupting in frustration, vehemently stating his hatred. He asks his companion to lower the volume, explaining that he's studying for exams. His companion responds with a questioning hum, to which he simply concedes, all right. A small cat appears, drawing his attention as he apologizes to Jaemin, noting the unexpected feline presence. He then asks Jaemin if he isn't worried, who simply replies with a confused about what. He explains that reporters have been swarming outside for 3 days, suggesting they remain indoors a few more days until the crowd disperses. Turning to Jaemin, he casually requests 2 bags of tangerines, while the cat lets out another soft niang. Jaemin, however, reminds his Hyung that he's currently in the middle of his exam period, his expression serious. He continues, explaining that the remaining money is allocated for academy fees, implying he can't afford to run errands. Without hesitation, he simply affirms, yes. Still on the phone, Woojin's voice tightens as he confirms the persistent presence of reporters, a situation that clearly frustrates him. As he processes the information, Jaemin approaches, a small black cat cradled in his arms, his expression a silent question. With a curt understood, Woojin concludes the call, promising to handle whatever task was requested later. Jaemin, sensing his senior's distress, places a hand on his shoulder, asking what troubles him. His concern deepens as he asks if Korea remains unified, a question hinting at larger societal anxieties. Woojin looks away, his frustration boiling over as he laments the appearance of dungeons and the continued separation they impose. Then, with a grave expression, Jaemin reveals the true source of his worry. He has received a draft letter. Inside a nondescript building, a man stands before a computer screen, his posture tense. A soft hiss escapes him as he processes the information displayed. His dark eyes narrow in disbelief, a mixture of shock and determination etched across his face. The screen reveals a top-secret proposal, avoiding mandatory military service by assassinating Kim Jong-un, to which the man declares, "That's right, let's go. Let's unite Korea." Behind him, Kang Woo-jin, looking concerned, urges, Hyungnim, please remain calm. Do you think Korea would be united if you killed him?" The man turns, his expression resolute, as he responds, "This is my best shot at avoiding military service. I have." A door clicks open, the sound echoing through the room. He stands over his friend, demanding to know what they are doing. Looking up at him, Sung-gu questions his concern. A few pieces of fruit lie scattered on the floor, perhaps dropped in surprise. Now sitting, Jaemin warns him not to enlist, explaining that awakened individuals are normally snatched into special forces, but there's another way to serve if one is truly concerned. He elaborates on the system. The Ministry of Defense recognizes guilds, which then helps subjugate monsters when asked. Jaemin confidently declares that he knows everything, his eyes burning with an intense resolve. Sung-gu, however, hangs his head, lamenting his own ignorance. At the Heian Guild, a wave of excitement washes over the office, as a jubilant guild member throws his arms up, exclaiming to team leader Hong that they've succeeded. But the team leader, sipping from his mug, seems less impressed, prompting the guild member to ask why he's making such a fuss and what exactly they've done. The guild member's confusion deepens as Hong's voice cuts through, asking if this means someone wants to join their guild. Suddenly, a new figure, Kang Woo-jin, stands before them, his back to the viewer, as he directly addresses the team leader, asking how he will be helped. Woo-jin turns, his expression sharp, explaining that by joining their guild, he'll gain access to high-grade information, then asks what kind of help the team leader needs, implying he's been waiting for this moment. His gaze remains intense, a silent testament to his unwavering resolve. A subtle smirk plays on his lips, as he internally confirms his strategy, confident that his sincerity has won them over. Team leader Young Min-kwon, having just secured a significant victory for the Heian Guild, is met with enthusiastic praise from his colleagues, though he attempts to downplay the achievement. His thoughts, however, are already on the next step, as he prepares for a crucial meeting with the president and chairman, a testament to his rising influence. With a confident stride, Young Min-kwon acknowledges his own capabilities, a quiet affirmation of his success. Approaching the president's office, he announces his arrival, ready to deliver the good news. Inside, the minister greets him warmly, eagerly inquiring about the progress of the negotiation with Kang Woo-jin. Min-kwon confirms the success, revealing that Woo-jin has indeed made contact, much to the minister's delight. The minister extends his hand, congratulating Young Min-kwon on his hard work and the successful recruitment. He then shifts the conversation, addressing the rumors of a vice president position and offering it to Min-kwon, contingent on his acceptance. The handshake solidifies the agreement, marking a significant promotion for the diligent team leader. As the elevator ascended, Min-kwon found himself on the 28th floor, ready for his next engagement. There, he finalized the deal with Guild Master Bae, confirming his approval with a firm handshake. Leaving the building, a polite farewell echoed, as he moved on to his next meeting. Meanwhile, in a bustling cafe, Woo-jin sat absorbed in his phone, seemingly unaware of the impending conversation. Soon, Min-kwon found himself face-to-face with a young man, who, upon hearing his proposal, could only utter a stunned, "What? Did I mishear you?" Min-kwon clarified, leaning forward, "You didn't. I'm asking you to create a guild with me." Woo-jin, still processing, questioned, "Aren't you here to talk to me about joining the Heian Guild? Why would I go there?" Min-kwon, undeterred, reiterated his plea for them to join forces. Min-kwon, flustered, admitted his initial misunderstanding. "We had thought that you were here to talk about the sponsorship contract with the Heian Guild, though, to receive such a proposal, so suddenly, I'm at a loss for words." Woo-jin's expression hardened, his voice sharp as he exclaimed, "Hey you!" Woo-jin could only stare, a single word escaping his lips as he processed the audacious proposal. The shock was palpable, a sudden jolt of realization hitting him. He let out a sigh. Min-kwon, sensing his hesitation, reminded him of his own journey, how difficult it was for an unawakened individual to climb the ranks to team leader within the Hammer Guild. Woo-jin still wrestled with the idea, unable to simply move guilds for monetary gain. Min-kwon pressed on, guaranteeing that their new venture would surpass even the Hammer Guild in growth. He then clarified his audacious proposal, asking them both to become founding members of his new guild. Later, driving alone, the vice president reflected on the conversation. He muttered to himself, confirming his decision to abandon his current position. He calls out to his companion, asking if the idea of an A-rank awakened like Woojin SSI forming a new guild doesn't sound cool. He emphasizes that no one has ever soloed a 5-star dungeon before. He then questions his own prospects, wondering how high he could truly climb on the corporate ladder if he remained in the Hammer Guild. Woojin silently acknowledges the truth in his words. Min Xuan's thoughts drift, acknowledging Kang Woojin's brighter future outside the Hammer Guild, yet also recognizing the difficulty of imagining a better place than the guild itself. He recalls a past conversation, lamenting how hard it was to surpass the founding members for a promotion, realizing it was already too late for him. He chastises himself for ever thinking team leader Jung had given up on him, concluding he should be grateful not to be ridiculed. With a determined glint in his eyes, he resolves his course of action. As he sits in the passenger seat, Minkwon confirms his decision, stating that he too will be leaving. His companion, the guild master, acknowledges the gravity of the choice, remarking that to climb higher, one must take risks, and calling it a great decision. Minkwon then asks if they should depart, to which the guild master responds with a question about his resignation letter. A slight smile plays on Minchuan's lips as he offers a wry observation, that all office workers are like this. The guild master, Bei, expresses surprise, asking if Minkwon is truly leaving too. Minkwon reiterates his earlier sentiment, that all office workers are like this. Later, as the car pulls away from the building, Minkwon reflects on his hard work and suggests they go for a drink to celebrate his new beginning. The elevator chimes, indicating it has reached the 11th floor. Stepping out into a dimly lit space, Minkwon questions why the lights are off. He stands, observing his colleagues, a question hanging in the air. Suddenly, a voice booms, congratulating team leader Young Minchon. He beams, surrounded by the festive atmosphere, as the congratulations for his promotion to vice president continue. Confetti bursts around him, the office filled with cheers and well wishes. A cake, adorned with candles, is presented before him. His colleagues gather, offering their heartfelt congratulations on his promotion. A genuine laugh escapes him, reflecting the joy of the moment. One colleague praises him as the genius behind their latest unbelievable negotiation. The applause swells, everyone acknowledging the new vice president, Young Minchon, with admiration. Amidst a bustling corporate gathering, a voice rings out, calling for everyone to acknowledge Vice President Young Minchon. As applause erupts, team leader Hong beams, clearly enjoying the recognition, with one attendee exclaiming admiration for his coolness. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifts as the president makes an unexpected appearance, drawing a surprised reaction from the vice president. Regaining his composure, Young Minchon announces with a hearty laugh that a booking has been made at a truly excellent restaurant, inviting everyone to a company dinner. His laughter is infectious, spreading to Bei and others around him. Later, the company dinner is in full swing, with numerous attendees enjoying the formal banquet. As the corporate dinner unfolds, the newly promoted vice president, Young Minchon, finds himself in a difficult position, his subordinates, Bei and Minister, expressing their frustration and hinting at resignation, while Kong Woojin stands quietly in the background. Overwhelmed by the pressure, he sighs, admitting he has no idea how to handle the situation. Suddenly, a hand extends a resignation letter towards him, a stark symbol of his growing predicament. Confused, the vice president questions the gesture, wondering why he is being handed such a document. As he holds the letter, the president walks past him, uttering a dismissive rascal under his breath. His subordinates continue to lament their woes, with Bei complaining about his appetite and Minister about his aching limbs, adding to the vice president's distress. Suddenly, the president turns back, extending a hand and beckoning him over, catching the vice president completely off guard. With a commanding tone, the president declares that they need to hear about his exploits, leaving the vice president with a look of utter shock and confusion. Addressing a small crowd, the president invites him to share his story, placing the bewildered vice president directly in the spotlight. He couldn't comprehend the depth of their anger, wondering why they were so furious, before the crushing realization hit him. He had failed. The president, his gaze sharp, demanded to know what he had just said. Bowing deeply, Young Minchon confessed his failure in contracting Kong Woojin, offering a sincere apology. A subtle clench of his fist betrayed the turmoil beneath his composed exterior. The executive pointed a stern finger, his expression unyielding. He scoffed, questioning if an apology alone could resolve the situation, then asked if Minchon truly wished to be fired. Minchon's eyes narrowed, a faint glow appearing as he retorted that he would be thankful if they did. The president's voice hardened, demanding if Minchon understood the immense effort it took to even chase after Kong Woojin, dismissing his apology as insufficient. He reflected on his own actions, recalling how he had cleared the dungeon schedule and allowed Kong Woojin free access. He had even paid penalties to rehabilitate the rank of the one they sought. The president counters, reminding him of the immense effort he personally invested in the recruitment. Minchon, however, stands firm, declaring he will take full responsibility for the situation, a claim the president immediately challenges, demanding to know how he intends to do so. Without hesitation, he slides a resignation letter across the table, offering to step down from the Hammer Guild. The president stares, incredulous, questioning if Minchon has lost his mind, pointing out that his position isn't significant enough for a resignation to truly count as taking responsibility. He then accuses Minchon of merely trying to escape the consequences of his actions. Minchon, however, meets his gaze, asking what other explanation could possibly be needed. A faint scoff escapes him. As he declares himself finished, too weary to even announce his departure, simply wishing the president a good day before turning to leave. Having finally delivered his resignation, Minchon walks away from the Hammer Guild building, a sense of finality settling over him. He feels a profound relief, a quiet satisfaction that he has done what was best for himself. With each step, he leaves the past behind, the guild's imposing structure fading in the distance. Suddenly, a voice cuts through the air, calling out to him and startling a nearby woman. Minchon turns, surprised to see a young man with glasses running towards him, questioning why he's still there. The young man grins, declaring his unwavering loyalty and urging his team leader to quickly join him. Nearby, the familiar sign of an Angel coffee shop glows. Just beyond it, a business room and PC bang await. The Ardell Guild, renowned as the world's premier virtual spelling guild, extends a formal welcome to its newest members. Observing the proceedings, team leader Hong stands with a younger associate, a thoughtful silence hanging between them. Kong Woo-jin, however, expresses his satisfaction with the new arrangement, eager to begin this new chapter. With a firm handshake, team leader Hong pledges his utmost dedication to his new boss, who in turn accepts his loyalty, as a third man in a suit nods in approval. The new leader encourages him to seek assistance whenever needed, and team leader Hong reaffirms his commitment to elevating the Ardell Guild's reputation. A familiar smile plays on Woo-jin's lips as he teases, wondering if he can still call his longtime associate Min-chan, a name he's used since team leader Hong was a rookie. He quickly retracts the thought, realizing such casualness might be inappropriate now. Team leader Hong, flustered, insists on being addressed by his new, more formal title, Team Leader Young. Accepting the change, Woo-jin places a hand on Team Leader Young's shoulder, entrusting him with the guild's operational settings, confident in his preparations. As the newly appointed team leader, Young Min-chan approaches his boss, Kong Woo-jin, with a question, inquiring if this is the day they are scheduled to meet and what they should discuss regarding Bei's request. Woo-jin, however, responds with a casual air, stating that Min-chan will be in charge of everything and should simply do what's needed, adding that he himself has no right to decide on the guild's operations, as he's just here to play. Min-chan processes this unexpected delegation, a flicker of unease crossing his features as he silently questions if it's truly acceptable for him to make all the decisions for the guild. Still grappling with the weight of his new role, he seeks reassurance, asking Woo-jin if he truly made the right choice in accepting this responsibility. A moment of awkward silence hangs in the air, broken only by Min-chan's hesitant cough, as he tries to regain his composure before addressing his boss once more. He suggests postponing the guild setup session, explaining that there's a crucial decision Woo-jin needs to make first. Woo-jin listens intently, his expression serious as he considers Min-chan's words. With Bei now observing, Min-chan elaborates on the necessity of recruiting new members from other awakened guilds, stressing that they first need to decide on the guild's name, a choice essential to its very identity and future. Woo-jin ponders this, then casually asks if they really need to let others use the dungeon, before concluding that he can simply raid it himself. Still contemplating the guild structure, Woo-jin acknowledges the truth in team leader Hong's words. Hong then presses on, inquiring if there are any further requirements, explaining that a minimum of 5 members is needed to officially establish the guild. Woo-jin considers this a thoughtful hum, escaping him as he realizes they still need one more person. Hong suggests bringing in Jaemin, but Woo-jin quickly dismisses the idea, explaining that Jaemin is still underage and therefore unable to work. A deep hum resonates from Woo-jin, his brow furrowed in thought. He pulls out his phone, scrolling through his limited contacts and lamenting his lack of connections. Even his own mother wouldn't be a suitable recruit, he muses, wondering what he should do. Suddenly, a thought strikes him, his eyes widening in recognition. He looks at the 2 men before him, a confident smile playing on his lips. Then, with a knowing glance, Woo-jin asks if they brought his identification card and seal. Bei confirms, holding up the documents, that he did indeed bring them. A sudden realization dawns on Bei, his eyes widening in shock as he begins to protest, a desperate heek escaping his lips. Before he can fully articulate his objection, Woo-jin's hand swiftly closes around his. And with a decisive smile, Woo-jin declares, "You're our 5th member." The unexpected declaration leaves both Bei and Minister utterly stunned, their faces frozen in disbelief as they process the implications of Woo-jin's words. "Phone scammer," Bei mutters, while Minister can only manage a bewildered, "What?" 2 days later, a new guild office, marked by a prominent Ardell Guild poster, was clearly taking shape. Inside, Kong Woo-jin and Sung-hoon worked diligently, moving heavy boxes and setting up the space. They continued their efforts, carefully positioning a large table. As the work progressed, a blonde-haired colleague surveyed the room, remarking, "Phew, now it looks somewhat decent." Woo-jin, pleased with the progress, addressed his diligent co-worker, "Great work, everyone. Sung-hoon SSI, you did great as well." The blonde-haired man, still processing the rapid changes, confessed, "I was sure this was some sort of scam just a day ago." As they watched a news report on a nearby screen, the blonde-haired man continued, incredulous, "To think that the crazy bastard who beat me until I almost died stole a phone from me." Meanwhile, in a different location, a figure with jet black hair and glowing blue eyes stared intently at a screen, a question forming in his mind. Is the guy who's famous everywhere these days Woo-jin? In the newly established office, a blonde-haired colleague remarks on the sheer amount of work they've had to do. He continues, explaining that their boss is the 11th A rank awakened in the country, even if it's not yet official, and one of the strongest in history. Sung-hoon listens intently as the colleague adds, "It's not strange that the world is responding to him in this manner." The blonde man then reveals that their boss scouted 2 individuals from the famous Hammer Guild, implying their growing influence. A soft hiss-sook escapes the blonde colleague as he thinks to himself, the employee benefits should be quite good. He recalls a past memory of a small, struggling shop, musing that business wasn't doing really well back then, and it might actually be better to work for a guild now. Sung-hoon, intrigued, asks the blonde colleague, but how are you related to boss? The blonde man hesitates, then offers a vague response, a friend of his? Or a relative? Suddenly, the scene shifts to a flashback, where a blonde assailant roughly grabs a younger Woo Jin by the collar, lifting him off the ground as he declares, I came here because I was scared that I'd get beaten up if I was late. A lingering thought echoes from the past, wondering why he was ever drawn into such a brutal incident, a memory still tinged with the assailant's regret over the beating. In the present, a new blonde colleague steps into the Ardell Guild's headquarters, impressed by the sleek, modern office space. Suddenly, the Ardell Guild master arrives, greeted with immediate deference by his subordinates. He approaches Kong Woo Jin, thanking him for his hard work and inquiring about the dungeon raiding energy write-up, to which Woo Jin offers a hesitant sort of reply. The guild master's expression shifts to surprise, a sudden gasp escaping him. The blonde colleague chimes in, reminding Woo Jin that even a successful 5-star dungeon raid requires a proper report. With a sigh, the blonde colleague suggests that Woo Jin might need more life experience to handle such tasks. As the scene shifts to a meeting room, the Ardell Guild master calls everyone to take their seats. The Ardell Guild master, having called a meeting, sits at the head of the table, his gaze sweeping over the assembled members, a silent question hanging in the air as they consider the task at hand. He addresses a man across the table, Team Leader Young. The man, dressed in a sharp suit, responds promptly, Yes, boss. The guild master leans forward, his expression serious as he poses a direct question. What position should I give you? Young's eyes widen slightly in surprise, a soft, questioning, escaping his lips. The guild master clarifies, explaining that despite their small numbers, he intends to assign roles based on comfort and preference. He then addresses everyone, inviting them to state their desires. Young's eyes narrow, a single word echoing his disbelief. Position? Kong Woo Jin and his blonde colleague exchange a glance, the latter voicing their shared astonishment. We're going to be deciding positions on the spot. The guild master, observing the stunned silence, prompts them again, wondering why no one is speaking up, as team leader Young remains deep in thought. Young then turns to the guild master, seeking clarification on the typical structure, asking about the usual positions available in a guild, and explains that there are generally 2 categories, one for the awakened and one for normal employees. The guild master continued, explaining that while the awakened would typically hold executive positions like director and vice president, the specific titles weren't actually that important. Looking at Sunggu, the guild master then asked, I see. Sunggu, what do you want? Sunggu, caught off guard, could only manage a quiet apology. He began to explain his experience, mentioning that he'd been working as a manager for a year now. The guild master waved a dismissive hand, declaring, whatever. Sunggu, you'll be the director then. The sudden promotion left Sunggu stunned, questioning, director? His mind racing, he blurted out, I'm 21 years old. The thought echoed in his head, but I'm already a director? The guild master clarified, yeah, the loot collection director. Sunggu's eyes widened in disbelief. He mused internally about the absurdity of the title, thinking, to think that there's a director for such a role. It'd be better to just call him a manager instead. What about the reception director? What would someone do there, huh? He listens intently as the Ardell Guild master continues to outline the various departments, from accounting and administration to sales, marketing, and management, before posing a question to the 3 individuals present. With a confident nod, team leader Young affirms his readiness, acknowledging the guild master's words. The guild master then declares that he will be the general manager, a position he eagerly accepts, promising to do his best. Turning his attention to Woo Jin, the guild master asks what he desires, and the young man, without hesitation, requests the support department head position, which is immediately granted. With a playful smirk, the guild master expresses his confidence in Woo Jin, offering his full support. Meanwhile, the other guild members present are utterly baffled, whispering amongst themselves, wondering why Woo Jin is even there, while team leader Hong apologizes for the confusion. One colleague questions if Woo Jin is a founding member, recalling that he was mentioned as the 5th member. The guild master, however, privately laments that he had merely wanted to borrow his name, confirming that Woo Jin is indeed the 5th member, much to the surprise of his audience. The other guild members, still reeling from the revelation, are left wondering what they should do next. A faint smirk plays on his lips, as Woo Jin considers the guild master's words, thinking to himself, well, since he's here, we'll just have to make the best of it for him. Meanwhile, back at the Ardell Guild headquarters, the guild master points to a calendar, his subordinates listening intently, as one of them begins to question his plans. How shall we go about recruiting new employees? He asks, then adds, why do we need new employees? Sung-hoon, looking utterly bewildered, can only manage a stunned, pardon. The guild master, undeterred, continues to explain his reasoning. As the guild grows, there will be more awakened, so we'll need more employees. He then places a document on the desk, prompting Sung-hoon to reach for it, asking, this is? Kong Woo Jin reflects on his dungeon raid, a means to secure his military enlistment exemption. Meanwhile, the Ardell Guild Master questions the necessity of hiring more employees, wondering if it's truly for the guild's benefit. Sung-hoon, however, internally grumbles, convinced the guild master's true motive is merely to avoid military enlistment, suggesting he should have joined the Hammer Guild instead. Woojin's thoughts drift to a different perspective, believing that working hard and living a good life is the true goal, before noticing a lack of response from someone. The guild master sighs, reiterating his belief that they genuinely need more employees, then asks Sung-hoon if he's alright, noticing him whispering to himself. He then declares that the support department's workload will be entirely managed by the general manager, a statement met with silence from his colleagues. Sung-hoon, looking defeated, simply responds with a quiet, yes. High above the bustling city, the towering buildings stand as silent witnesses to the unfolding events. A newspaper headline announces the surprising emergence of Kang Woo-jin, Korea's 11th A-rank awakened, questioning his origins. As the news of his A-rank awakening spread, a voice mused, Woo-jin is quite famous. The headlines blared, confirming Kang Woo-jin as Korea's 11th A-rank awakened, his real name finally revealed. The articles detailed his past as the man with no regrets and the disaster of Chao's, even featuring an interview with his former teacher. Elsewhere, a young woman stared at her phone, a surprised expression on her face as she read the same news, muttering, "So this is the type of person I drank alcohol with." Still in bed, she continued to scroll through the articles, while a man beside her, also engrossed in his phone, wore a slight smirk. Then glanced at her and casually remarked, "That's nothing. You're still as pretty as usual." The woman's hand reached for her phone, and she suddenly sat upright, a jolt of realization hitting her. A soft smile spread across her face as she thought, "What am I thinking about, haha?" Her eyes, however, held a deeper, more contemplative gaze. A sudden movement makes the woman with reddish-brown hair jump, as her roommate appears, asking if she's finally there. The roommate, looking exasperated, retorts that she was startled by her. She continues to complain, questioning why the other woman doesn't use the broom room, and sarcastically suggesting she go on her own, while she herself will wear a cap. The reddish-brown-haired woman offers a quiet apology, as her roommate announces they're heading out for a while. Later, sitting alone, the woman with reddish-brown hair reflects on her need to save money and escape the dormitory, admitting that seeing her roommate always fills her with dread. Her roommate's voice cuts through her thoughts, urging her to speak softly, then reassuring her that she won't hear them and nothing bad was said. The reddish-brown-haired woman concludes internally that she really shouldn't have any form of expectation. The familiar squeal of a bus's brakes echoes through the street. As a young man stands by the stop, his attention fixed on his phone. He muses, "She'll probably be waiting for me in front of the academy, right?" Kang Woo-jin considers the timing perfect. His exam is finished, and his younger sister has already returned home. A message on his phone confirms her plans. "I'm going to eat dinner together with my friend and have quality time with her." Later, outside an apartment complex. He waits, noting that she's a little late, just as a figure slips inside the building. Suddenly, two other students approach him, one asking, "Did you know? They say Eunhyun's been with a lot of guys before she started to burn injury." He thought she would be the quiet type, but that wasn't true, was it? He'd just overheard students gossiping about his sister, Eunhyun, and her past. Well, people can't be judged on their appearance, he mused, wondering if he was just imagining things, or if she truly looked different now. Suddenly, the familiar urban landscape vanished, replaced by a desolate, ruin-strewn desert under a harsh, alien sky. Where Woo-jin now stood, clad in unfamiliar gear, a wave of frustration washing over him. Addressing a group of robed figures, one of them reported, "Hyungnim, I gathered all of them." Woo-jin examined the collected items, noting that they were all normal, useless artifacts no longer dropping, as the rate of rare items decreased with more people present. He sighed, they're all normal items. Despite the poor haul, he remained determined. "Well, we did good. I'm hoping we can get out of this dungeon already, though." As he accessed his inventory and the store interface, the glowing system windows confirmed his current reality. Emerging from the ethereal glow of a cleared dungeon, the world around him shifts, the mystical energy fading into the mundane. He finds himself back amidst the towering structures of the city, the familiar urban landscape a stark contrast to the dangers he just faced. His presence immediately draws attention, as a young man in a green jacket gasps, recognizing Kang Woo-jin. The man in the green jacket can barely believe it, exclaiming, "A raid? It hadn't even been 4 hours." Woo-jin is quickly surrounded by a group of men in suits, one of them demanding to know why he's there. Meanwhile, team leader Hong, also in a suit, explains that Director Young Min-chan had gone back to the office specifically to interview him. Woo-jin, still with the green-jacketed man, hears that the guild has been appeased, and the director will return to the office later. A blonde man is abruptly grabbed by a suit-clad individual, his expression one of surprise. Finally, Woo-jin faces an interviewer holding a microphone, who directly asks about his secret to clearing raids at an impossible speed. He listens intently to the voice on the other end of the line, a slight frown creasing his brow as he hears of the continued refusal to accept interviews at Seoul Station's guild. Stepping out, he finds himself immediately swarmed by a clamoring crowd, their voices rising in a chorus of recognition, all calling out his name. Suddenly, a protective barrier forms as his allies push through the throng, one of them sternly demanding the crowd to back away. Team leader Hong steps forward, his expression firm, explaining that Wu Jin is exhausted from dealing with their antics, a sentiment echoed by the Ardell Guild. He instructs them to send all interview requests through public relations. Among the agitated crowd, a blonde-haired man from the Ardell Guild glares, his eyes burning with resentment as he declares he recognizes every single one of their faces. His expression hardens, proclaiming himself a man who holds grudges. Nearby, the Ardell Guild master is visibly distressed, a hand restraining him as he lets out a frustrated sound, unable to fully engage in the escalating tension. Team leader Hong turns to Wu Jin, respectfully asking him to wait a moment, promising to bring the car around, to which Wu Jin calmly agrees. As Wu Jin prepares to depart, the blonde Ardell member, still being restrained by one of Wu Jin's allies, seethes, muttering about how Wu Jin had frozen up when he'd beaten him before, questioning if he was always so aggressive. He stands with Sung-hoon, who asks how he came to know him, prompting a slight hesitation. A moment later, a look of surprise crosses his face, as if something unexpected has just occurred. Meanwhile, the blonde Ardell colleague clenches his jaw, a frustrated damn at escaping his lips. Back with Wu Jin, a new realization dawns on him, welcoming a fifth member and wondering why he was wired money. Later, in a meeting with team leader Hong and the Ardell Guild master, the blonde colleague questions Wu Jin's presence, only for Wu Jin to realize the man simply wanted to know his name. As he runs through the city, a voice echoes in his mind, apologizing for not being able to do everything and stating that as a fellow hunter, help cannot be offered no matter what. The conviction rings clear, no matter what. And 3 days later, a sign for the Ardell Guild stands prominently. Wu Jin sits, casually holding a jar of colorful candies, a quiet moment after the recent events. He scrolls through his phone, a small, glowing object resting in his palm, as he processes the information. The General Affairs Bureau has confirmed his status as a Rank A hunter, and the process of his official registration is already underway. Not only that, but his own Ardell Guild has been approved, and the Bureau is investigating the unprecedented speed of his dungeon raids, particularly his first one at Seoul Station's 6th exit. As he continues to absorb the news, a voice from nearby comments on someone's strength, asking if he knows them. Looking up from his phone, Wu Jin finds Sung-hoon sitting opposite him, who asks what he's eating, pointing to the small object in his hand. A narration box explains that it's a rare strengthening stone, capable of raising stats, and Wu Jin's eyes widen in surprise as he realizes what he holds. He stares at the stone, a flicker of disbelief crossing his face, wondering how he could possibly consume such a thing. Sung-hoon, meanwhile, expresses his gratitude, to which Wu Jin simply replies that it's nothing. The narration emphasizes the need to become stronger to utilize items faster, as Sung-hoon declares that meeting Wu Jin is the best blessing of his life. His stamina would need to be exceptional to handle the increased workload. Meanwhile, team leader Hong peers into the office, wondering if the other Wu Jin is present, only to find the protagonist already there. Sung-hoon, surprised, questions Jaemin's unexpected appearance. Jaemin then reveals to the Ardell Guild master that he's discovered something he believes the older man might find useful. The guild master, now seated, asks for a few minutes of his time. As they settle in, a system message confirms the acquisition of a rare strengthening stone, an item capable of permanently boosting a hunter's stats, prompting the question of whether to use it. Later, Jaemin notices team leader Hong's absence, wondering if he'd already departed. The guild master confirms his departure, and Jaemin, sensing something amiss, asks if anything unusual occurred. He explains that it's a long story, but he's going to meet Jaewon and will be late for his academy. Sung-hoon, taken aback, questions him, asking what? All right, Hyungnim, where are you going? Wu Jin reiterates his plan to meet Jaewon, telling him not to wait and to knock off early, then a quiet escapes him as he processes his own words. The implications dawn on him, his eyes widening as he whispers, Jaewon no nim? A date. Meanwhile, the blonde colleague, observing the exchange, feels a surge of determination, thinking, this is my chance. He tends to a plant, a task he's in charge of, and calls out, boss. Wu Jin looks on, a question mark hanging over his head, as the blonde colleague continues. He explains that it was an opportunity to be hired as an employee, leaving Sung-hoon to question, what? Why are you asking that? With a confident smile, the blonde colleague declares, I'm a specialist in. Stepping into an exclusive area, the group finds themselves before a door marked personal shopping room. Inside, a dazzling array of high-end clothing awaits, eliciting a soft exclamation of whoa. From one of them, Kong Wu Jin looks around, a hint of disbelief in his eyes, wondering if this could truly be the kind of place he'd heard about. He continues to marvel at the surroundings, thinking aloud about the existence of such luxurious spaces within a department store, as Eun Hyun and Ardell's blonde colleague browse nearby. The plush carpet and elegant displays confirm the exclusive nature of the personal shopping room, a detail emphasized by the sign on the floor. Ardell's blonde colleague turns to Wu Jin, holding up an outfit, suggesting it would be perfect for him, to which Wu Jin simply replies, yes. Looks good, while team leader Hong observes from a distance. A close-up reveals Wu Jin's focused expression, his gaze sharp as he considers the suggestion. From behind, He surveys the racks of clothing, a slight exasperation in his tone as he wonders about all the fuss. 1 hour earlier, as the blonde colleague gestures expansively, he explains that there are many things one needs to do, before concluding that they should get moving. With a confident smirk, he continues, emphasizing that the basics of winning over a girl still involve dressing well. Offering his full support, he assures Wu Jin that all he needs to do is listen to his advice. Wu Jin, looking perplexed, questions where they are even going, while the guild master watches on. The blonde colleague reiterates his point, insisting that how one dresses is the crucial first step to winning over a girl. Wu Jin considers the implications, muttering about his own style with a hint of reluctance. Suddenly, a door slides open with a soft creak, revealing Wu Jin in a changing room, looking utterly surprised as the blonde colleague explains they are there to buy and wear clothes. Now dressed in a sleek black suit, Wu Jin stands before his companions, as the blonde man exclaims, "Oh, Hyungnim, you look really handsome," he praises, declaring that his boss has the kind of physique that suits any attire, while Eun Hyun, growing impatient, reminds them, "Hurry up, I'll be late for my academy." But Wu Jin, clearly uncomfortable with the attention and the glowing red in his eyes, simply tells them to stop making a fuss. Undeterred, the blonde colleague presents another item, asking his boss to wear this too. It's a watch, meant to complete the look, and Wu Jin, resigned, puts it on, muttering that he'll get going now. Yet, the blonde man isn't finished, excitedly urging his boss to bring this with him as well. Wu Jin, growing increasingly exasperated, demands to know what that is. The blonde colleague then reveals a guide, explaining he did some research on what Wu Jin can do to win over a girl, and all he needs to do is follow what's in the guide, a thought that makes Wu Jin internally label him as a punk trying to lead this situation wrong. Wu Jin, his patience completely worn thin, sarcastically wonders if he should just get some rest since he's going there anyway. With a final, weary sigh, he dismisses his colleagues, telling them to go home early for the weekend. The blonde colleague acknowledges the dismissal and heads out of the building. Later, back in the comfort of his own home, he finally settles down for some much-needed rest. But his peace is short-lived as his phone rings, and he answers, stating he has something important to attend to. He then explains his philosophy, that whenever he steps in to help people matchmake, they always become couples, much to Wu Jin's apparent confusion. With a determined glint in his eye, he declares his unwavering support for his boss in this endeavor. Wu Jin reacts with utter shock, as the idea of him asking someone out is brought up. The blonde colleague confirms his intentions with a knowing smile, assuring Wu Jin of his plan. Suddenly, he glances at his watch, realizing with a jolt that time is running out. With the work week drawing to a close, Wu Jin prepares to leave, stating, "I have a lot of things to prepare, so I need to get going now. Director Hong, I'll see you on Monday." Meanwhile, the blonde colleague spots another coworker making a swift exit, calling out, "Oh, Sunghun SSI, wait up." But his plea goes unanswered. As he realizes, he left in a flash. Later, on the street, the blonde colleague watches Wu Jin depart in a taxi, musing, "I don't think Hyungnim is going to listen, though." He recalls Wu Jin's earlier words, wondering, he was talking about some medicine or something. Eventually, the blonde colleague arrives at the Tone Electronics Company dormitories. Feeling the weight of the day, and sighs, "I managed to survive today somehow, huh?" He steps inside, finally home. Back in her dorm room, the blonde colleague stands by the window, lost in thought. Later, sitting on her bed, she checks her phone once more, a sigh escaping her lips as she finds no reply. Her previous messages to Wu Jin flash across the screen, a hopeful "Are you going to ask me out on a date?" hanging unanswered. Her eyes widen slightly, a new thought dawning on her. A blush creeps onto her cheeks as the possibility solidifies. Could he actually be asking her out? She quickly dismisses the idea, her self-doubt whispering that someone like him wouldn't be interested in her. Just then, her phone lights up with an incoming call, the name W. Wu Jin, flashing across the screen, catching her completely off guard. With a gasp, she answers, trying to compose herself as a narrator advises her to calm down. Stepping out onto the balcony, she looks down to see Wu Jin walking away from the building, a stark realization hitting her as her hopes for a date begin to fade. Her eyes widen slightly, a flicker of hope in their depths, as the name Wu Jin forms in her mind. Meanwhile, Wu Jin himself is seen on a bustling street, waving goodbye to someone. Her thoughts drift, wondering why he had asked to meet. Completely unaware that he is walking casually down the street, accompanied by another woman. He explains that he had something to discuss, but also wanted to go on a date with her, a revelation that clearly surprises the woman beside him. Back in her room, the blonde colleague's face flushes, her heart pounding with anticipation, while Wu Jin maintains a serious expression. The question echoes in her mind, does he really like me? A wave of uncertainty washes over her, leaving her to wonder what her next move should be. Meanwhile, Wu Jin walks casually down a bustling street with a woman, suggesting they catch a movie before dinner. She hesitates, then tentatively agrees, as he offers a quick apology for something unspoken. Her gaze softens, a hint of curiosity in her eyes. Later, seated across from him, she lets out a soft sigh of relief, a quiet sound of contentment. Elsewhere, Sunghoon, referring to himself as Hunam, calls out to his Hyungnim, his voice filled with concern. Back in the office, the blonde colleague and team leader Hong discuss the mysterious girl, wondering if she's on a blind date. Woo Jin's eyes hold a deep, unreadable expression, reflecting a complex inner world. The woman, looking down, asks him if he cares much about what others think of him. Overwhelmed, the woman covers her head with her hands, a wave of distress washing over her. Before she can react, a firm grip takes hold of her wrist, pulling her away from her thoughts. Startled, she looks up to see Woo Jin leading her quickly through the bustling street, ignoring her protests and the curious glances of passersby. Confused, she asks where they are going, wondering what this unexpected destination could be. Soon, they are seated in a darkened movie theater, the screen's glow reflecting softly on their backs. He offers her a snack, suggesting she try it, and she finds it surprisingly good. Her eyes widen in disbelief, a sudden realization dawning on her face. Woo Jin simply smirks, a knowing, almost mischievous look on his face. Outside, the cinema marquee shines brightly, advertising the latest films to the city. As the unexpected date continued, a small crowd had gathered, one man remarking, "Oh, what's that? It looks really funny." Further away, two women observed the spectacle, one wondering, "What's with that?" while the other added, "Wow, that's crazy. But both of their body proportions are amazing. Who are they? I don't think I've seen them before." Inside what appeared to be a movie theater lobby, the woman continued to process the situation, thinking, or is there some kind of special event? It's not happening yet though. Then, recognizing her companion, she exclaimed, Woo Jin, are we really going to walk around like this?" Ignoring her protests, Woo Jin simply led the way, his casual stride contrasting sharply with her flustered steps. As they stopped before a movie poster, she tried to reason with him. "So what if we got the tickets? We could just go swap with me." But he simply replied, "No, that's not the problem." Looking up at him, her eyes widened slightly as he stated, "Let's go then." A faint sparkle appeared in her gaze as he added, "We're going to be late for our movie." Woo Jin's smirk deepened, the reflection of the Lion Man movie poster glinting in his eyes, a silent testament to his amusement. Her face flushed with a mix of surprise and embarrassment, the woman's expression a clear indication of her flustered state. Kneeling before his date, Woo Jin listens as she explains that everything he finds impressive about their surroundings is only possible because it isn't reality, but virtual reality. She insists it's not just her, but the same for him too, which prompts him to question, if it isn't reality for her, then how good can it truly be? His date looks at him, a hint of confusion in her eyes, wondering aloud, what's happening? While Woo Jin, munching on popcorn, seems lost in his own thoughts, focused only on his hunger. 30 minutes later, with all tickets sold out and the date ending awkwardly, a new figure emerges, their face obscured by a fierce lion mask, standing in a dimly lit room. The masked figure, holding 2 tickets, states that they don't have much of a movie. Before offering his tickets to the woman, claiming something urgent came up. Surprised, she questions his sudden offer. As he insists he has to leave urgently, wishing her a good time, the woman ponders his words. Watching him depart, a sense of familiarity stirring within her as she wonders who he could be. Later, at the ticket counter, the woman stands beside Woo Jin, demanding a refund for all but 2 of the tickets. At the movie theater ticket counter, Woo Jin and the woman discuss the tickets. She questions if he aired, insisting there was a group, while he laments that it's only been a week since he bought them. The vendor, overhearing their exchange, wonders what is wrong with this particular customer. Later, having enjoyed their time, Woo Jin and the woman emerge from the theater, both looking pleased. As they walk through the bustling lobby, Woo Jin remarks on how long he's waited for this, while the woman urges him to come along, though he seems lost in thought. In a different moment, perhaps earlier that day, the masked figure stands with the woman at a game booth, where a vendor playfully calls them the Beauty and the Beast couple. The masked figure, seemingly confused by the comment, is then invited by the vendor to spin the roulette wheel before leaving, assuring him it's free. The colorful roulette wheel beckons, promising a totally free spin. At a vibrant game booth, a cheerful host announces, "Such an opportunity won't come by again. There's a 90% chance of winning." The masked figure, standing beside the woman, admits with a slight shrug, I'm really bad at stuff like this though." The roulette wheel spins, its arrow hovering over a present to section, then continues its rapid rotation. The arrow a blur of motion. Finally, it slows, landing squarely on the bust section, much to the green mascot's dismay. "WH, what a pity. It landed on the dud." The host then suggests, "Haha, how about the beast guy gives it a try?" The clown, gesturing towards the masked figure and the woman, adds persuasively, "Wouldn't it be nice if you could give your girlfriend a present?" The masked figure remains silent, his expression unreadable. As his hand reaches out to spin the wheel again, the host adding, "Well, unless you're blessed or something." Dropping the token into the slot, he voices a hint of doubt, wondering if he'll get another dud. But as it falls, the game declares it a dud. The clown host seems surprised, while the masked figure simply hums thoughtfully. Suddenly, the roulette wheel spins, landing on present S, and the host exclaims that he's won a special present. The woman beside him gasps softly as the clown approaches them. With a flourish, the clown congratulates her, presenting a small, wrapped gift. She accepts it with a grateful smile, but then a thought crosses her mind about the masked man. His eyes, hidden behind the lion mask, begin to glow with an intense, almost furious yellow light, confirming her suspicion that he is indeed. The clown, sensing the shift in atmosphere, looks visibly unnerved. The clown host, still lingering, offers a playful wink, a sound effect punctuating his presence. Meanwhile, a glowing object seems to question, "What are you trying to do by following me all the way here, huh?" As the masked figure and the woman walk away, the clown, still trailing them, grumbles, "Ugh. Let's go," while the woman laments, "I shouldn't have told him." Later, the two find themselves browsing plush toys in a store, then continue their stroll through the city. Their day progresses with a meal together, sharing a quiet moment over food. As they walk through a park, a thought crosses the woman's mind. "I wonder how long it's been." Her expression turns pensive as she continues her internal monologue. "Since I haven't had to worry about the lives that others would give me?" With a determined look, she concludes, "No, if Wu Jin didn't do this together with me then." She gazes up at him, a soft smile gracing her lips, knowing that without him, she probably wouldn't have been able to smile like this at all. As they continue their walk through the evening streets, she reflects on the day, a quiet joy filling her heart, thinking to herself, she had a really great time today, and if this is a dream, she hopes she won't wake up from it. Later, sitting on a park bench, she considers her past, acknowledging that people probably thought she was a freak. Wu Jin, still wearing his lion mask, remains a silent, steadfast presence beside her, and a genuine smile spreads across her face. As she realizes that with him, she's getting more courage, being able to spend time with lots of people. She feels as though she's living a dream. A perfect moment she wishes could last forever. But a quiet voice reminds her that all dreams must eventually end, and people are bound to wake up. Yet, if she keeps on dreaming, she might just fall in love with him. The thought sends a blush across her cheeks, a sudden, undeniable truth. It's now time to take the next step, to go back to reality, and with a newfound courage, she reaches out to him. He smiles gently at her touch, a soft, understanding expression on his face. "I'll give you a present to make up for that courage," he tells her, leaving her wondering what he means. Standing beneath the soft glow of the streetlights, she waited, a quiet anticipation building within her. Her gaze fixed on Wu Jin, a faint blush coloring her cheeks. Then, a soft whistle cut through the night air, followed by a burst of vibrant fireworks exploding overhead. Wu Jin's promised present painted the sky in dazzling hues, leaving them both in awe. From a distance, a man watched the scene unfold, a knowing smile playing on his lips as he murmured, "Congratulations." But the moment was abruptly interrupted as another man stepped forward, holding out a single, perfect rose to her, leaving her utterly stunned. The observer's smile widened, realizing the depth of affection this new suitor held for her. She stands amidst the crowd, as a voice cuts through the air, clearly annoyed. "Ugh, I told you guys to clear the area and set an atmosphere. What are you guys doing?" Meanwhile, the murmuring of the onlookers fills the space, their feet shuffling nervously on the ground. The man in the lion mask sighs, his gaze falling upon another figure. Woo Sung-hoon, seriously. Without warning, the masked man reaches out, gently taking her hand, leaving her visibly stunned. His lion mask remains impassive, a silent observer to the unfolding drama. Suddenly, a blur of motion streaks across the scene, accompanied by a sharp, resounding crash. Panic erupts as the surrounding crowd screams, scattering in every direction. The masked man, seemingly unfazed, pulls off his disguise, remarking, "It feels really stuffy with the mask on." Her eyes widen in confusion, the sudden shift in events leaving her disoriented. "Huh? Where are we?" As the woman remains disoriented, the unmasked man's voice cuts through the confusion, instructing her to close her eyes. A subtle smirk plays on his lips, as he promises her a present. Her expression remains clouded with confusion, a soft, questioning sound escaping her lips. Suddenly, a memory surfaces, a voice from the past calling out, "Hyung." Wu Jin recalls the pain of losing his sister, a profound loss that still echoes within him. His parents were in shock during the initial chaos, and she gave up her schooling, all because of him. She had been gravely injured by a monster during a dungeon break. He stands over her, a deep wound inflicted upon her that can never truly be erased, knowing how difficult this must be. He pleads for help, for any way to ease her suffering, but the harsh reality is that as a man, he feels utterly powerless. His sister, overwhelmed by fear and the inability to ask for help from others, weeps silently. A chilling voice echoes, reminding him that he is about to make her suffer again, just like in that horrifying nightmare. He gently cups her face, a soft, ethereal glow emanating between them, as if trying to mend the broken pieces of her spirit. The trauma began with the dungeon shock, leaving her hunched and broken. The memory dissolves into a cascade of shimmering particles. Her wide, tear-filled eyes reflect the lingering pain of that day, a pain that perhaps only a rare, high-grade regenerative salve, impossible to obtain from low-level dungeons, could truly heal. The city hums with the quiet energy of a weekend, its towering buildings catching the last rays of the sun. While a message from Wu Jin pops up on a phone screen, a playful jab about a salon or a date, prompting a light-hearted chuckle. Wu Jin himself, lounging comfortably, sends a follow-up, wishing everyone a good weekend and an early departure home, his expression relaxed. Meanwhile, the woman who received his earlier message muses on how wonderful it would be if her wounds could heal fully after just one application, her gaze fixed on her phone. Her fingers gently tap the screen. Before she reaches into a small box, remarking on what she won from the roulette event, her hand carefully retrieving its contents. Her eyes widen in surprise as she sees the item, a gasp escaping her lips. Inside the box, nestled on a velvet cushion, lies a sparkling ring, its brilliance catching the light. She considers the ring, knowing a mere street vendor wouldn't offer such a gift, and then, a thought begins to form. Her mind drifts back to a memory, watching a movie in an empty cinema, before snapping back to the present with a sudden, overwhelming realization. It couldn't be. She remembers dining at an expensive restaurant, the memory sparkling with a faint glow, and seeing fireworks appear out of nowhere, with people even giving her roses. Holding the bouquet, the same shocking thought echoes in her mind. It couldn't be. Her eyes widen, and her mouth drops open in utter disbelief, a gasp escaping her lips. The realization dawns on her, a question forming in her mind. Was Wu Jin going to confess to her? 1. A quiet thought emerges. I should do things. Sung-hoon winces, a pained expression on his face as he considers the implications of being a busybody. The weight of the situation pressing down on him, he struggles to compose himself. Meanwhile, Wu Jin's gaze remains sharp and unwavering, his expression stern. Sung-hoon continues to reflect on his perceived overreach. As Wu Jin calls out his name, his tone firm. Startled, Sung-hoon snaps to attention, standing abruptly before his superior. Wu Jin makes his expectations clear, stating that Sung-hoon should only execute tasks he is explicitly asked to do, nothing more. His voice carrying an edge of authority, he demands to know why Sung-hoon acted without instruction. Sung-hoon bows deeply, his face contorted in apology, explaining that he was merely trying to demonstrate his loyalty and felt he was falling short. Wu Jin's expression softens only slightly as he reiterates his command, emphasizing that Sung-hoon should only do things moderately and understand the boundaries. Sung-hoon, looking composed, addresses his team, acknowledging the physical labor involved while also mentioning a government rebate card. Meanwhile, in a different setting, Wu Jin sits alone, contemplating a singular task and the necessity of action. Suddenly, the scene shifts to reveal Wu Jin collapsed on the floor, utterly still. Later, a creaking sound accompanies him as he sits on a couch, looking deeply troubled. Elsewhere, Sung-hoon answers a call, his expression shifting to one of surprise as he recognizes his boss's presence. His gaze drops to the floor, where Wu Jin lies unconscious, prompting a shocked inquiry about his state. Still on the phone, Sung-hoon reports that he has successfully resolved matters with the Ministry of Defense. Later, standing before a seated Wu Jin, Sung-hoon awaits further instruction, to which Wu Jin simply responds with a questioning, "But?" Wu Jin, still looking unwell, explains that the situation is unprecedented and difficult to articulate, then curtly commands silence before he can elaborate. He cuts off the caller mid-sentence, demanding to know the full details, before the voice on the other end confirms that he's been requested to mobilize immediately. His brow furrows, questioning the urgency and destination. The response is grim. A dungeon break has occurred. The city streets lie eerily deserted, a silent testament to the unfolding crisis. He walks alone through the desolate urban landscape, the silence amplifying the unsettling feeling of a ghost town. Later, as the details are laid out, he questions the term, learning that it signifies a dungeon that has been reset. His companion explains the dire consequences. If not cleared within 30 days, the barrier collapses, unleashing monsters into the streets. In the specific case of Jungsun, the hunters failed, prompting a desperate plea for awakened individuals to assist. As he considers the impending disaster, Wu Jin wonders what it would truly take to stop such a catastrophic event. Though the full mobilization of the army remains unlikely, the thought of what might happen if it did looms large. The consequences of inaction are dire, with images of a city engulfed in chaos and destruction flashing through his mind. Without intervention, a city like Daegu would be utterly annihilated. Walking through the deserted streets, he realizes this desolation is all because of that dungeon break. The evacuation of Jungsun had been completed 2 days prior, and the dungeon break itself was scheduled for tomorrow at 2 p.m. Approaching a military checkpoint, a man in uniform greets him, introducing himself as First Lieutenant Choi Hae-sol, in charge of the Special Defense Spec Brigade. Extending a hand in welcome, Choi Hae-sol's demeanor is firm and professional. Wu Jin returns the handshake, acknowledging that he has heard much about the lieutenant and expressing his honor to finally meet him. As he processes the gravity of the situation, Wu Jin considers the implications, thinking there's no need to be overly concerned. But the reality of the dungeon break, set for the very next day, looms large, prompting a question. Is there still time left, or was that just a repeated reassurance? The answer is grim. The return portal has already been used its maximum 3 times, rendering it unusable for further attempts. With the return portal having been used 3 times, it becomes clear that escaping a dungeon without a raid or a specific return item is an impossible feat. Choi Hae-sol, surprised by Wu Jin's apparent lack of knowledge, asks if he didn't know this, while Wu Jin vaguely recalls something similar. He then explains the grim history, The primary team from the Hwarang Guild was the first to attempt the dungeon raid, but they failed. Following that, a second attempt saw both the Hwarang and Hammer Guilds join forces, but they too failed. For the third and final attempt, awakened individuals from all over the world formed a union team, but even that formidable group failed, meaning the dungeon had already met its maximum raid attempts. He concludes that since it would require someone to risk their life to enter, no one is willing to do it. He listens as Haesol ponders the danger of a dungeon break at this level. Haesol then elaborates, reminding him that the dungeon's terrain itself significantly impacts its overall difficulty. Fortunately, he explains, the monsters confirmed within the Junction dungeon aren't particularly tough, making the terrain the primary challenge. This, Haesol confidently states, is why they will prevail, emphasizing the advantage of modern weapons and fighting on their home ground. He reiterates that simply deploying modern weaponry will be enough to handle the threat. Wu Jin offers a non-committal hum, prompting Haesol to question why he was summoned if the situation was so easily managed. Haesol then stumbles, admitting that despite their military might, an awakened individual still plays a vital role. He clarifies that if the monsters manage to breach their initial defenses, Wu Jin's assistance would be indispensable. Furthermore, with no intelligence on the dungeon's boss monster, Wu Jin's unique abilities would be critical for the confrontation. Haesol confirms that other awakened have also arrived, suggesting they head to the waiting room. With a confident smile, he leads the way, a fellow soldier walking beside him. Soon, they arrive at a modern building, its sign clearly marking it as the temporary awakened waiting room. Their footsteps echo softly as they enter. Inside, the waiting room is a bustling cafe, filled with various individuals, some already seated and conversing, others moving about. A hushed exclamation ripples through the room. As Wu Jin stands beside Haesol, someone recognizes him, wondering if he's also there for the operation. Another voice, filled with awe, identifies him as the 11th A rank. Wu Jin reacts with a slight surprise, his expression unreadable. Meeting again, Yeonhee remarks on their unexpected reunion. Wu Jin, with a slight smirk, suggests their connection might be a matter of fate. Yeonhee simply stares back, her expression unreadable. This encounter marks a new chapter for both Kong Wu Jin and Yeonhee, whose paths have now clearly intertwined. Elsewhere, Sung-hoon leans forward with a knowing smile, announcing a new mission. He sits at his desk, while Yeonhee stands before him, listening intently. Her expression remains serious, reflecting the gravity of the task. Sung-hoon clasps his hands, his gaze direct, challenging her capability. Yeonhee's hands clench slightly, a silent acknowledgement of the pressure. After receiving her new directive, Yeonhee's gaze sharpens, a fierce resolve hardening her features as she processes the weight of her next assignment. A voice calls out to Yeonhee, announcing a new mission awaits her. Wu Jin, looking contemplative, seems to be the one orchestrating these events. As he sits at his office desk, a subordinate standing attentively nearby. Yeonhee's expression shifts to one of fierce resolve, a silent promise that she will succeed. Elsewhere, Sung-hoon offers a calm, reassuring smile. Yeonhee's sharp gaze pierces through the air, her determination palpable. Later, during a quiet moment with a companion, Wu Jin apologizes for the intrusion, downplaying the news of a 5-star conqueror as a minor detail. He stands, a thoughtful expression on his face. Turning to face his companion, he remarks, "It's not difficult to get the extra, that you'll need principal team members, right?" His words draw a sharp, knowing glance from her. As she retorts, "It feels like just yesterday when I trampled over you. I guess you've gotten a ton stronger, huh?" The two stand opposite each other, a silent understanding passing between them. Observing someone in the distance, he comments, "That guy against Haesol, he's pretty good." She quickly adds, "Still, he's no match for the monster." A dark, potent aura begins to emanate from him, his eyes glowing with an inner power. As a chilling smirk spreads across his face, his resolve hardening. Her own eyes blaze with a fierce, crimson light, a powerful energy swirling around her, mirroring his intensity. A slight smirk plays on Yeonhee's lips, her expression hinting at a deeper, perhaps challenging, conversation. As a third person nervously interjects, pleading for calm, Wu Jin and Yeonhee stand amidst a tense discussion, the air thick with unspoken words about an upcoming event. Yeonhee, with a confident tilt of her head, advises him not to let things get to his head too much. He questions her words, his expression hardening as he warns that people will die because of one mistake made on the battlefield. As the red-haired woman protests, calling out his name, Wu Jin stands firm, challenging her authority to dictate his actions. With a dismissive humph, Yeonhee watches him walk away, the narration confirming that she is Lee Yeonhee, the vice-captain of the ranking guild support team. A quiet t-sage escapes him, his frustration evident even as he turns away. Later, both Wu Jin and Yeonhee are seen walking together, their paths seemingly intertwined despite their earlier disagreement. A woman listens intently, as a voice from off-panel asks if she can retrieve information about the interior of a specific location. Standing opposite Wu Jin, Choi Haesol reiterates his request for details about the dungeon's interior. He explains that a dungeon break is imminent, necessitating the information for preparation, prompting Wu Jin to wonder if the details are top secret. The woman, looking at a screen, clarifies that the information about the dungeon's interior is publicly available. She offers to retrieve it immediately, and with that, Wu Jin and Choi Haesol depart. Meanwhile, Yeonhee observes the situation with a thoughtful expression. A strange, glowing portal hums with energy in a desolate chamber. This is a 6-star dungeon, a warning sign flashing ominously beside its crackling energy. Wu Jin stands before the immense gate, sensing the colossal energy discharging from within, confirming it as one of the most powerful dungeons. As he moved towards the glowing entrance, a voice called out, "Oi, Kong Wu Jin." He paused on the escalator, looking back as the voice continued, "What are you doing here?" Without missing a beat, he retorted, "What else would I do in a dungeon?" A smirk played on his lips as he confirmed, "Of course, I'm here to clear it." Lee Yeonhee's expression remained serious, a hint of disbelief in her voice as she responded, "You've really lost it, huh?" He chuckled, his eyes narrowing slightly, "Huh? In fact, I'd be crazy to share." Yeonhee's concern deepened, knowing that all the experience points and achievements were his, or rather, theirs. She warned him, "It's a dungeon in which the best hunters have died many times." She continued, her voice urgent, "Are you looking to die helplessly? If you're thinking of using a return portal then." But he had already made his decision, stepping into the glowing portal with a final thought, 2F** King Talkative. Yeonhee could only watch in shock. As he steps through the shimmering portal, Yeonhee's voice cuts through the air, a desperate plea laced with disbelief. Her hand instinctively reaches out, a crackling energy echoing his dismissive words, "If you're scared, then just want these quickly." But he is already gone, fully enveloped by the swirling red energy of the dungeon portal. The last vestiges of the gateway crackle and fade, leaving Yeonhee to stare at the empty space, her frustration boiling over as she curses his name. Her eyes glow with a fierce, unresolved anger. Far from the dungeon's entrance, a golf ball is struck with a precise, powerful swing. President Lee, a man of considerable influence, stands before a large monitor, calmly addressing someone on the phone. His conversation quickly turns serious as he inquires about the disaster of Chao's technique, a name known to be associated with Wu Jin. Lee Yeonhee's gaze sharpens, her eyes reflecting a sudden, intense focus. Under the pale moonlight, a voice on the other end of the line promises, "I'll contact you again after I've confirmed what's going on." But the news is already too much for Yeonhee to process, as she stares at a glowing portal, exclaiming, "W8." Yeonhee entered the dungeon. Her hand clenches in frustration, a silent question echoing in her mind. "What on earth are you thinking about?" Later, a gloved hand reaches down to examine a bloodied patch of ground, the grim discovery confirming that it looks like a huge battle already took place here. Now deep within a dense forest, Yeonhee, clad in combat gear, spots shadowy figures in the distance, wondering, are those summoned monsters? A quick count reveals their overwhelming numbers. 10 no, there's around 20 of them. Despite the danger, a look of grim understanding settles on her face as she declares, "But I think I understand why now." Kong Wu Jin moves through the dense forest, his steps deliberate on the winding path. A thought crosses his mind, acknowledging his current strength, believing his level of ability is sufficient for what lies ahead. Suddenly, a massive ogre, level 60, looms into view, club in hand. Without hesitation, Wu Jin launches himself forward, burying a fist into the monster's tough hide. The ogre retaliates with a brutal counter, sending him staggering back with a grunt. Yet, he quickly recovers, driving another powerful blow into the creature. A faint smile touches his lips as he feels his experience points slowly accumulate, a satisfying sign of progress. The ogre, however, glares back, its yellow eyes burning with renewed ferocity. Despite his previous efforts, Wu Jin is caught off guard, taking a direct hit from a powerful body bash that sends him sprawling to the forest floor. He tumbles through the air, the impact momentarily disorienting him. But even as he falls, the ogre lets out a pained grunt, a sign that Wu Jin's previous attacks had found their mark. The monstrous creature, enraged, lets out a guttural roar, its determination unwavering. Before it can fully recover, Wu Jin closes the distance, slamming down onto the ogre's chest, pinning the massive beast to the ground. The ogre's massive hand clenches into a fist, struggling to break free from the unexpected hold. Its yellow eyes widen in surprise, realizing the tables have turned. With the ogre momentarily subdued, Wu Jin summons a glowing blue hammer, preparing for a decisive strike. The enchanted weapon descends, erupting in a powerful column of blue energy upon impact. As the dust settled from his decisive strike, Kong Wu Jin found himself enveloped in a brilliant blue light, a clear sign of his growing power. A system message materialized before him, announcing his ascension to level 40 and the unlocking of new, special benefits. A satisfied smirk touched his lips as he acknowledged his new milestone. His moment of triumph was interrupted by a cheerful voice, as a young blonde woman with pigtails bounded towards him, praising his performance. She then threw her arms around the ogre, who seemed to tolerate the affection, while Wu Jin mused aloud about where she picked up such dramatic expressions. He concluded with a sigh that she must be watching too much television. Regaining his composure, Wu Jin urged the group to stop fooling around and continue their journey. Suddenly, his eyes widened in surprise, a soft huh escaping his lips. The trio then proceeded deeper into the forest, their path leading them past a barely visible, distant figure. He stares up at the ancient, weathered stone, a realization dawning on him. This place, he thinks, is something he has heard of before, the legendary sacred site of Alphen. Ancient carvings adorn the walls, depicting forgotten rituals and powerful beings. And in the distance, a colossal stone tower pierces the sky, a lone figure standing at its base. The group presses on, making their way towards the imposing structure, a place also known by another name. As they navigate the dense forest, the Temple of the Giants, they emerge into a clearing, dotted with more ancient stone formations. And from above, a distant, cloaked figure can be seen moving through the forest, unaware of the approaching adventurers. Along a winding forest path, a group of adventurers discusses their recent failure, wondering if the treacherous gorge was the reason they couldn't complete the dungeon raid. The ground beneath their feet is dry and cracked, a testament to the harsh environment. Meanwhile, Kong Woojin sits alone, a glowing blue book in his hands, as a system message appears before him, announcing the unlocking of special benefits. A soft chime accompanies the revelation that he has unlocked Necromancer class skills. The book details one such skill. Summon a spear made from the souls that are subordinate to you to attack opponents. The phantom spear will home in on your target until it hits them. Mana consumed, 1 foot. Woojin looks down, a small, green goblin infant before him, its tiny voice pleading for him to call its name. He has finally become a necromancer, but the skills he inherited seem to carry over from his previous goblin form, as glowing skeletal figures now surround him. Another system message appears, indicating an increase in his phantom armory skill level to 10. As his power continued to grow, he issued a silent command, calling forth the wandering spirits to his side. A soft, ethereal rustling filled the air, as unseen forces began to gather. Blue energy pulsed from his arm, a testament to his growing control, as he stood over a defeated ogre, his skeletal subordinates already in place. The surge of power was accompanied by a system alert, confirming that his number of subordinates had reached its maximum capacity. Satisfied with his progress, he mused aloud, wondering what new abilities would manifest next. Another system notification flashed, revealing he had unlocked a warrior class skill, Shapeshift, Greatsword. With a sharp, metallic sound, a massive greatsword materialized into his grasp. The system continued, adding another skill to his arsenal, Sword Split. Standing tall with his newly manifested greatsword, Woojin surveyed the scene, a defeated ogre at his feet, while the unnamed woman watched him with a look of stunned surprise. A demon-like woman, with sharp red eyes and small horns, gasps in surprise. Meanwhile, Kong Woojin's eyes glow with an intense yellow light, his expression resolute as purple energy crackles around him. He calls out, "Come on out, Xing Xing." As he channels his power, a brilliant pillar of purple light erupts behind him, illuminating the space. A system message confirms the event. The seal on a sealed demon stone has been released. From the swirling purple energy, a powerful, horse-like form begins to coalesce, its ethereal mane and tail glowing brightly. The magical aura intensifies, pulsating with vibrant purple light. A powerful neigh echoes through the air, announcing its arrival. Finally, the summoned creature, Xing Xing, fully manifests, a majestic steed with a flowing purple mane and eyes that burn with arcane energy. As the summoning completes, a system message appears, revealing the details of the new companion, a level 1 phantom horse, designated Household Xing Xing. This hot-blooded lumen horse is described as relentless, possessing the skill Phantom Charge, requiring 50 mana and 1 domination point. The newly manifested Xing Xing, now affectionately known as Rock, leaps with unbridled excitement, prompting Woojin to ask if it missed him. With a sense of urgency, Woojin decides they should resume hunting later and quickly depart, acknowledging their limited time. Mounting his new companion, Woojin commands Xing Xing forward, who, despite a small grumble, gallops through the air with purple energy trailing behind it. Utilizing its Phantom Charge skill, the pair swiftly traverses the vast forest below. Their journey continues at an incredible pace, covering immense distances in mere moments. Suddenly, a guttural roar echoes through the air as a monstrous ogre appears, its yellow eyes burning with aggression. The massive creature wastes no time, charging directly towards Woojin and Xing Xing with heavy, thudding steps, ready for battle. A figure cloaked in purple stands amidst the dense forest, her back to the viewer. As a powerful ability activates, the word skill flashes across the air. Vice Captain Li Yonhee, moving with incredible speed, delivers a crushing blow to the monstrous ogre, the force of her attack echoing with a rush. The massive creature collapses instantly, leaving her standing victorious over its defeated form. A heavy kung echoes as the ogre hits the ground, and she calmly surveys her handiwork. Looking around the forest, she murmurs, "It should be around here." Her search continues as she moves through the tall grass, her steps light and purposeful. A slight frown creases her brow as she ponders, Unable to find what she seeks on the ground, she leaps high into the sky, gaining a broader perspective of the landscape below. He had a flying summon, and it was clear he possessed many tricks up his sleeve. The vast gorge stretched before them, spanned by makeshift ropes. There it was, the obstacle that had halted their progress. The reason they hadn't been able to clear the dungeon until now wasn't simply because they couldn't cross the gorge. They could have easily used people with flying summons to traverse it. But with only 2 monsters guarding the return stone, they had given up the raid after seeing the minimal resistance, deciding it was more profitable to let a dungeon break occur rather than clear it. This would allow them to destroy the area and redevelop the entire region. And while the president personally disliked such political maneuvering, the ultimate decision rested with others. He dismisses the implications, claiming it has nothing to do with him, yet a deeper thought lingers. Meanwhile, deep within the dungeon, a hand grips a taut rope, pulling against the resistance, as the possibility of someone clearing the dungeon looms. This is a feat the Warang Guild couldn't accomplish, but one the president himself claims to have achieved. A determined expression settles on Yonhee's face. The Warang Guild's status hangs in the balance. Elsewhere, Wu Jin scales a sheer rock face with practiced ease. With only an hour remaining until the dungeon break, a press conference is announced by the Warang Guild. At the Warang Guild's press conference, he addresses the assembled crowd, confidently asserting the guild's goals while mentioning Vice Captain Li Yonhee. However, a man with reddish-brown hair and glasses interjects, dismissing the possibility of success as close to zero. The president continues, undeterred, announcing only an hour remains until the dungeon break, and pointedly reminds the man that his sister is his sister. The man's expression hardens as he retorts, questioning how the president could possibly ask about his feelings. His voice rising with indignation, he challenges the president's audacity. A deep pain echoes in his words as he reveals, one of his family members is on the verge of death. His face contorts with anguish, a choked sound escaping him. As the president attempts to continue, the man shouts for him to wait, his voice cutting through the conference hall. With his point made, the man turns and walks away, leaving the president to ponder his words. A man with striking red hair and glasses observes the scene, his thoughts betraying a deep concern that the barrier has yet to respond, even as he voices a public sigh of relief. With a decisive tone, he directs those around him to proceed to the commanding headquarters. Meanwhile, the president stands composed, his expression unreadable. The red-haired man, however, harbors doubts, questioning the president's apparent relief and labeling him as disturbingly cold-hearted, especially for the leader of his own company. As the president walks away, the red-haired man's internal monologue continues, reflecting on the man's coldness, extending even to his own sister. He ponders if the president views everything, even the guild's interests, as mere cards in his hand. Later, amidst a bustling street, the red-haired man walks with a group as one person asks about the person in charge, only to be told that Kong Wu-jin is the boss of their company. Approaching the president, the red-haired man inquires about the commotion, learning that the gathering consists of employees from the Warang Guild. Outside the building, a crowd of people has gathered, their faces a mix of anticipation and concern. A crowd of people gathers on a street, their attention fixed on something unseen in the distance. Meanwhile, Kong Wu-jin dismisses his summoned beast, Xing Xing, with a quiet word of praise, allowing the ethereal form to dissipate into purple particles. He then finds himself on a grassy hill, observing colossal stone statues in the distance alongside a young demon girl, who wonders aloud, "Is this the Temple of the Giants? Wow, to believe it actually exists. This is a legendary matter." The statues loom ominously, making his companion shiver slightly as she remarks, "It's pretty creepy. Will these be transforming into golems, or something?" Wu Jin's gaze sharpens, a determined glint in his eye as he considers the possibilities, knowing there's only one way to truly find out. He turns to his companion, holding out a small, glowing object and instructing her, "Try eating that." With a swift motion, the glowing yellow item arcs through the air, striking the ancient stone face of one of the statues. Immediately, deep cracks spiderweb across the statue's surface, a low, grinding sound echoing through the air. The fissures deepen and spread, threatening to shatter the colossal figure entirely. A deep, resonant thud echoes across the ancient field, as the demon girl watches in disbelief, realizing the colossal stone figure before them has stirred. Soon, the pair finds themselves fleeing as more of the massive stone golems awaken, their heavy footsteps shaking the ground. A system notification flashes, identifying the monstrous figures as giant golems, each a formidable level 65 threat. The demon girl glances up at Wu Jin, who remains focused on the unfolding situation, as a wide view reveals the sheer number of these silent, stony guardians now scattered across the landscape. His expression hardens, as he considers the possibility that this entire area is a trap, designed to activate its defenses the moment someone steps inside. He grimly notes that golems, lacking corpses or souls, render his necromancer skills entirely useless against them. He stands in the verdant field, his sword at the ready, declaring it's time to increase his warrior class skill level. Observing him with a thoughtful gaze, the demon girl wonders how he, a necromancer, now appears to have awakened as a warrior. Her attention shifts to the ominous stone figures in the clearing, their forms now clearly active golems. A look of concern crosses her face as she realizes all those stone statues are indeed golems, and anyone approaching the altar without caution would be in grave danger. Suddenly, the golems surge forward, their stone fists striking with explosive force. She watches the onslaught, her thoughts confirming that they would be utterly annihilated if caught in such a trap. Now surrounded by the towering stone figures, she feels the full weight of their threat. As one of the golems prepares to strike, its leg glowing with power, she acknowledges that his instincts are far better than she had initially thought. A sharp gasp escapes Wu Jin, his breath catching in his throat, as he stares down the activated stone giants, realizing the truth. He's the starting point of the trap. They just had to be activated by me. Isn't that right, golem? The clearing around them now teems with the colossal figures, their stone forms lumbering to life, surrounding him and his companion. His companion's eyes widen in terror, the demon girl gasping. Those things have been creeping us out from the start. 3 of the massive constructs stand directly before them, their silent, stony gazes fixed on the intruders. One of the golems stares with a single, malevolent red eye, a chilling glow emanating from its ancient form. A bead of sweat trickles down Kong Wujin's temple, his expression tight with unease. He grips his hammer, a grim realization dawning on him, that he might finally be seeing the true end of this ordeal, as they just. However, the desolate landscape, dotted with ancient, silent stone statues, had been unsettling him from the very start, those things creeping him out with their eerie presence. Then, from the shadows, emerged 3 figures, cloaked in dark robes, their forms stark against the grassy terrain. One of them turned, revealing a single, malevolent red eye glowing from beneath their hood, a clear sign of their otherworldly nature. Without warning, the 3 robed figures surged forward, their bodies wreathed in crackling energy, launching a coordinated assault. But Kong Wujin was ready, his hammer slamming down with a deafening crash, meeting their aggression head-on. After the intense confrontation, he finds himself back in a familiar setting, concluding his workday. With a final word of thanks, he dismisses his colleagues, wishing them a good weekend. Meanwhile, in a different location, a blonde-haired figure in a brown cloak speaks with urgency, reminding someone about a recent golem incident and emphasizing the danger ahead. The focus shifts to a pulsating magic stone, glowing with an ominous blue light, its intense reaction raising the alarming question of whether a dungeon break is about to occur. Back with Wu Jin, a sense of urgency settles over him as he realizes they have no time to waste, needing to hurry before the Cyclops emerge. The threat of the Cyclops is further elaborated upon, revealing a massive, green-skinned ogre, identified as one of the ancient giant race's descendants. Unlike their more savage counterparts, these particular ogres are noted for being less brutal and wild. Ancient carvings on a stone tablet further explain that the Cyclops race has inherited the wisdom of the giant race. The ominous stone statues, reminiscent of those Wu Jin encountered earlier, stand as silent sentinels, hinting at the ancient power at play. He considers the immense power of his adversaries, acknowledging their strength and their worthiness as the final guardians of the temple. When a deep voice echoes, expressing surprise at their unexpected encounter. The single, piercing red eye of the Cyclopes-like ogre fixes its gaze, while Wu Jin processes the implications of such formidable foes. He recalls the legends of the giant god of destruction, a massive golem that charges with unstoppable force, and the insidious witch of hallucination, a small demon girl capable of weaving potent illusions. A slight smirk plays on his lips as he admits his own oversight. The ogre's voice resonating again, questioning how it could have been unaware of his presence. Its expression remains unreadable, yet filled with an ancient, knowing power. You're the king of the dead, and one of the hulking ogres bellows at its companion. But before the conversation can continue, a hand grips a staff, crackling with yellow lightning. He looks up, a question on his lips. Gigantica. The ogre, caught off guard, lets out a pained cry as a powerful blow connects. Wu Jin's staff slams into the creature, sending it flying. It screams, propelled through the air, crashing down with immense force, leaving a crater in the ground. As the dust settles, 3 ogres now stand before him, one of them looking stunned. He addresses them. Were you guys sent by Tranet as well? Suddenly, a jolt runs through the ogre's leg. As it boasts, Tranet is the new order of the world. You can't stop us, right? Then, with a sneer, it adds, all right, thanks. Wu Jin's gaze hardens, retorting, the moment you ran away on Alpha, you'd already lost the battle. The ogre's expression shifts to one of stunned surprise. As the young man warns, don't overstep your boundaries. With a sudden burst of glowing energy, Wu Jin strikes, demanding, stop talking and die already. The ogre's eye widens in sheer terror and agony, as the force of the blow sends it hurtling backward, crashing hard onto the ground. A blinding flash erupts, followed by a powerful hand pressing down with immense force. Meanwhile, an ogre kneels in solemn prayer, seeking eternal peace, only to be startled by an unseen event, reacting with a confused, A young girl, however, interrupts the moment, stating, I'm sorry, but I wish you just stay still for a moment. As a firm foot steps down with a solid thud. The action culminates with Wu Jin standing triumphantly atop the massive head of a giant golem. It is said that temples holding divine relics can bestow powerful buffs upon their believers. And in this case, it appears to be a recovery buff, as an ogre's chest begins to glow with blue energy. He considers the implications, realizing that if his assessment is correct, then the divine relic must be within reach. Suddenly, a monstrous voice bellows, demanding he remove his dirty feet from the statue. Unfazed, he retorts, asking if he caught his opponent off guard, and why the sudden panic. A confident smile plays on Wujin's lips, his eyes gleaming with amusement. The ogre's single eye widens in a mixture of fury and disbelief, its mouth agape in a silent scream. Wujin's smirk deepens as he offers a simple explanation: skill. With a swift, decisive motion, he unleashes Earth Strike, a powerful blow that sends shockwaves through the stone construct. The massive golem groans under the assault, its ancient form cracking and crumbling into dust. Enraged by the destruction of its charge, the ogre lets out another furious roar, swinging its massive club in a desperate, wild attack. As the enraged ogre brought its massive club down, he moved with practiced ease, a confident smirk playing on his lips as he activated a skill. A burst of blue energy erupted, deflecting the ogre's arm and sending its club off course. Before Kong Wujin closed the distance, his sword already arcing for a swift counterattack. The blade connected with the ogre's head, a sickening crunch echoing through the air. Still, the young man maintained his confident smirk, unfazed by the confrontation. The main ogre, now flanked by two smaller counterparts, roared in fury, denying any retreat. Wujin's eyes glowed with determination as he challenged all three ogres, daring them to try and defeat him. His unwavering confidence was palpable, a silent promise of the battle to come. After the intense battle, a dark, amorphous mass lies defeated on the ground, as Wujin reflects on the profound changes within him, sensing his strength, mana, and even his very identity shifting. Standing over the remains of the giant, which yielded 2 toes of giant and boosted his strength and defense, Wujin is approached by Yeonhee, who asks with concern if he sustained any injuries. Still contemplating the profound shifts within him, he feels as though he is losing his very identity, his strength and mana transforming in ways he barely recognizes. Yet, with a dismissive thought, he concludes that such concerns ultimately don't matter. Yeonhee then suggests they return, her own thoughts drifting to the prospect of watching more dramas. As they begin to walk away from the battleground, Yeonhee glances back, noticing the ogre's body has vanished, and reiterates her concern for Wujin's well-being. Continuing their journey, she muses aloud that it's as if a ghost made the body disappear. Suddenly, a glowing blue crystal appears, as Wujin asks if this is perhaps what she's looking for. As the mysterious blue crystal glows brightly, Yeonhee's gaze sharpens, a subtle, knowing smile playing on her lips. Her expression remains enigmatic, a soft, almost predatory sound escaping her as she observes the artifact.